Good evening and welcome to Event 1 for the Splatoon 3 North American League. It's preseason week number 1. We're excited. Jordan Kent here, your spray-by-spray host. Joining me, my esteemed panel, some of the finest analysts in all of Inkopolis. We've got Zach, we've got Nine, and the best for last, Big Money Milana joining us as well, too. And we're just thrilled. And let's start with you here, Nine. The fact that we're finally underway with league play here, it's the preseason, a chance to see some teams, your excitement level for this.
It's so high. Finally underway is exactly how we've all been feeling ever since this got announced. We've been waiting, wondering who all is going to enter, what stories will be written, and we're about to find out today.
I'm so excited to see some new names on the big stage, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of strategies they come to the battlefield with.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the marathon. I really do think these teams are getting their first taste of what's to come over the next few months, and I'm so excited to see the culmination of this one.
Well, let's go ahead and check out the schedule. It's a big day. We got a quad desk for it, so a lot coming. But don't forget about the North American League show. First episode dropped yesterday. You can catch that Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific. Episode 2 coming your way September 26th all the way through November 21st. And then when we get to league play itself, we've got a busy schedule for you. Event number 1, of course, taking place here today. Event number 2 for the preseason next week. And then the regular season hits. 8 consecutive weeks of action that'll conclude on November 22nd. But don't worry, the fun doesn't end on Saturdays because the very next day each week, we've got our North American League Sunday Scrim. Sundays at 12 p.m. Pacific. It's a fun way, whether you're by yourself or with the team, to do a little salmon run. And we've got a big run coming your way tomorrow on September 21st, so make sure you take part in that. But wait, there is more, because don't forget about the playoffs coming your way December 13th and 14th as we march our way through the regular season. Tremendous amount of content coming your way down the pipe as we get started here with event number 1, the preseason. And let's go ahead and get to our tournament format, because there's a lot of points to be had every single week. Teams will be awarded points toward their event score based on their leaderboard placement in the ladder round and top 8 of each event they participate in. Those are all the points. Essentially, if you get to the top 8, you have a chance to score even more. That's going to mean a lot in your team's placement throughout the entire regular season. As far as our rules now, as we get set for this top 8 this evening, to begin things, the higher seed will choose the mode, the lower seed will choose the stage. And after the first game, the winning team will choose the mode, and the losing team will then choose the stage. We mentioned modes. What modes are there? You got Turf War in there, along with Clan Blitz, Splat Zones, Tower Control, and Rainmaker. Keep in mind, each mode can only be played once during the match, so no spamming TC on Inkblot Art Academy, for those of you that want to do that. So take a look at, of course, the stage list. Lots of conversation around this. A wonderful collection of stages that'll highlight all sorts of inking action all throughout these regular season and playoffs and preseason action that we have here. Keep in mind, stages can only be played once during the match as well, too. Now, our top 8 bracket. We've had a lot of teams inking and splatting all throughout the day. Here we are. You see the names: TZS, What's Quackin', Laniakea, Impulse, Duck Motif, Mischievous Mog, BADVXLLAIN, and Xiphias. And let's start with you here, Nine. You're familiar with a couple of these teams and players.
Well, people who've watched the North American circuits throughout the years should be familiar with a couple of them. TZS, Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, was always one of those teams that was in the top 16, the top 8 back in some of the Splatoon 2 events. And Duck Motif, they've represented North America at the championship level events as well. So great to see those teams back and throwing down.
And Milana, you've just seen so much excitement amongst the new players. Speak a little bit about that, and then any of these teams as well, too, if you want.
You know, like I said, some of these teams are new to the big stage. The Nintendo, you know, this is what they're aiming for, right? So I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these teams perform at their very best.
And finally, Zach, endurance. As we mentioned, we have got ourselves a quad desk. We're going to have 5 to 6 hours of fun coming your way. But this is a long day, and when you get to this stage, top 8, you might just start feel a little bit of pressure here. What do you have to say about these teams at this point?
we change up, of course, from that best of 3 for the latter portion of this tournament all the way to best of 5 now, so you get a little bit more wiggle room. And as far as the teams go, you know, Xiphias, maybe a couple of players after my own heart with the Tri-Slosher. If you saw our splash tag segment, you know I'm a panicking Tri-Slosher main myself, so would love to see somebody actually play that at the highest level, but lots of teams looking to participate early in the preseason here to get their first taste of the action.
Zach, you brought up our splash tag segment from our first episode of the Splatoon 3 North American League show. Milana, refresh my memory. What was on your splash tag once again?
Big money.
Big money! Here it goes. We get set for our very first matchup. Now, keep in mind, we're going to bring you one quarterfinals, one of the winners semifinals. 9 has to get us sleep for a 6 a.m. workout tomorrow morning. But our very first mode here, it looks like it's going to be Splat Zones 9. And please tell us a little bit more about what has been one of the most popular modes in all of competitive play.
Of course. Surprise, surprise, it's no surprise here. Splat Zones, as Jordan noted, the most popular mode played at the competitive level, and it's easy to understand. There's going to be parts of these stages that you need to ink. Once you take it, a timer will start to move down, marching ever closer towards 0, but your opponent can steal that back from you. The teams will go back and forth, trading control of this position, and if neither of them are able to get to 0, at the very end, whichever team has taken that score the lowest will be the winner.
Pop quiz, how do you calculate the penalty?
0.75 multiplied by, in parentheses, start score minus end score. Done.
Brains and brawn right here on the desk as we get set to go. Barnacle and Dime, Splat Zones, our first 2 teams, BADVXLLAIN and Xiphias. And as they get set here, team chemistry, Milana, really important for a lot of these teams, whether you're new, whether you're experienced. What does that look like to you as far as teams that play well together throughout the years?
I think because Splatoon is such a fast-paced game, being able to communicate your intentions and being able to communicate it well and efficiently is just the key point of good teamwork. So I think being able to do that and having that experience with players that you consistently play with, I think is so important.
And Zach, for a lot of these teams, they're trying to figure out their roles, because every given team, you're looking for specific roles. What are going to be some of those key roles that teams are going to want to fill as they work their way through the top 8?
You know, you mentioned a formula earlier. A lot of teams like to be formulaic in the way that they build their team up. A lot of teams like to have sort of that frontliner, maybe a Slayer to sort of get in the faces of the enemy with lots of up-close range weapons that are going to do a lot of damage early. You have your skirmishers, too, that like to start the engagement, make sure that they can distract or take 1 or 2 eyes off the prize, if you will. You have your support, of course, backing you up, making sure that they can get a tactical or some other special online that's going to help your team. And then the anchor, that backliner role that is really going to help you set up for success, usually from a mid to long range. That is how you build a well-rounded team composition.
And 9, we've had a lot of updates recently for Splatoon 3. Everyone likes to toss around the term the meta. Where do things kind of sit now, and what to expect with the gameplay?
Well, there's a wonderful jingle that we're going to hear a lot today, I would wager. Whenever that Tacticooler comes out and everyone gets juiced up, they're going to be flying around as quick as you can imagine, so enjoy.
We are set to go. Splat Zones, Barnacle and Dime, event number 1. Preseason week number 1, BADVXLLAIN versus Xiphias. As we get a chance to take a little peek at the loadouts here. 9, I'll toss it to you. What do you see from these 2 teams?
Well, interestingly enough, both of these teams have brought in that NZAP 85. Old, reliable, as Zach noted earlier, it's a great support weapon, and it builds up Tacticoolers very, very quickly. As you see Jose moving ever closer to it right now. A couple more shots here. Near the zone, you should see it come out, and that's when the fireworks will really start.
And already, Zach, Xiphias claiming the zone. Now they're trying to just protect this lead. What are they looking to do as BADVXLLAIN trying to seize it away from them?
Yeah, looks like Cat's trying to get those pot shots in with that Rapid Blaster Pro. Deco trying to back off as many members of Xiphias as they can. The mid-decap with that nice maneuverability, they're going to need it to get around the Killer Whale 5.1, but they have that big bubbler online. That's going to really help them create some space and maybe move a little bit forward.
And Milana, now BADVXLLAIN in the lead. An excellent job of bouncing back, taking control of the zone. What are they looking to do here?
I think they really just need to be able to create space between themselves and Xiphias. They have that Tacticooler out, the wipeout from Xiphias. Really, this is going to be big for BADVXLLAIN.
And we've got the wipeout, BADVXLLAIN in full control. Xiphias, how do they try to get back into this one here, 9?
Well, I mean, you have to do exactly this. First, get your support special out of the way here, and then move in as a team. So I think E-Man maybe took a dive there, trying to make something happen on that Decapitator. Nothing doing there. That means it's 3v4, and at this point, everybody knows where they're attacking from. They've got to move quick. There's not much time.
4-4 on the stage. BADVXLLAIN about 10 seconds away. Xiphias trying to move in closer. They take out 2 members. 3 seconds. Xiphias seizes control, and we see that penalty calculation come in here, Zach.
Yeah, the Kraken Royale just sitting on top of that low wall was trying to make sure that nobody from Xiphias could get in, but they were able to provide just enough offensive pressure to waylay things a little bit. Xiphias getting behind that, going around one of the 2 ways that you can get to the zone here, and now they finally have a foothold.
73-second penalty for BADVXLLAIN. That's going to take a long time to erase, and if you're Xiphias here, Milana, you can actually breathe a sigh of relief and take your time here.
Yeah, now the role has reversed. Xiphias has the lead, or sorry, the control. They're able to kind of keep a little bit of distance from BADVXLLAIN and use that hopefully to create, you know, be able to build their special. E-Man getting that pick, but unfortunately getting taken out by Mox and using that Kraken. Mox is maybe going to give a little bit of distance, maybe taking out that heavy, but not quite.
Mox mucking things up here, 9, and now it's BADVXLLAIN that seizes control once again.
Yeah, great work again. You've seen both of these teams now in really bad positions find just a little bit of room to move forward here. You have to use your specials to engage, to open it up. At that point, when the small openings come through, you've got to be decisive. These teams have done a great job.
Down goes Mox, still 3-2 advantage on the stage for BADVXLLAIN, and Zach, here we go. BADVXLLAIN still hanging on to this lead, but Xiphias might have an opening here with the special loaded up.
Yeah, support doesn't mean you can't be splat happy at times, and the NZAP doing just as much as the rest of BADVXLLAIN to try and lock things down. Of course, that Tenta Missiles is going to get 1 member there, and they're going to back off the numbers of BADVXLLAIN a little bit. Yet again, we see the Killer Whale 5-1 come out, but a weapon I didn't really expect to see, trying to make use of things. That Comet's Octobrush, they're stopped. At one point, can Xiphias take things back? It's just back and forth here. It's finally able to get through, and BADVXLLAIN locking it down here in game 1.
BADVXLLAIN controlled this game for the majority of the time. Xiphias was able to wrestle away the zone, posted a little bit of a threat, but finally, Milana, BADVXLLAIN able to stabilize at the end, and being able to just finish strong in that situation is so important.
And totally. And you know, you mentioned it before. We talked about teamwork. The comms were coming out. These teams were working so well together. The support players getting those tacticoolers out. Really, they just played their best game.
And so much of that support role here, 9, it takes a lot of tactile play because it's easy to just want to jump into a firefight, but you've got to be patient when you're that support player and make sure that you're sticking around so that you can be there to, no pun intended, support your players.
Well, the balancing act is the most difficult part of that role because, as Zach noted earlier here, just because you're playing a support-style weapon, you still have to get up and fight when it is demanded of you, so you can't sit too far back. You've got to move up with the rest of your team. Then you've got to execute when it comes time to fight. I thought it was very interesting that both teams brought the NZAP 85 that time, and also interesting, as Zach noted here, the Comet's Octobrush that was brought out, that was what was thrown around those Kraken Royales. That's not a weapon we see a ton of, and if you're not familiar with how to fight against an Octobrush, it can make life very difficult for you.
And how are you supposed to fight against one then? Because we might see it a lot here today.
Well, ideally, you'd like your longer range weapons to be the one that can deal with that. Of course, if you've got a shorter range shooter here, that's what the Octobrush is made to, well, deal with. And again, you want that situation, but you can't always reliably set it up. As Milana's noted, you've got to call out where it's at. You've got to get the right players in the right position.
Coming up next, Tower Control, Mako Mart. And Zach, I'm going to give you the honors to explain what we're looking for in Tower Control.
Well, and I feel honored to take it. And this is definitely a lovely map to see. Again, the map list for this tournament and this setup, so beautiful. Mako Mart, it holds quite a few number of modes that the scene really likes to play on. Tower Control, that first checkpoint is going to be on a very low elevation. You're not in a great spot when you stop there. You're effectively right under where that sniper perch is going to be. And the drop down on that map is rather large. The stage here is going to really allow for longer range weapons to play to their effective range, so you have to send your shorter range weapons around, kind of bother them, harass them if you will, and make sure that they cannot set up in those optimal areas.
It's such a good point because Mako Mart, Milana, we know a lot of teams love playing on this particular stage. What are some insights you've got from doing Tower Control several times on Mako Mart?
I think what's really important is just to play together as a team. I think what can be really detrimental for teams is when they drop too early, if they separate themselves from the rest of their team, if they're not communicating well. I think that can be really difficult to kind of come back from.
And obviously with tower control, coordinated push is very important here, 9. Once you get that tower, there's a lot of strategy that goes into being able to advance it. And if you're on the tower yourself, for a lot of teams that are still learning how to do this competitively, what are you trying to keep in mind if you're on the tower to still pose somewhat of an offensive threat?
Well, the tower moves in one path every time, and it doesn't move unless you're on it. So what you have to do is play ahead of the tower. If you're the person who's riding the tower, that means you are the eyes of the scenario. You've got to say, hey, I see someone who's dropping to the left. Can somebody get over there and do something about that? Because if you simply sit all 4 of your members on that tower, 1, it's not going to move any faster, and 2, you're just not going to cover a lot of ground. So you've got to be very active while also making sure your tower rider knows when to get on, when to jump off, and when to support the team.
BADVXLLAIN versus Xiphias. It's tower control on Mako Mart. As we get set, they're going to make their last couple of adjustments. Keep in mind it's best of 5 as far as all these matches go, and so if you get a chance to go 3-0, you're going to advance pretty quickly here, but you also get a chance the first time you play against another team here, Zach, to figure out their play style, and sometimes you go with the counter pick if you drop that first game.
Yeah, and that's where sort of the nicety of, okay, if you win, you do get to dictate the mode. If you lose, you get to dictate the stage. It really does play a little bit to the strengths of both sides, right? Maybe you are better on one stage, and there are stages that can play lots of different modes, whereas there's maybe one stage where only one mode is effective. For tower control, like Nine said, it's that definitive line. Let's see how it plays out here.
We are ready to roll here. Tower control, Mako Mart, BADVXLLAIN versus Xiphias, and it's a chance for Xiphias to possibly tie this up at 1 game apiece, but right now it is BADVXLLAIN in the lead, and loadouts, you are staring at this screen so closely, 9. Any changes that you notice?
Well, I'll tell you what Xiphias has not brought to the battle. The Tacticooler. There is not a Tacticooler to be found there. This is a development that has come up very recently. This is a map where you are always up close and fighting the opponent. So some teams lately, Jordan, have elected to leave the Tacticooler at home, feeling that it's just too slow. Instead, you've got 4 traditional specials to fight it out. Right now, at the very beginning, it looked like maybe that was the right call. Now they're getting jumped upon. It's a wipeout. They did not get that first checkpoint, which means they're going to have to try again later.
And now that really slants the stage in favor of BADVXLLAIN here, Milana, because you get that initial wipeout, all of a sudden you have to reset half of their specials, and it puts you in control as far as determining the pace of this game so far.
Totally, and we see that BADVXLLAIN pretty easily makes it past checkpoint 1, and a big reason for that is 2 members of BADVXLLAIN is camping that drop, making sure that no one is able to kind of drop from Xiphias and get a little bit of space from to be able to take control.
Crab Tank ready to go for Jose. Right now, it's Mox trying to just find a little bit of positioning here. Zach and Mox having to retreat at the moment.
Yeah, Mox swapping over to that Vanilla Octobrush, the base level 1 there that's going to have the Zipcaster. It's such a high skill ceiling special that I'd love to see come out at some point. You can really get lots of high elevation there. E-Man not going to survive for very long. Roman trying to get the high ground, playing a very tough weapon to go against in the 52 with that great 2-shot splat potential.
Oh, the Roman Empire looking ever so strong at the moment, but down it goes as history told us. And now E-Man has a chance to try and put Xiphias in somewhat of a scoring position. And right now, you've got the tower in middle and some work being put in by E-Man right now, 9.
Great work, and this Mint Decapitator, one of the strongest weapons in this current iteration of the game, and you can see why. Once that thing gets charged up, it moves forward a little bit, and then a wide swing. If you don't pre-fire that weapon and take it out like we saw Cats do right there with this wonderful Rapid Blaster Pro Deco, that's exactly what it can look like. Cats continuing to collect.
And Cats, as you mentioned, collect E-Man, putting in work. Roman with a nice little double splat as well, too. And Milana, you've got BADVXLLAIN in some terrific positioning right now, even though they just lost a member.
You do, and you know what? I think one of the biggest things is that because BADVXLLAIN made it past that first checkpoint, they don't have to wait for that first checkpoint again. They can move quickly past that and go directly to the second.
And it's such a good point. You get the early lead here, Zach, as you see with BADVXLLAIN, and now you can play a little bit more aggressive knowing that you've got that lead to work with.
Well, part of that aggression comes from the map control that BADVXLLAIN has. Xiphias has actually done a great job of recovering, and V-Heavy, this is exactly where you want to set them up. You want a weapon that can play around that pillar in the middle of the tower. Nothing better than a weapon that needs to charge up to get to their full power.
E-Man with the big bubbler, that'll provide a little bit of protection. Just over 2 minutes left, 4-4 on the stage at the moment. Special goes down, though, for 9. and that's a huge loss for Xiphias.
Well, Zach asked for it, and Mox was happy to give it there. Great work by that Zipcaster. So many areas on this stage where you can go up into the literal rafters of it, rain down on people. There's nothing that can be done, and Jordan, you put it so nicely, all the momentum taken away from the team. They had done such a great job of getting the right players at the right time, but that's tower control, baby.
Roman gets the Tacticooler, juices up. Killer Whale deployed. Roman still working. And right now, this is a substantial lead for BADVXLLAIN with just a minute 30 left. Milana, how do they try to close this one out?
Xiphias is really going to have to work together. We see B Heavy getting on the tower, and you know, we do have to play objective, but unfortunately that Zipcaster taking out a double. This is going to be a triple. This is going to be so tough for Xiphias to come back from.
Zipcaster flying all over the stage here, Zach, and at this point, you really start to think if you're BADVXLLAIN, you're just thinking victory. You've got a lot to work with here.
This is exactly what I wanted to see from the Zipcaster. This map has so many hallways and turns. If you're above it all, you don't have to worry about it, and even when you're on that lower elevations we just saw from Mox there, now being buffed by the Tacticooler, and with that great mobility, they can walk away from the 10 missiles. That weapon has everything that they need right now.
Under 50 seconds left. Mox has the Zipcaster ready to roll. We've seen Mox create all sorts of damage with the Zipcasters. We tune in right now. Mox flying all over the stage, trying to put a little pressure on that Crab Tank. Crab Tank rolls out of the way. Jose says no way. And with 30 seconds left, 9, Xiphias, you're going to have to play essentially perfect, even though BADVXLLAIN's advancing the tower.
Yeah, sometimes there's just not a right answer in a given scenario. You see that they have to first stop their opponent from continuing to score because the points continue to fly off the board for BADVXLLAIN here. You see E-Man trying to take the eyes of the other players so that the rest of the teammates can move through. Nice job. Would love to close him out. 2 incredible shots there. Now needs to clean this one up there. Okay, that's 3 down. It's just Mox, but will Mox be enough single-handedly?
5 seconds left. BADVXLLAIN just moments away from picking up their second victory. We're into overtime. Tower continues to move for Xiphias, but they can't have any mistakes. Here comes the Zipcaster. Here comes the second victory as BADVXLLAIN has no issues with that one whatsoever, Milana. And now with a 2-0 lead, things are looking pretty good for BADVXLLAIN.
I think, you know, I kind of wanted to bring back what Nine's point was about the Octobrush. We need something to be able to take that out. We need good comms. We need to be able to have maybe a longer range weapon that could actually just have a wider range of what we see on the battlefield, because Mox is wreaking havoc and Xiphias is going to have to do something to stop them.
Yeah, really in that game, Zach, we didn't see Xiphias pose much of a threat other than the initial push. And for BADVXLLAIN, it seems like, yes, team play is very important, but when you can win these one-on-ones or have a player go off with a special, like we saw with Mox, like we saw with Roman, it can change the game completely.
Well, that's the counter to a team that's playing a lot of their players on mid to long range. You have that vanilla heavy Splatling, you have the Frozen Pro, you have even the Mint Decaf that likes to play at that mid-range. The counter to that is to get in their face and not allow them to set up in optimal areas that would give them the high ground, that would give them map control. Even with those shorter range weapons, the Octobrush can paint in a very short area, but you can't rely on them to support you the whole time, and Mox had the support of their team to go do exactly what they needed to do, slay out, make sure that they could not get into prime positioning, and that allowed them to coast through that game too.
You're rattling off all these weapons I hear. Vanilla, Frozen, Mint. I'm getting my ice cream order ready for after this when we get done. And 9, really, if you're Xiphias, you don't want to be frozen out of any games here in the first match because they're down 2-0, and you've got to find a way to come back and pivot. You're going to get a chance to maybe do a bit of a counter pick here, but so far you haven't posed much of a threat to BADVXLLAIN.
No, and the frustrating thing is I would argue that Splat Zones and Tower Control certainly are the most played of the competitive modes, but a lot of people would say that they're the 2 most balanced as well in terms of you get the chance to have your game plan against your opponent's game plan, and you don't always need to make a lot of pivots. Now, nearly every other mode that exists is going to necessitate probably a big change if they want to go against what they've been running into, and I'm being told that it is Rainmaker on Humpback Pump Track. Little Splatoon 2 love. This was played a lot back in those days, but listen, Rainmaker is tough to play, especially when the opponent's been playing this sharp.
Speaking of Rainmaker, Milana, aka Big Money, would you be so kind as to break down the Rainmaker specifics for us, please?
Yeah, so each team, their goal is to pop that Rainmaker shield in the middle of the map, and they need to take control of the Rainmaker, which means that one of their players will have to give up use of their weapon to use the Rainmaker as a weapon. And their next goal is to take that Rainmaker and carry it to a checkpoint pedestal that is going into the enemy base. And then after they're able to dunk that into the pedestal, they have one more goal, and that is to bring it straight into the enemy base into the goal pedestal.
I love the fact out of everybody on this panel, you're the one talking about dunking, and you've got the most hops than anybody else here as well, too. It's terrific. And so you go to Humpback Pump Track, Rainmaker here. We rewind the clock to 2017 here, Zach, and this stage and this mode, what are some things to keep in mind with this combination?
I mean, this is the premier mode that you would want for this map, so I think it's a pretty solid result for game number 3. You come up upon what I would call maybe the Horseshoe of Doom, where that first pedestal, it's very easy to get to, but you round that corner and you are in for a rough time because you have to coast right past the enemy spawn in order to get to the second pedestal, so do not be swayed by getting so easily from that king of the hill, that raised platform in the middle where the Rainmaker spawns to the first pedestal, because you very much so still have your work ahead of you.
And we had a similar conversation when we were breaking down tower control. What do you do when you're on the tower to be an offensive threat? Well, when you have the Rainmaker, you don't want to be a sitting duck necessarily in that situation. How do you best advance that Rainmaker, the communication with your team?
Well, the Rainmaker is actually pretty strong if someone who knows what they're doing is piloting it here. It is a bazooka. Make no mistake about it here. It can lob some shots up and take players out if they're a little bit too overzealous in trying to attack. As Zach noted out with Horseshoe of Doom, I hate how right you are in calling it that, because I was mulling it over like, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. But anytime there's a long straightaway on any of these stages with Rainmaker, that means that Rainmaker might be the longest range threat of any weapon on the stage. So keep an eye out. A lot of times on this stage, you'll see that Rainmaker shield making room for the players to move up. Once they pop it, that Rainmaker shield is gone. You pick up the Rainmaker, and they continue to support the teams they move forward.
And then Milana, defensively, the other team has the Rainmaker. What's going through your mind? Because you don't necessarily want to throw all your resources out immediately because it's so quick to be able to pop it and respawn it. So what are you thinking here?
I think, you're just going to have to play together. Don't jump in by yourselves and just get into the game like we are right now.
Rainmaker on Humpback Pump Track. Bad Villain versus Xiphias. Can Bad Villain get the 3-0 sweep, or will Xiphias extend this particular match? And now all of a sudden, Zach, you are looking so intently at this screen. Tell us about this loadout.
E-Man has brought forth a weapon I was not sure I would see today, that being the Tri-Slosher Navo. That is going to provide you with that tactical where it also has the Fizzy Bomb, as we see V-Heavy, and another going down. Cat safely behind that splash wall, though they get taken out playing Protect the President. An early wipeout 25 seconds in, and Xiphias now with the upper hand.
Xiphias has grabbed the early lead a couple of times. They're trying to get to the first checkpoint, and you see right now, hanging out in the back with the Rainmaker, they get to the first checkpoint, and they get a splat on Roman. A critically good start for Xiphias here, 9.
Yep, this is what Zach was talking about. This first checkpoint tends to fall very, very quickly. It's how far you can go after the fact that tends to determine it. Now, with that said, still very nice for Xiphias. The points do start to fly off pretty quick at a certain point. V-Heavy up here still in a nice spot. That's who you'd want there to ward off the other members as they try to come around that corner. Xiphias in great control, a great first minute of play for them, and boy, did they need it.
The Wave Breaker comes out to support a little bit. Jose surfing it around. Cats trying to just use a little bit of help from that splash wall. Bad Villain hasn't really made their push quite yet. It's 4-3 on the stage. They're down. Xiphias contains and maintains control here, Milana.
Yes, they do. But all these players are tussling in the middle of this map. None of the players really have control. Mox trying to get that Zipcaster out, unfortunately getting stopped by the members of this Xiphias, and Xiphias taking the Rainmaker again, maybe a little bit premature with that push, but still not in a bad position.
Another Tacticooler comes out here, Zach, and Katz is just trying to find a little bit of positioning. Mox trying to work their way up to the mound, trying to work around, flank out, and here comes a Tacticooler for Xiphias. And so far, Zach, Xiphias has done a nice job, but now they got to play a little defense here.
I'm glad you brought up Katz here. That's a weapon I didn't think we would see. The Rapid Blaster Pro, as we see 2 going down. You talked about how devastating of a weapon the Rainmaker itself can be. Jordan rather than Cats, their designated Rainmaker carrier for the moment, as Roman gets one but does not have enough ink to climb up. They lose all three except for their Rapid Blaster Pro, and that's going to allow Xiphias to reset.
And a big time stop because they're at 62 here, 9, and that means a lot with over 2:30 left.
Yeah, again, they protected their pedestal. That's really the important part on any of these Rainmaker stages, but particularly this one because of how quickly the points can fly off. Now they let it reset. If that Rainmaker sits in one spot, popped for a while, it eventually goes back into the center. That's a valid defensive tactic here. They're going to gear up and try again. BADVXLLAIN does have Roman up front. They're going to try to use now the Ink Vac that will protect your Rainmaker carrier here. As Zach noted, that is why this was the choice as opposed to some other variants. Now they're going to lob it over the top. There's not really anybody left. That's 3 down.
Keep in mind, though, Xiphias got to their checkpoint first. They have a 1-point lead. BADVXLLAIN's going to have to burst the shield and then grab the Rainmaker in order to take the lead. And right now, they can't get to it, Milana, so this becomes so important for Xiphias. But BADVXLLAIN does get it, and they take the lead.
And you know what? It really just takes one tiny path of ink to go from that checkpoint to, you know, getting a lead of 34. And really, it's just, and they're still in such a good position. BADVXLLAIN popping that Rainmaker just to get a few more points. The Ink Vac coming out, protecting the Rainmaker, getting that score to 14. Really impressive plays.
Jordan advances it, 3-2 on the stage advantage. Xiphias, 90 seconds left, and now all of a sudden, all the pressure's on Xiphias here, Zach.
Yeah, E-Man, exactly what you want to do. Just dumping as much ink as possible with that trying to vote, but they go down. Only 2 members of Xiphias left, and Mox in a very dangerous position, allowing their team to jump in, even though there's so much ink on the side of Xiphias. Jose getting the delayed pick there on Jordan, a second on to Cats, looking for a few more. They might try to find one there onto Mox, but they'll lose that engagement. Just over a minute left, and Xiphias with another chance to reclaim that lead.
Down goes V Heavy, under a minute left here. Xiphias still trailing 60-11. BADVXLLAIN's got control of the Rainmaker as well too. And 9, it doesn't take much from them to try and close this out here now.
You forget whose side that even was for a moment. Like, wait, this is the spawn area for Xiphias. Why is it BADVXLLAIN's color? They continue their relentless attack. Jose landing, crashing down there to at least take the Rainmaker carrier out as well. But that is a very, very BADVXLLAIN colored map right now. Xiphias, you can see, has grabbed the Rainmaker, but with only 30 seconds left, they're probably only going to get one more chance at this.
They did clear their first checkpoint. Keep that in mind. So if they get a solid push is negated by Mox from behind, though. 16 seconds left. BADVXLLAIN looking for the sweep. 13 seconds. Down goes Roman. Xiphias might have time for one more push. They have the advantage. Triple splashdown comes out. Doesn't eliminate anybody. 4-4 on the stage. 3 seconds left. BADVXLLAIN just moments away. Trying to close this out for the sweep. You see Mox advancing forward with that Rainmaker. V Heavy trying to provide a little bit of protection. Specials being loaded up here for BADVXLLAIN. They've just got to play defensively one more time. This is a long overtime push here for Xiphias. And essentially, Zach, they've just got to be very patient, and they can't lose anybody. And right as I get ready to toss to you, BADVXLLAIN gets the splat and closes this out. And the BADVXLLAINs, but the bad and villain, because they were certainly that. 3-0 sweep over Xiphias. That one got a little bit closer than the others, but Milana, clearly BADVXLLAIN was the superior team over these last 3 games.
You know, I think it was, you know, we mentioned Mox a lot. We said Mox this, Mox that, and really that Octobrush being able to flank behind at that very last, like 10 seconds of that last match, being able to take out 3 members, Jose really trying to hold the ground, getting a pick or 2, but really it just was not enough to be able to kind of make that ground, make that turfing happen so that the team is able to move forward.
And you pointed it out here, 9, for BADVXLLAIN, just the fact they were able to go so deep into Xiphias territory and keep the pressure on them. We've talked about this before. There's an element of turf war in every single mode, no matter what.
Absolutely.
And you dominate the turf, you're going to dominate the game for the most part.
Well, it's also much easier to turf when all of your opponents are respawning. And, you know, we talk so much about Mox over the course of that set. I want to give a special shout out to Cats as well. Someone who we also talked about a lot, but that Rapid Blaster Pro and the Deco variant in some of those other games, that you play a little bit of that weapon, Jordan. You know how it goes here.
It's
the
we're
point.
like this.
It's the point and click adventure, right? You simply simply move forward, put a little bit of damage here, a little bit of damage there, constantly calling out to your team, hey, that one's weak, go get him. And Mock says, cool, I only need to swing twice and we clear it out here. But that was the rock of the team. Very rarely did you see Cats in the wrong sort of position here. Not at all surprising to see them get the result they did.
Cat's the backbone of that team, essentially, right there. And so now it's a 3-0 sweep for BADVXLLAIN. Let's check out the bracket after we got done with winners quarterfinals. And look at the other results here. Laniakea 3-0 over Impulse. Motif 3-0. And then, of course, TZS, a 3-1 victory over What's Quackin'. And that'll set up our winners semifinals. That'll be coming here in just a short moment. But so far, an exciting start to the preseason and what we've seen here. And it's a chance here, Milana, for these teams. You're going to learn from every single week here, right? It's nice that it's not just one and done and then you have to wait so long for another opportunity to compete. You're going to take away, get some feedback, go back to the drawing board and work on some stuff.
And you know what? This is preseason week 1, which means that these teams are kind of doing a low stakes, being able to feel out the competition, find out what strategies work for them, find out what strategies they might need to develop. And I think they're going to use that to their advantage for the coming weeks of this tournament series.
And again, you're going to take some time with this here, Zach, as well, too. And you're going to learn about your game modes. You're going to learn about what stages work well for you. But so far, for these teams, just getting that experience of high-stakes tournament play, we'll hope to maybe calm down a little bit more the next time.
Yeah, some matches are just going to feel like the final frame of that Game 3, where you're caught between a rock and a hard place, a splash wall, and a real wall, if you will, with a zipcaster behind you and the whole rest of the enemy team in front of you. It's not going to be fun all the time to be in those tight situations, but learning from those and being able to adapt to not only the map and the stage and the mode changing, but also what weapons are being brought, what strategies are being brought. Are you facing more of a hyper-offensive team, maybe a more mid to long-range team? You get sort of the adaptability and the ladder functionality, which we've already had today, leading into the top 8 that has that double elimination portion to it. It means you're not going to go home empty-handed. You're always going to come out with at least some new knowledge and some new things to study as the weeks go on.
Our winners semi number 1 will be TZS versus Laniakea. And talk a little bit more. I think you've got some more information about either one of these teams here, Nine. You're so familiar with a lot of these competitive players and their teams. What stands out to you about these two?
Well, TZS being a team that's been around this long. I mean, we said earlier TZS has competed since the Splatoon 2 era and certainly competing at the top level of North America for so long. This is their week to get this done. Again, we kept so many stats over and over about them getting top 32 and then top 16 and then top 8, and they have remained competitive with what I would say is a pretty standard roster here. They've stuck together as long as they have. They have a very unique way of playing this game, and Zach brought it up earlier here. Teams have their own identities, their own way they like to play the game. TZS has their sort of identity. I won't spoil it for you because we'll get to talk about it, but it's a lot of fun to watch, and I'm so happy they're here.
So that'll be the winner's semi that we will be streaming here in just a moment. TZS versus Laniakea, as we mentioned. We won't be doing every single quarterfinals or semifinals, but you're going to get a chance to see half of these teams take place as we move our way through this top 8 bracket. And I think the question I want to pose to all of you as they get set for their very first match here, the difference between casual play and that leap to competitive, for a lot of players that continue to dive deeper into Splatoon 3, what helps make that leap? How do you take that first step towards getting into competitive play? I know, Milana, you've been around a lot of people that have done that themselves. What have you gathered as far as, I want to get into it, but what exactly is my first step, or how do I do this?
I think, the very first thing is, and I might be the minority in thinking this, but grab your friends. You enjoy already playing the game with your friends. Why not just make a team? And if you really like competitive environments, there is so much offering in the community to be able to get into the scene, to be able to read about strategies, to be able to even just watch streams, watch people play. I think there's just so much opportunity for people to get into competitive play. And you know what? It really just starts with having a good friend group and being like, hey, you want to play some Splatoon together?
And then once you get to that competitive level, Zach, you're starting to play more and more of it, what changes? I mean, is it the amount of time you practice or the way that you look and review the game? What's maybe one of those one or two big changes that you have to do as a player individually?
Yeah, I'm glad you said one or two changes because in my opinion, it's not one hard set formula for success. There are sort of the tried and true esport ways of VOD reviewing, and I'm going to schedule scrims with teams that I know are of a similar caliber to my team, but branching out to not only tournaments, but to people that you know are going to help you. For some teams, that's maybe finding a coach. There are teams now that are getting dedicated coaches that help them with the fundamentals, that help them to find what strategy, as Nine was pointing out, is going to work best for them, which may not be the best for everybody, but for others, it's just going to be playing the game, the sort of 10,000 hours theory of getting as much practice time in as you possibly can, and that's not everybody's favorite answer, but oftentimes it is the right one.
How many hours are you at?
It's not in the thousands. Let's say that. That's why I'm on the desk and not on one of the teams.
Moving over to somebody that is in the thousands here for sure, because I know you more than just commentate the game, my friend. Once you start to get to high-level competitive, what have you noticed about the teams that have been continually successful and have been able to maintain possibly their dominance or consistency across the board?
They just don't stop. They never stop playing.
Never stop, never stopping.
Never stop, never stopping. To give you a more actual eloquent answer, as Milana noted, you really do at a certain point need to have a good team that you communicate with. And we talk about comms and things of that nature, but you all just watched it. This game moves too quickly sometimes for words, and there is no substitute for putting yourself in situations where you need to find the right answer instinctively. And as Zach noted, hour after hour, game after game, play your solo queue, everybody. Get in there and get your games in. Get the daily grind on. You just have to keep playing. You have to keep learning, and eventually you will break through. I've seen it time and time again over the years. Patience and hard work is rewarded.
We have our first mode for our first game here in Winners Semis. We've got Clam Blitz on Barnacle and Dime. Who wants to talk about Clam Blitz here? Who feels the most informed? I saw you raise both hands, my friend. I'll go ahead and toss it to you.
I just didn't think we'd see one that didn't start on Splat Zones. I'll be honest here. No, Clam Blitz. Here's how it works, everybody. You're going to look around the map, and you're going to see a lot of clams either in pods of 3 or simply out by themselves. When you build 8 of them, you're going to build up a power clam that looks a lot like a football. Jordan, you and I have gone back and forth on this particular mode. But you're going to be moving to an actual basket on your opponent's side of the stage. You toss that in to get it open. Each power clam that you throw in scores 20 points. Each regular clam that you throw in is an additional 3. And much like these other modes, you are trying to get it down to 0. If neither team is able to knock it all the way down to 0, whoever has the lowest score will be the victor.
And Milana, there are some pretty interesting strategies when it comes to just scoring a lot of points all at once here in Clam Blitz, and this is a game that can go like that sometimes.
Totally. And it's one strategy would be maybe let's make as many power clams as we can, because one power clam is just one toss versus having to toss 8 clams individually or 7 clams individually. Some strategies involve having one teammate kind of move forward and all the teammates will jump in and throw those clams in. So, there's a lot of diversity in how people play Clam Blitz, and I think that's why it's the most interesting.
Zach, do your typical loadouts and team roles apply here in Clam Blitz because it is a little bit of a derivative compared to some of the other modes, or what are teams thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, Nine noted that this is one of the more chaotic modes that are present. We are away from sort of the splat zones and the tower controls of the world, so you can sort of play around that, okay, let's get behind the enemy team and not really try and fight them head on if you don't think you're going to be winning that battle. So although we don't have some of the same specials that were so effective as that in Splatoon 2, for example, we do still have some decent options. There's, for example, the Kraken Royale that can get behind. If you're able to just sneak behind without a special, even better, and signaling booyah or help, come to me, basically, to jump behind the enemy team. You are spotted when you have one of those power clams, so you need to be careful, but if you're jumping right to the basket, you don't even need to worry about passing the enemy team. You're going to already get by them.
Winners semis between TZS and Laniakea. Right now, we're just waiting for all the players to confirm, because a lot of times, depending on the game mode, it's going to change the layout, it's going to change the weapon you go with. But before we get to kind of those specifics here, Nine, talk a little bit more about Barnacle and Dime and what to expect on this stage.
Yeah, well, Barnacle and Dime, as you've already seen today, is a pretty popular stage in this game. There are a lot of different avenues that you can break out of your own spawn. If you ever hear us use the term rollout, that's sort of what we're referring to. You can drop down to the left side, you can run right down the middle, or you've got a raised area over on the right. Combine that with some nice geography in the middle of the stage. It means there's lots of ways to attack, to move, and to formulate how you're going to move against your opponent's defenses. And this is one of those game modes where you do have to go deep into the enemy's side in order to get anything done. It's a far trek from one basket to the other here. So Barnacle and Dime beloved on most of the game modes, I would say, and certainly this one is a mainstay.
And then playing proper defense, so important in Clam Blitz as well too. Milana, defensively, what are you thinking when that basket opens up and you've got to make sure that you prevent the clams from being baked?
You just have to make sure that as the basket is open, you play calmly, and as we're going into their next match, we'll watch these teams bring their best.
Winners semis number 1. TZS versus Laniakea, Barnacle and Dime. Loadouts 9. What do you see?
Well, I see another Tri-Slosher over there. Sorry, I'm stealing that one from you, Zach. This is the newest, the Ashen Tri-Slosher here. This is one of the more aggressive loadouts for that main weapon. And interestingly enough, it's already a pretty aggressive weapon to begin with, but you've got to give some love here to Vapor, one of the best Xiphias players in our scene, already collecting some pay dirt here. Moving forward, triple splashdown, get out of here.
Vapor vaporizing the competition right there. And Zach, so far, in the early going in Clam Blitz, what are you trying to do essentially? Because it's not like you're racing right towards the middle of an objective.
Well, so I've found two main theorems with Clam Blitz. You are either an aggressive team or a passive team. Aggressive teams try and build a power clam as quickly as possible, and it's just consistently getting the break on the barricade first. The more passive strategy is to get as many clams as you can, and maybe Laniakea was going for that. They had 15, now down to 5 as they go 2 down here. Their last remaining player, a weapon I also didn't expect to see, the Bulbs Tri-Stringer with Angle Shooter and Inkjet.
So far, 4-4 on the stage. A couple of specials ready to go for TZS. You see that splatter color screen go out, and that'll cause a little bit of hazy conditions and some confusion for Laniakea. But so far, neither team has really made that initial push.
Yeah, as Zach kind of noted earlier here, as Pepe gets a wonderful shot with that Trizuka on the aerial enemy, and now trying to go collect another. Instead, her B shot is going to move and take one out. But you can see how difficult it is to actually get a good push together here. As Milana noted earlier, you want to build up enough resources that your push is threatening, but the more power clams you have built up, the more visible you are. And in this game, information's so important. Giving it to your enemy for free, not always the best choice.
Pepe trying to advance forward. Pepe blazing a trail at this moment, retreating a little bit. And now it's the advantage for TZS here, Milana. This could be the first potential opportunity for them to push as we see a big bubbler come out.
And we do indeed see that big bubbler come out from Smork, giving a lot of protection to TZS to be able to kind of make this push happen, pushing it to 56, 53, 50. Really, this is going to be a strong push for them.
The harrowing war cry of Smork coming in and applying some pressure on the opposing team. And now Laniakea, you still see that basket's open. It finally closes, and this is the chance for a little bit of a counter punch here. Where do they look to go, Laniakea here, Zach?
Well, TZS is on the more aggressive side. You have 3 weapons that are very short range, which is high risk, high reward. As Nemeka able to kind of shove that back in their face a little bit with the Carbon Deco, a famously aggressive weapon. And Pepe going to lock down or get the assist on one of those splats. Was hoping for a second there. Blob in the air is not going to have as much contention coming their way. If they would have anything, it would be from the only longer range weapon that TZS has is the custom Explo with that splash wall and triple splashdown. That's going to provide their 3 offensive players with a little bit of protection.
Down goes Nemeka. They had the Trizuka ready to go. Couldn't utilize that. Under 2 minutes left here. 9. Where does Laniakea try to go just to bust something open potentially?
Well, you see they sent that Zipcaster all the way over, and it's actually still coming back to him here. They're trying to create a little bit of chaos to have some of their other weapons move forward and attack here. This is Pandemonium. Now Blob 180 with that shot. Unbelievable. And now trying to take out Pepe again against Pepe. Can we get 3? Oh my goodness! One of the strongest inkjets you will ever see has opened the door.
Blob with an unbelievable job right there. Laniakea has a chance to take the lead here. The basket's open. They trail by 7. They only have 1 clam, though. That's not going to be enough. Under 1:30 left. Still an opportunity. 2 clams. They're not going to get it, so they still trail after that initial push. And now Milana, that puts them in a very difficult position with just over a minute left.
They do have that penalty of 24, and you know they were trying to savor those clams. They only had a couple, but unfortunately they weren't able to pick up enough clams to kind of get the lead. This is giving TZS another opportunity to take turf control and to be able to just stand in the middle, and really they don't have to push too far. They do have the lead, so they just want to make sure that Laniakea does not get their footing back in the the battlefield so that they don't get another opportunity to push.
Tacticooler does come out. 3 members still available. Now it's 4 for Laniakea. They've got this slight advantage, but with about 30 seconds left here, Zach, TZS can play a little bit of defense and focus on that.
Yeah, on that point, you have to think the Ashen is going to have their splatter color screen online at some point. They're also holding on again to their triple splashdown. They're going to try and use it, but they get taken down. There's only 2 members of TZS left. Her V-shot allowing some of the jump-ins to happen, and they're saving Venoct is the zip caster for the final 15 seconds. 2 down already, and multiple power clams online, and that barricade is broken.
Huge opportunity here as Laniakea takes the lead here in 9. They might try to close this out. What a turn of events.
They jumped another power claim in the midst of that. They've now gone has been knocked. Does get taken down by Pepe. We are in overtime, which means there will be 1 opportunity for TZS here. Now they do get what we aptly call the pity clam at the end of all that. It is a free power clam that has been gifted to them for their successful defense. They are very close to building another one here. They need a lot of points in a hurry. With 1 down, you can see the overtime ticking away.
And they've got an option. It's 3-2 on the field. Now it's 2-2 Laniakea with enough defense down the stretch. They come from behind with less than 30 seconds left to take the lead and to take the first game in this best of 5. And Milana, how about the poise from Laniakea down the stretch? They used the Tacticooler and just were patient in picking off member and member of TZS.
Honestly, just being able to see that incredible inkjet, I believe it was in Blob, right?
Yep.
It was just, wow, being able to take out 3, maybe even 4, the whole team of TZS, and that just creates such a big opportunity for Laniakea to move forward, to use, even if they didn't make that push, having a team basically wiped out gives you so much opportunity to push forward in terms of turf, and that will give you an opportunity to kind of keep the other team away from the middle, keep them and even farther from their goal in your base.
Zach, it was so interesting. Milana pointed out turf control and how TZS really had a lot of control with that, but it felt like TZS, they had the lead late, time was ticking down, they almost got a little too passive because it gave the opportunity for Laniakea to really build up those specials, and they utilized that moment.
Well, and so 3 of the weapons there for TZS, you get short range, so you don't have the range advantage, but you oftentimes have the turfing advantage. But on the other side of things for Laniakea, you have players like Venoct who are able to play a similar play style, be very aggressive and sort of take pot shots with that Splatana Stamper, but you're also using a more effective range to keep them at spawn. This is a pretty difficult map to get out of spawn if you get pushed all the way back. That's why we saw these periods where you're almost in a neutral state. You're just sitting in your spawn, doing your best to build up your special, and that's the only real way that you're able to get out. But that's almost a penalty in and of itself, is having to use your specials just to leave spawn. Then you have the hard task of repainting all of mid and getting in a position where you have enough clams to push the objective.
And it really was mid where Laniakea was just hanging out there with about 45 seconds left there, 9. They had a chance with that Tacticooler, and they were just staying alive. They were staying on the stage for the most part and being able to handle that. As we get set for our next game here, it's going to be Splat Zones on Umami Ruins. Set the stage for us here.
Yeah, you actually, this is a nice kind of through line here, and I don't want to simplify the game down any more than we have to here, but remember that only one of those teams was running a Tacticooler. You said stand in the middle, build up your Tacticooler, go through there. Whenever you get wiped, it is that much more difficult to fight your way back in if the opponent has Tacticooler. We call it the Tacticooler loop. They're going to respawn faster than you. I guess we should say what it actually does. You respawn almost instantly. When you are juiced up, you can jump out almost instantly as well, and you respawn in with all of your special meter as well. This means that if you trade with your opponent or you're fighting it out in neutral, dutifully turfing up, you're eventually going to lose in that scenario, and that's why we saw when one team has control of the center of the map in Splat Zones or in Clan Blitz, eventually the Tacticooler will win out.
Umami Ruins. First time we've seen this today as we get set for it here. Milana, give us the quick rundown of Umami Ruins and feel free to take us through some of the loadouts if you'd like.
Yeah, so, you know, what's really going to be, what we're going to be keeping an eye out for is this double zone map with that median in between. And both teams are going to have to control both of those zones in order to take down that counter. And we do see very similar comps coming up from both sides.
As we get set, this initial run to the middle, and with the dual zones here, Zach, how does that change your approach?
Well, a player like Laniakea is going to be playing Ring Around the
There you
Rosie,
go.
pocket full of burst bombs. They basically have the perfect range to throw a burst bomb from one side of this median, as Juana said, to the other. It can do the dual duty of effectively painting a third or a half of one of these zones to also getting major damage on your opponent, and that's part of why Laniakea has done a great job of opening this game up.
Smork with the big bubbler deploys that and gets a splat on Nameca, and already you see TZS jumping back into the fray, trying to mount the early comeback here, 9.
Yes, and this is where this specific comp that they have is so strong. If they can get players moved up, cycle those big bubblers, and then have Vapor on this Explosher play at this range, it can work. The flip side of that is, again, they don't have a ton of specials that'll be great for retakes if they get pushed out. They desperately need to get 2 or 3 down on the opponent's side, get past the Tacticooler, and then they can make it work. But if they continue trading out like this, they're going to get tripled again.
Nameca 2 for 1, nicely done there. Smork just trying to get away, finds the higher ground. Down they go. It's a wipeout and a chance for Laniakea right here, Milana, to make a little bit more of a lead.
And you know what? There's something about Umami Ruins that if you are able to create space around this area that we're focusing on right now, it can be very difficult to move back in.
A lot of trades going back and forth, and Zach, so far, it's benefiting Laniakea because they just continue to hang on to both these zones.
Yeah, DRF may be a more difficult task than the Carbon Roller in getting around and being a little bit more sneaky. You play a similar playstyle as we see her V-Shot getting taken out by that Trizuka. Pepe looking for another, but that's exactly how sneaky a player like Nameca can be, completely unforeseen, and that wreaks havoc for a team that's just trying to get that zone back.
TZS finally takes the zone back. They get a chance to have a short little lead momentarily, but actually they now are finally getting through the penalty is what I should say, and now they can inch a little bit closer. They've got a special ready to go. It's a matter of just keeping Laniakea out, and so far 9 doing a great job of that.
Yep, now moving around, pretty good job. That's one special that they've managed to outlast, and they've got control of that median. Again, they've got some players they would love to get up there, but that means that the attackers have to go in there first to make that happen. You'll note, still haven't taken the zone. Finally have. They'll start to score some points again. Precious seconds ticking away there. Now they're trying to shuffle out. They can't give up too much of that doorstep area because these short-range weapons are going to come through and attack them again. It's 2 down now for TZS. Laniakea hasn't gotten all the way through. Lovely job of sharking there by DRF. If they can trade out a couple more of these, there's not a whole lot of points to go for the lead.
Critical play by DRF here, Milano. Even though they were down 2 members, they were able to take back the zone, and now it's up to Blob here in this Inkjet to try and do something for Laniakea. They take out Vapor, and this could be an opportunity for Laniakea to take control of the zone.
It totally is. With 3 down on TZS, they do take control of both of the zones. They have quite a bit of a penalty to tick down before they're able to, but the Tacticooler comes out, giving them a lot of room to be able to kind of engage in those 1v1s and to be able to come out on top.
7-point lead, that penalty being chipped away right now for Laniakea. At this point here, Zach, you see Blob. It seems like they've gotten into the positions that they want to be in.
You want another map that's difficult to get out of spawn on. No, look no further than Umami Ruins. Look at how tough it is for TZS to build anything up. No more penalty for Laniakea. There's 3 specials, though, now all 4 online for TZS, and they're going to pop them all. The splatter color screen's coming out as well as the big bubbler on top of that cylinder to see if they can stay alive, even expending the triple splashdown, all just to contest the zone, not even fully take it back. Laniakea holds strong, even though Venok goes down.
3 specials. Tis but a scratch, though, against Laniakea as they still maintain their lead. They're 3 points away, but a 56-second penalty, Professor 9, and that is going to give some more life here for TZS.
Yeah, no quick math needed on that one. That's a lot of points now that they're going to have to get through here, and I'd say they'd much rather play the clock at this point than worry about the knockout. But now take a look at this. Smork does have that big bubble as the special here. Pepe sitting up there as well, and Vapor soon behind. 3 specials, about to be 4 specials for Laniakea. They're betting it all on this, and with 1 going down, I think the Tacticooler did get out, but that was a beacon for all the other members of the team. Pepe now knows where to go here. This is it. This is the climactic moment.
Laniakea was trying to put all the chips in the pot. Well, they hit when they need to. Here comes the Zipcaster trying to chase down, and avoiding it they do. 4 members down goes 1 for TZS. The zone is wrestled away. Laniakea able to do what they set out to do here, Milana, by using those specials.
And now, with only 10 seconds left on the clock, they just have to focus on being able to get the picks, being able to make sure that TZS does not make it back to the zone. The TZS able to get 1 zone, putting that big bubbler, making it kind of difficult, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough for TZS.
Just a couple seconds away from forcing overtime as well, too, Zach. And 9 pointed it out. This was the climactic moment. They used all those specials and almost weren't able to get it, but they did, and it was enough with the lead, and they take the victory in the 2-0 lead.
Yeah, and that's kind of the disaster risk-reward if you have to use those specials to get out of spawn, and you don't really have any other choice, which is kind of the bad thing about it. You can drop down to sort of that court area on your far left-hand side, but that puts you at a very disadvantageous position, especially if you're a team like TZS, where 3 out of your 4 members don't have the range to compete. You can maybe try and shark on the wall, see if you could pop out, maybe get somebody who strays too close, but the only picks they were really getting coming out of that were from their custom Explode. There was not really anything else coming out of them sitting all the way back. That pressure applied by Laniakea, especially from the optimal position of, again, that median from the middle of the map. That's exactly where Laniakea drew it up, and that's exactly what led them to get another game on this match.
Now, I've heard this term sharking, and I always thought it was the not-so-delicate way that I eat my food, but it's actually something relevant here in Splatoon. That's a critical strategy.
Yeah, my apologies for using the term earlier here.
It's all
Sharking,
good.
some of you may be wondering, okay, how does that short-range carbon roller get close to people? Can't you see it coming? Well, in addition to being able to jump all over the map, and in addition to being able to move very quickly, Inklings also have a stealth built into them as well. If you go down into your own ink and you wait, the opponent can't see you, and you can move very slowly, get up into your opponent's face, jump on out, lay that trap, a trapdoor spider. We've, in the community, decided to call that sharking. The Jaws music always playing when it happens here. But that's how these shorter range compositions can be so explosive. Yes, they're lying in wait, but it's all part of the game here. They know that even if they wait a few seconds, they can get 3 or 4 of their opponents, as we saw the Carbon Roller do multiple times in that game.
All right, this is for the panel. Sharking, fair or foul in your opinion?
Fair and cool.
Fair, but I don't like it.
A little bit of disgust in the face
Fair,
right
but okay.
there. Zach.
Range is king in this game. I will get every advantage that I can take as a short-range weapon.
Thank
Oh,
you.
boy, I smell a new segment coming up on one of our shows here soon. Well, we've got tower control coming up for our 3rd game here in just a moment. Laniakea trying to go for the sweep here, and with tower control, we've kind of talked about a lot of the strategies here in Milana and what you want to do if you're on the tower. But again, the other 3 members, their role, you've got to be careful about how far you strafe away from the tower, because there's got to be some type of gauge with your distance and make sure everybody's in unison together, I imagine.
Totally. I think actually what's most important is that there are definitely a couple of members of your team, as you're making pushes, that they push ahead of the tower. Because if you're not pushing ahead of the tower, you're not keeping the opponents at bay, and that makes it very precarious to kind of stand on the tower, especially if you have a support player on the tower, or if you have, say, a backliner on the tower. And when you lose them, you really lose a lot for the team.
Oh boy, Zach. TC on Ink Blot again.
I know a certain cartoon character that might be enjoying this one particularly, as well as a certain commentator, because this one does come up not infrequently. But this is the certified classic, if you will. Tower Control Inkblot Art Academy. It is as tried and true as you can get. And I used the phrase rock in a hard place earlier. That first checkpoint is quite literally that. I mean, you have that low wall versus the high wall. You're not really able to go anywhere except for left or right. There's no forward momentum you can take, even if you want to be aggressive and take the ramp up. It's uninkable, so you can try to go on the ink rail to your left. You can try and get up on the platform or the court area of your opponents, but it is not an easy ride. As Juana was talking about, that person on the tower, I really don't envy their job on this map.
It can get a little goofy out there for sure. And 9, what becomes the most critical part of this stage when you're on the tower?
So there is a part around that second checkpoint where from, we'll say, kind of the 50-ish point to the 40-ish point, that's typically where this is decided, because it takes a lot of offensive resources to push through, and on the other side it takes a ton of defensive resources to get your opponent out of there. So typically what happens is there's this big firefight around that checkpoint. One team usually gets way wiped, and then the points just start flying off the board. So look for the teams to really save their specials for that particular moment. The first checkpoint falls pretty quick on this stage usually, so that's the part I would keep an eye out and just look at how these teams attack, because as we've kind of alluded to and joked about, this might be the most played stage and mode combo in the game.
Here we go. Tower control on Inkblot Art Academy. Everybody's favorite as we get set And Zach, as you gaze at the loadouts here, both these teams taking their time to select their weapons and their loadout, what do you see as we begin?
Well, we are still going to see that same tri-stringer, but the Stickers Splatana Stamper, that alliteration coming through, that's going to have the Booyah Bomb with even more alliteration that's going to come out. It will go down just as quickly as it appeared. Venoct, 11 seconds in, going to fall, so they're not going to have that special anytime soon. Blob, who's becoming famous for those inkjets, also going to go down, and DRF, maybe not sharking, but getting behind the members of Laniakea. That's as good a start for TZS as you could have hoped for.
It really is 9 because you go up 4-2, you have 2 specials, Big Bubbler comes out, and now you're past the first checkpoint.
Past the first checkpoint, you paid dearly for it there, getting wiped out. Again, TZS has not changed up a single piece of their composition here. They are riding it all the way to the end. That means that the tactical Laniakea gets all the way up into the court area that Zach talked about. Look at that. Nemeka already moving up there trying to attack. Now Vanek throwing that Booyah Bomb forward to allow her V-Shot to move forward as well. You can kind of see the synergy that allows them to move over. They'll take the lead. That's one down as Blob continues to get the crazy shot. Almost got Smork as well, but they are marching towards that second checkpoint at an alarming rate of speed.
And Laniakea getting the initial defensive push, taking the tower, getting past the first checkpoint, taking the lead, but now it's a chance for TZS here to possibly turn the table.
It totally is, and we see TZS really focusing up on being able to turf up, not allowing Laniakea to provide space, but oh my god, we just see a double from Namika right there. Vapor able to take them out, but oh my god, the double is going to slow TZS down significantly.
And Pepe climbing to the top, trying to get some leverage, gets a splat there. Blob goes down. Here comes somebody incoming, but no, Pepe couldn't camp out and take care of that. Gets rained upon, and now Laniakea with the tower back in neutral. Both teams just trying to establish some type of advantage here. Zach, as they move forward and try to just build upon this lead, does Laniakea.
Yeah, it's not a huge mid-portion of the map as we see a wipeout force there against TZS by Laniakea. In fact, her V-Shot going to be able to jump in. You don't really have a lot of room to maneuver around when you're in the middle of the map, so getting the tower up to this portion, that second checkpoint, as we see 2 going down off the back of that. Vapor looking for a pick. They're going to get her V-Shot as well, and it's just going to be the tri-stringer with that special online. They'll expend it here. The Big Bubbler to counter. It's all popping off here as we get closer to that halfway point.
More spawning than the Salmon Grounds right now at this moment for Laniakea, and TZS can't do anything at this moment, and it's a huge lead for Laniakea that finally wrestled it away. But after getting all this damage done, Laniakea takes complete control of this game here, 9.
Yeah, and every single time that TZS gets a defense, somehow the Carbon Nemeka just moves forward, finds one player, takes it out, and stops any momentum that TZS might have here. Even jumped out that time after it was done, so there's not even a trade to be had. Now Pepe has done a nice job getting into a great position for this Trizuka, but without able to get anybody, the Booyah Bomb gets them. Now another player goes down. You can see how difficult it is to get any sort of momentum started. I feel like every time I've looked at the top, there have been 3 members of TZS respawning.
TZS, they've got the tower. They're moving towards the second checkpoint. This is where you said if you can clear it, the points start to fall quickly. It is 4-4 on the stage. Down goes a member of TZS, and that's going to be a big loss. Down goes 2, and that's going to be very difficult for TZS to absorb their Milana. They couldn't quite get to that second checkpoint.
And you know, sometimes you just have to cut your losses and move back, regroup, and you have to play with a calm, you know, mentality. You can't just keep running in because Laniakea, they're just playing so aggressively. They're stopping all of these pushes, and right now, TZS is going to have a great position to kind of move forward. Pepe with that Inkzuka, are they able to take one out? They are able to take one out, and this is going to be their opportunity to push forward.
TZS gets it back here, Zach, and now this is maybe their best opportunity if they want to get back into this one and extend this semifinal match.
Look, 20 is a pretty dangerous point to get to in this map. I think it's going to be something that TZS really has to focus a lot on this push here, and they've got the mentality, they've got the map control. They take out Nemeka. That's going to be one of your biggest threats down, but they have a disadvantage here as Smork will also fall. It's just going to be Pepe, but they get set upon by the high ground. That's going to lock down one of their better chances, and they may need overtime if they want another shot at this one.
It's a messy canvas here in Inkblot Art Academy. TZS not quite able to get there, and now the tower's being reset to neutral. But 9, the problem is now you've got the clock against you if you're TZS.
You've got the clock against you, and both the stage and the tower are in possession of your opponent. You've got to push all the way out there. Nice job by Vapor closing that out. Now needs to find Blob, but when long-range weapons go against each other, the one on the tower has a little extra defense. That little tiny piece, I promise it will protect you you if you use it right. This is all coming up Laniakea once again. The members of TZS have to start diving the tower, Jordan, and with 10 seconds left, it's not going to be pretty.
No, it's not. Laniakea looking for the sweep. They've got the brooms in hand. They're just waiting for the clock to go down. 2 seconds left. Tower's been wrestled back by TZS. It's overtime. Triple splashdown comes down and takes out a couple of members. 1 left. Trying to hang out up top is Pepe, just trying to stay alive, but they can't. And Laniakea closes things out with the victory. It's a 3-0 sweep. And just again, in the middle part of that game here, Milana, they were able to get past that second checkpoint, and that's when things can really go your way. And they did an excellent job fortifying the tower at that point.
They totally did. And like Nine said, you just saw so much chaos happening at that one straightaway. And you know what? Laniakea being able to push that tower as far as they did, using their specials, using their, just, I don't know, it was just like a dogfight there. It was really just everything was happening at the same time.
Yeah, it was really exciting. We'll update the bracket here in just a moment. A very exciting winner semis, but it's Laniakea with a 3-0 sweep. And goes to show you that once you kind of get on a roll here, Zach, you can find that moment in these matches where maybe it's back and forth the majority of the time, but when you have that opportunity to push, you've got to seize it because that could be the difference in a particular game.
And it's one of those matches where the scoreboard doesn't tell the whole story. You can look at a 3-0 sweep and say, oh, well, this was just a stomp. And it really was back and forth the entire way through. We didn't really see any emphatic knockouts or anything. It was Nemeka a lot of the time getting the clutch picks that you need to open things up, but that doesn't happen if they're not backed up by the sort of mid to longer range weapon, the Tri-Stringer, for example, helping them out, getting on top of things like on Umami Ruins or on here on Inkblot Art Academy to really get their back and make sure that nobody can sneak around the person who's trying to sneak around your enemy team.
We've seen 4 teams now here with BADVXLLAIN, Xiphias, TZS, and Laniakea. What have you learned from a couple of these teams so far in the early action here, Nine?
Well, I think what's so interesting about these 4 teams and really Splatoon as a whole is you've got to remember compatibility is a real thing. I mean, TZS was, based on the latter portion of this, our top-seeded team, and that's not, we ranked them number 1. They earned that spot by beating lots of teams in the ladder. But there are so many weapons in this game, and they all have a sort of alchemical nature to them when you bring them together. Sometimes the opposing team's best strategy, their best composition, just happens to really make life difficult for yours. I think that was a big part of it. It was a very short-range composition from TZS, and their opponents just happen to have a couple weapons that really make life difficult for them. The Carbon Roller, the Splatana Stamper, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Let's check out the bracket now that we've finished one of our winners semifinals here in the top 8. Event number 1, preseason week number 1 of the Splatoon 3 North American League. Laniakea with the 3-0 sweep over TZS. Duck Motif and BADVXLLAIN, they still need to go. You see TZS now down in losers quarterfinals. They'll await the winner of Xiphias and Mischievous Mog. Well, before we get to our next action here, we've talked about the community, we've talked about coaching and how important it is when you make that leap from casual to competitive, how you get there. Our very own Nine had a chance to catch up with one of the more popular faces in the community, our good friend Chara, as they had a chance to talk a little splat.
Hey everybody, welcome to a wonderful interview. My name is Nine-Hole Grains and I am joined today by Chara. You're known for your competitive play and things surrounding that aspect of the game, but do you play much table turf? Do you play much salmon run? Because I know a lot of players have really adapted salmon run as time's gone on.
I became a big salmon run fan in Splatoon 3. I really enjoyed how it plays in this game. The higher difficulty settings are really cool, and I felt like a lot of the rotations felt more fun. So I got into it a lot there, and it really helps for getting ability chunks and gear. So
Yes.
I spent a lot of time playing it to try to get chunks. Big Run became my favorite event, so I do that one a lot. I've played table turf enough to get almost level 30. I'm like level 29, I'm right there. I could probably get it on the plane on the way back. And then I've completed like 100% for side order and alternate. So I definitely play all aspects of the game a bit too, yeah.
I mean, your journey throughout this game has been really interesting too, because I knew you years ago, obviously, as a competitive player with a number of different teams. Then of course you got onto the content side, and now you're doing a fantastic job as a coach. So talk a little bit, I guess, maybe a sampling of what each of those roles has meant to your development here, what you've liked about them, because there aren't many other people who've taken the journey you have, and certainly not to the heights that you've reached.
Well, I think like I started where most people did, of like, oh, I want to be the world champion. I want to be the best player in the world. I'm going to play this game and get like really good at it. And yeah, I've got the closest I've gotten is second at the NA Championship in 2019. We lost 3-4 to FT Win. It was a very fun set. It's still my favorite tournament I've ever gone to.
One of my favorite I've ever casted.
And it's definitely been a lot of I feel like since Splatoon 2 onward, I've found a weapon I like, tend to play it for a while, and eventually something will change. And it's been a lot about realizing how I've changed as a player over the years and being willing to adapt and shift to what works well for me. Most recently, that's been playing support with Dreadringer and maybe Brella. Now that it got that big buff, I've been trying it out a little bit. Still
I've heard.
But switching to that more supportive playstyle recently has been a shift for me. So I think generally competitive has been the journey to be very open about how you play, what you enjoy, and being able to change things. It's important to get rid of your own biases and just accept what works at the end of the day. And I feel like that's been a big lesson for me. It's always a journey of self-improvement, and I just find that very satisfying to, feel like I'm constantly learning something. As a content creator, I got into it because of Dude. That SRP2 Dude obviously got, talked about competitive content, wanting it to get better, and I thought, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And I tried making content during when Splatoon 3 was coming out, and then things really went full steam ahead when the game came out, and I'm just very fortunate. I never really expected to take off this much at all when I started. It took me by as much surprise as I think everyone else, and I'm very grateful for it. I've had a lot of people come up to me at the event and say that I'm the reason they got into tournaments or come to the LAN or something like that, and it always gets me. The whole reason I do everything that I do is I really want the scene to grow and be the best place it can be, and I'm very glad that's been able to help people. I'm really, really honored for that. And then as a coach, that was definitely newer. I've done a lot of individual coaching every now and then, but I've never full on coached for a team. But I knew the players on Moonlight, and my previous team had just disbanded. So I was I like these players. I see the potential in their team. Why don't I see if they're open to that? And it's been really good. I've been coaching Moonlight for a little over a year and a half now, and they're the best team environment I could ever ask for, truly. They are amazing friends. We're able to talk about anything we need to. There's a consistent work effort and practice, and everyone is good friends. It's exactly the kind of thing you look for them, and I'm still really enjoying it. I've been balancing, playing some tournaments on my own when I get a chance with coaching them, and that's been going well. I've just had a good time, I think I'm in a spot I'm pretty happy with, and I'm mostly going to be coaching them for the league. I might be doing one of the weeks, I think, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how we do in that. I know they've been looking forward to something like this for a long time, so right now we're all very excited. The team is super ready for this kind of event, and I cannot wait to see how it goes.
All right, this is the big question. What has Splatoon meant to you through all these years?
It's really hard to just kind of summarize it in a small way. I really got to have more of a sense of community and meet so many different people than I ever really had before. Most of my friends and people I've gotten to meet are from this game, and I've gotten to help this amazing community grow and evolve. And not to mention the game itself also just being this really fun experience that constantly gives me something enjoyable to do, somewhere where I feel like I get to improve and work on myself as a player. And it's been a nice constant in my life that I felt has really helped me. And it's just the experience of being involved with a scene like this with so many amazing people in it. I don't really have the words for it. It's been absolutely life-changing for me, and I'm grateful for it each and every day.
Well, this has been an absolute blast here. We've had some fun, some laughs, and we've gotten to know you a little bit better, Chara. So thank you so much for joining us here for this interview.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to be here.
Oh, lovely stuff right there. And welcome back to event number 1 for the Splatoon 3 North American League preseason week 1. Jordan Kent alongside 9, Big Money, and Zach as we get set, marching our way through here through the top 8. And we're getting set for winners finals. And we've had a chance to see Laniakea. They had the 3-0 sweep in winners semis over TZS. But now we're going to see Duck Motif. And one of their best players here, 9, Red Shell, will certainly hunt you down.
Well, it's almost fitting, I think, that we've gotten to talk so much about the Octo Brush in some of our earlier sets here. Because in North America, you think of a top brush player. Red Shell has been doing it for a long time, even back when the weapon maybe wasn't viewed as favorably, very stubbornly moving all the way up through. And Duck Motif, this is a roster, again, that has competed on the big stage in North America, put the jerseys on, and fought it out against the very best, qualifying their way there. Drifty, another staple in this scene. They've got a big roster, only brought 4 of them here to fight it out today, but there's nothing about this bracket or this stage that'll scare this team. They've been here before.
Well, our first mode has been announced. It will be Splat Zones, and Milana with Splat Zones. A lot of times, whether it's 1 zone or 2 zones, how important is the start to a particular game of Splat Zones? Does it play a huge role in determining the winner?
I think totally. I think just being able to get your footing in the game as it starts, I think can really lead to a really strong, to be able to control the zones, to be able to kind of create that spacing that you really need to be able to kind of move forward with Splat Zones.
Let's go ahead and check out the bracket before we dive even deeper into this matchup here, because so far we have seen these teams march through here. Laniakea has yet to lose a single game. 2 sweeps. Duck Motif 3-1 over BADVXLLAIN as you get set for this matchup here between these two teams with Splat Zones. Duck Motif, as we mentioned, Red Shell, one of those top-level players here, and obviously you can't have one player carry a team sometimes here, Zach, but it does help when you've got an ace up your sleeve and you've got 2 equally matched teams.
Yeah, I think both teams kind of with aces. We saw the theatrics, basically, of the inkjet that Blob was able to provide in all 3 games that we spotted. Maybe that's your sort of title card if you want to look from a player v player perspective of Blob versus Red Shell, but it is a team-based game, and it does mean that we're going to have to see maybe some more aggressive play come out if Duck Motif's play is anything like their star Red Shells.
So as we get set, Splat Zones once again, we've talked about the beginning of it here, 9, but really once you have it, I don't think we've talked too much about what you need to do at that point. You secure it. How do you try to have that coordinated push to advance out of it and keep the other team from even trying to get to mid?
It's a great question, and it's so dependent on the stage, because there are some stages where you really do want to push all the way through. We saw in Umami Ruins where Zach beautifully laid out for you. Man, they just keep attacking. They can't get out. It's so difficult. But some of these other stages, you maybe only want to be somewhat measured. You want to go a little bit ahead of the zone, and a lot of times it comes down to how much turf is available for the opponent to build their specials. We've seen you got to build up your specials to break back out in that sort of set play style, build up 2, build up 3, but if it's a narrow map and you don't have those resources, that opens the door for you to continue attacking even after you've taken the zone.
And sometimes even if you fall down early, that penalty can be your saving grace here, Milana, because it just gives you a chance to exhale and almost regather your thoughts as a team.
Totally. And, you know, just being able to have that extra breathing room, well, you know, sometimes it just resets the mentality. You can be like, hey, guys, it's time for us to regroup. It's time for us to kind of move in together, build specials together. And I think having that kind of breathing room, I think Zach mentioned earlier, mentality is such a big part of this game.
Still awaiting the stage selection here for our winners. Finals between Laniakea and Duck Motif. And in the meantime, when you think about the timing of a push here, Zach, let's say you're locked out of the zone right now. You're trying to wrestle it back. Clock's ticking. What do you have to think as a team to have the most coordinated push to try and not only get to mid, but then secure the zone at that point?
Conventional wisdom tells you that the numbers advantage is going to be big there. You want the 2 or 3 down situation before you start pushing. You want ideally 1 or 2 specials online before you start pushing, but sometimes teams use those resources ahead of time, and that's okay. You're not just sitting there idle, for example, while you're on the tower or while you've painted the splat zone. You're off doing other things. You're building that special up natively after that, and as we get set for our next map here, Splat Zones is going to be right back on the menu, and both of these teams are going to have a shot to exhibit how they play maybe one of these most liked and toughest modes in the game.
Mako Mart is where we're going to be doing some shopping at here, 9. So why don't you give us a tour and tell us a little bit more about what to expect here with Splat Zones in particular at Mako Mart.
Yeah, once again, the teams continue to make this very easy for me because we've already seen Mako Mart, the stage. It was in tower control, but not a whole lot changes. Of course, the objective does, but this is a cross-shaped zone, and that can make it a little interesting when the real firefights over the zone start to happen here. Not so easy to capture all of it. There are some specials that will do the job for you. We may see a couple of them there, Reef Slider being the most infamous for that. But the fundamentals stay the same. You've got a stack on your left side of actual boxes, actual merchandise that you want to control, and conversely, you want to take your opponent's stack on the right side. You've got some flank avenues there and a lot of ways to go and attack the opponent around the right flank.
So I want to ask all of you, what's your favorite aspect about Splat Zones playing it? Because I know you get a chance to commentate it all the time, but when you see it come up in the rotation, what gets you so excited about Splat Zones? And let's get started with you, Milana.
I think I might, again, be in the minority in this, but I really like two-zone Splat Zones maps. I think it introduces a level of challenge because not only do you have to hold on to one of the zones while focusing on the other zone, you just have to be able to kind of work together with your team to play both a defensive game and an offensive game, and I think that's so cool.
You know, it's a mode that requires you not to take a tour of a map in order to succeed. We have recon mode for that, where you can walk around and take as much time as you need. Everything's focused on the center, just like we're going to get into the center of this Game 1.
Here we go. We've got Game 1 of our winners finals between Laniakea and Duck Motif. Splat Zones on Mako Mart 9. What aisle can I find the loadouts?
Well, you can finally find what I would argue is the strongest weapon in this version of Splatoon 3 right now, the Snipe Rider 5.8, the pencil as we call it. It is the ranged weapon that builds Tacticooler unlike any other. It's also got enough range that it can assist with its teammates as they start to move up and attack. Already out 15 seconds into the game, and away we go.
As we mentioned, the zone already claimed by Duck Motif as they continue to build up a little bit more of a lead, and Drift comes forward a little bit closer, and now they're going deep into the other team's spawn here of Laniakea, and they're controlling all the turf here for the most part here, Milana.
Yeah, and you know, they're doing exactly what 9 says. They're holding on to both the crates on their side of the map and on the opponent's side of the map. Namika using that sharking technique like we discussed earlier. And you know what? Having that Trizuka is going to create space. And, oh, unfortunately, Red Shell does go down. And this is going to be a really tough game from Duck Motif to kind of make it back there.
And Zach, finally Laniakea able to wrestle away the zone and took every special, but here they are now with the lead, Duck Motif threatening.
Yeah, Kai feeling confident enough to get off of the high ground and push a little bit forward. You have players like Chara who are trying to get the pick there on Vinok. They're going to have to settle for a trade, but it's going to be effectively 2 down for both sides here. Her reshot able to sort of support Laniakea with the Tacticooler, but getting displaced there by the 10 missiles for both teams. I think they're still trying to find their foothold in both this set as well as this game in general.
Yeah, Zach, you bring up a great point with how difficult it's been after these initial couple of pushes for these teams to actually find foothold here. This is where the Tacticooler battle starts to get really, really weird until one person can maybe get a jump. That player did definitely not get their Tacticooler out. That means they're going to take a much longer time on the respawn. Drift doing a great job moving through with that newly buffed 52 gal, just trying to find an avenue up here, get the wall down, make the jump in. They push the way that you want to, identify where a couple of these attackers are, and now Duck Motif in a great position.
Down goes a member of Duck Motif, but they're chipping away at the penalty. They still control the zone here, Milana, and now it's just a matter of trying to push out Laniakea. That'll be a little bit hard when you've got Blob up top, backing away from that Inkjet now, but Laniakea still not threatening as time ticks away.
And we do see Red Shell sharking there, waiting for some unsuspecting victim, and they are able to get a pick off of a member of Laniakea, and Red Shell jumping back, really making sure that they're kind of around the zone, and with only 9 seconds left on that counter, it's just, I think this is going to be Duck Motif's game.
Duck Motif, quack, quack with the knockout, and that was just surgical down the stretch there. Zach, for the most part, you saw Laniakea try to use resource after resource after resource. Couldn't build anything up. It's like me playing Catan, just no luck whatsoever. But finally, Duck Motif, you saw just one by one, exceptional one-on-one opportunities, multiple splats at a row. This was the team that was very technical. It was more than just Red Shell out there.
Yeah, and they're playing across the entire spectrum of ranges, of weapons, and of responsibilities, too. We've talked a good bit about Red Shell. The Octobrush is, of course, going to be in your face. I believe it has that great 3-shot splat potential. Then you go down a peg. Drifty also having, you know, even a 2-shot splat. That's so dangerous to go up against. They're protected a lot of times by the wall. And then you have sort sort of the Archangel on your shoulder, the Frozen, and the Pencil from Kai, which was playing a little bit more aggressively than you might even normally see. But that's what happens when the rest of your team can build up space for you. You don't even necessarily need to play the high grounds, which do give you the advantage. You just need to play the angles that are going to allow you to succeed. They liked kind of playing between those two sets of boxes. The merchandise, as Nine called it, that gave them great visibility to the zone and a great way to take game one.
And Nine, it really is a thing of beauty amongst all the chaos. When you have a team with a comp, everyone knows their role, and you just see it executed to perfection.
It's beautiful here. We talked about the Snipe Rider 5H at the start. The Pencil, as much as we like to joke about how strong it is, you still need to be positioned right because you are the most visible threat at any point, the loud threat, as some people like to call it. Then you have, as Zach pointed out, that Frozen Splattershot Pro, the Fro Pro as we like to call it, that has some range shots as well. And all that while you're saying, here's a threat, here's a threat. Red Shell's been waiting the entire time, sneaks behind you, and even if it gets a little bit ugly in that fight, then the 52 gal comes in to close out and start a big, big momentous push. You saw it there in Splat Zones. That's not even necessarily a mode sometimes where those big momentous pushes come out, but calling it a thing of beauty might be an understatement here. Duck Motif is sharp and ready.
They certainly are. Duck Motif had no issues whatsoever getting to winners finals here. It's going to be tower control on Hagglefish Market. So we do a little indoor shopping. Now we go to the marketplace for some fresh goods here, Milana. And what do you expect to see on this particular stage with tower control?
So on this stage, there are multiple checkpoints, and at every point, at every checkpoint, you are stopped in an area where the enemy can kind of fall on top of you. So you really have to keep in mind where the enemy is coming from. And with, on both sides, on Laniakea with that carbon deco and on Duck Motif with the brush, you really have to be aware of where these sharking weapons are going to be hiding.
Mm-hmm. You certainly do. And with tower control here, Zach, what are some things to keep in mind? What's going to be maybe our critical point of this particular stage where we see the action heat up?
Yeah, one of the checkpoints is going to drop you all the way sort of on the right-hand side of the map, right under this tight little hallway that provides a nice, solid avenue for the team to leave spawn. This is not going to be as difficult of a map to leave spawn on. You do have a pretty nice open court area in the middle. You've got sort of this curving side on the right, and then you have that upper little narrow hallway on the left, and that's right where the tower comes up to. So if you're coming back, if you feel like you're on the back foot and the tower's making its way over there, you have a high ground option, you have the ramp just below that as sort of a mid to low ground option, and plenty of opportunities for flanking through the two alleyways that are on the left and right hand side of the map. So kind of a flanker's paradise, if you will.
Remind me to get my driving directions from you next time. Beautifully described that there. My goodness. Now I feel like I can just visualize the entire map for the most part. And now you mentioned this loadout for Duck Motif and what they have in place, and I'm sure that works well no matter the mode, but how does that pair here with tower control, assuming they use most of the same weapons here, Nine?
I was kind of mulling that over in my head because maybe more so than any of the other modes, tower control is really reliant on having the right special at the right time. Sometimes it's a crab tank to ride the tower, sometimes it's a booyah bomb to wipe out the tower, but either way, that's usually how the pushes start.
I hear a bell, which means it's time now for Game 2 winners finals in this match between Duck Motif and Laniakea. Can Duck Motif extend their lead to 2-0, or will Laniakea come and take a game here? Zach, pen in hand, studying at the screen. What do you see with the loadouts here?
Yeah, so swapping from the vanilla 52 to the 52 deco is Drifty there, so they're going to have the splatter color screen. It's a pretty good map for it. It's going to provide them a nice solid wall of coverage there that's going to give them a bit of ways to stop Laniakea's visibility as they set up here. And her V-shot also liking this left-hand side alleyway. There is the exact effect of said splatter color screen. It's going to distort their screen color-wise. Drifty trying to get set up here, but Duck Motif finding some good map control early.
And Duck Motif takes the tower first, approaching that first checkpoint. They've got a disadvantage on the stage right now, 4-3. And 9 at this point, you're just trying to get to this first checkpoint. Zipcaster comes out, but they aren't able to push there. Well defended by Laniakea.
And you saw that they recognized that that push was kind of ending. They maybe left one person up, but when everybody jumps out at that point, that's sort of reshuffling the deck, saying, okay, you've got middle of the stage in control right now. We're going to build up our specials. You're okay giving up some points on this particular stage. As Zach noted, you've got lots of resources here. This first checkpoint typically falls pretty quick in most games. They're just trying to not make the big mistake early on.
Laniakea gets through the first checkpoint. They've got a 55-80 lead, and finally, for the first time in a while here, it feels like Milana, they're in control, but here comes Duck Motif, all juiced up, ready to make another push.
And they are juiced up. Red Shell looking for that opening to kind of hoping to get one, maybe 2 picks before Duck Motif is able to kind of safely move up. Drift using this drop right here, kind of camping it and making sure that the members of Laniakea is not able to drop down.
Nemeka with a beautiful splat with the roller, but down they go. Red Shell advancing forward as the Zip caster ready to roll. They're through the first checkpoint, and now Red Shell can apply some pressure, avoiding that auto bomb, backing up, being very wise right there. And so far, Kai on that tower. They are picking off members left and right, though, as they go down. Laniakea just trying to play a little bit of defense as Duck Motif here, 9. They're busting through the second checkpoint.
And this is typically the point of no return. Keep an eye. They're past checkpoint number 2. You saw they tried to get some bombs on to break it up at that part. Instead, now they've lost another member, and Red Shell moving forward. Tacticooler, watch out. If a couple more of them go, this game might end. Drift now moving back on the tower. There is one more checkpoint. Typically, it can be a formality. Nemeka maybe has given them an opportunity to continue their defense. A couple go down. There's maybe a little breathing room. No, it's just the sticker Splatoon stamper here as it's chaos around the tower.
1v1 for a moment there as everybody was spawning back, and Zach with under 2:30 left. It's Duck Motif just 19 away from picking up yet another victory here. They're applying more pressure with that splatter cutter screen, but Red Shell goes down. That's a huge aid for Laniakea.
Well, that's the double-edged sword of exactly where that tower was. You can jump to your right and have that sort of side part of the map right at your exposure there, which is good for the pushing team because you can get anybody that's coming that way from spawn, but it's also good for the defending team because you can hide behind that low wall to the left there. Unfortunately for them, Red Shell knew that strategy. Nemeka not able to get set up. Kai also going to fall. That's 3 down against Laniakea, and that might just be an extension of the lead as they get to checkpoint 3.
It's a near wipeout. Zipcaster going behind. Red Shell comes and does a trade. That's going to help their efforts as they are approaching the knockout just 2 seconds away. And yes, Duck Motif sends Laniakea to the canvas and takes the 2-0 lead here, 9.
Yep, that's what it looks like, everybody. I mean, this was, listen, when we saw the teams that were entering this and how they were moving throughout the portion of the ladder, we said, yep, there's Duck Motif, and if they're on their game, they should absolutely be one of the favorites here. And how long of a push was that? I didn't get the stopwatch out, but the very beginning, we said, okay, they've jumped out there waiting for their opportunity, and they kept the pressure up in one giant, long, extended push, making sure one person was left up so they could super jump back in, continue the pressure, cycle your specials. It's a thing of beauty.
And Milana, when you've got that opportunity where you're deep in enemy spawn for the most part, like we saw with Red Shell, and you can just stay alive and apply pressure, that is what helps sustain these long pushes, I imagine.
Yeah, so I remember the camera was on Red Shell at one point, and Red Shell being able to take out the carbon and immediately jumping out, regrouping with the team. Red Shell completed his task, and he was like, I'm out. It's time. It's time to go.
Yeah, we saw Red Shell definitely bounce when they needed to here. And so now, Duck Motif, you're up 2-0. Clam Blitz is coming up here next, and that's possibly an option by Laniakea to try and mix things up because you haven't had too much luck in the last 2 modes, which are, quote-unquote, your more traditional modes. Clam Blitz, though, mixes it up. If you're Laniakea, how do you try to bounce back into this match now that you're down 2-0?
You have to play into sort of the pure chaos that a mode like Clam Blitz can provide. If you want to be that more aggressive side of things, you really have to dedicate resources early to finding as many clams as possible, but that means staying alive for as long as possible, so you can't take the early firefights, the early engagements, especially the one-on-ones if you can avoid it. You might win them, but you don't want to risk it. If you want to play more passively, maybe you sit back a little bit, just try and get map control, hold on to it for a bit, build up maybe the 20-25 amount of clams, and then get somebody in deep that you can jump to. That, in Splatoon 3, is one of the tougher parts because you just don't have as many ways to get back there that you had in previous iterations like Splatoon 2.
And it is so interesting the different strategies you can do once you have a power clam, because you're exposed. Let's be honest. You don't want to be hanging on to it for too long. You're the shining beacon of come splat me for the most part. And so balancing that out with when you time that push, what are teams looking for at that moment when you get that power clam?
In a perfect world, you would have one power clam and everybody else on your team would have 7 regular regular clams, because that doesn't mark you for the opponent. But really, you'll see teams at this level try to take 2 or 3 out and use that as the door that's open here. Sometimes the best strategy is just making sure that the opponent is respawning. That'll give you enough time to make a push happen. But what I really like to watch is how these teams move after they've opened up the basket, because that's really, I think, where the top-level Clan Blitz teams move away. Sometimes you just want one member of your team to swim back to the center of the stage, grab some more clams, come back in, keep the basket open, and get a big sustained push. Not unlike we saw there in that tower control game.
Yeah, it is critical when that basket's open, Milana, because you almost want to space out your scoring opportunities until you've got more of your teammates around you, because we've seen it before. You'll get a good push, you're in the right position, and then you dump all your clams and get splatted immediately versus stretching that out a little bit longer.
Totally, and the last time that we saw Clam Blitz, we did see members of the other team kind of, shuffling the clams towards the basket, having one designated clam tosser into the basket. And, sometimes that's the role you just have to play. You just gotta be the guy to toss the clams in the basket.
There are people born on this earth to put clams in the basket. That is their calling right there.
That's my
you certainly
calling.
answer it.
It sounds like something that you would yell at someone, like a bad pitcher in baseball or something, just call him a clam tosser.
Well, the good news here, Zach, is we are completing our shopping trifecta. We started off at Mako Mart. Then we went to Hagglefish Market. Of course, we're going to spend some funds at Barnacle and Dime for Clam Blitz. Anything unique about this particular stage when it comes to Clam Blitz at all as we get rolling?
It's just a rather flat map. I mean, you'll see it here as we get into it. There's not much elevation to it. So, Nine pointed out earlier, you do have to go a fair distance to get to the actual basket. And look at the weapons that they're bringing as well. Both teams with a pretty dedicated backliner. You have the pencil and you have that tri-stringer yet again. But you've also got those offensive edge players, Nameca and Red Shell. But Red Shell swapped over to something different here.
Red Shell changing things up here 9 for the most part, and that's going to make things possibly interesting. A different weapon and one of the most important players in this game here between Laniakea and Duck Motif. Duck Motif up 2-0, but going back to the approach from Red Shell, anything you see that stands out?
Well, you can see up here at the top the loadout very different here on the Octobroche Nouveau, and we've of course called it out, and immediately that player does go down here. But one thing that did sneak that got buffed in the most recent patch was the Ink Storm. This is a long giant cloud that will drop ink on the opponents, and what you're banking on there is that all of the defenders are going to be near each other. You can sustain an attack, and it also has beacons, another way for your team to get back in, continue to attack, and sure enough, Red Shell puts one right down here and holding on to 6 clams. We'll see if they keep the basket open.
Oh, the Ink Storm, you can see it in the Pacific Northwest from January all the way through June as we get set. Early lead by Duck Motif as they continue to just dominate with this basket open. And when you talk about the coordinated pushes and being able to get 50 on the initial push here, that's huge, Milana.
It is huge, and they do get a couple more clams in before that basket closes. They do drop that tactical. But you know what? Even though the basket is closed, they are still in the enemy side of the base.
3:30 left, but an initial push of 53, Zach. Does that change the approach for the rest of the game here for Duck Motif as we see Chara just assisting and getting a splat on her V-shot? Blob trying to apply a little bit of pressure, but it's all about Laniakea just trying to get something going on offense, and they might have an opening here.
Yeah, Blob displaying again why they're famous for those inkjets. But to answer your question, you never really want to sit on your laurels, right? That's why Red Shell is helping to put down the Squid Beacon so that you can stay at the advantage here. With Chara getting that break again, they're going to have more opportunities to push that advantage.
Just over 3 minutes left here, and Duck Motif, they still haven't erased the penalty yet, but here it is, Nine. We talked about it, spacing out that opportunity to fill the basket. Even though they've got one member on the stage, still enough time for the teammates to get there.
Hey, points are points, and here the formula is really easy. Half of whatever you just scored goes back to you as penalty. So eventually, even if you make small scores, you're going to get an opportunity. Red Shell's still up and attacking and got a beacon down as well. So all that time that Laniakea had after they had taken those 3 members down, they just had to spend a little bit of it clearing out their own base. Look at this. Duck Motif is already back in the center of the stage right after they were 3 down. Nice job. They found some stability. Laniakea did get a power claim out of it, but this is a blue map. There's nothing to be done.
It's such a good point because the mid for most of the time has been covered by Duck Motif, but all of a sudden Laniakea, we just see it right now visually, Milana. They're starting to take over more of the stage, and this might be their best opportunity for a push until the Trizuka went down.
Unfortunately, that Trizuka not able to be so successful with the popping of their special. And all 4 members of Duck Motif up, 2 members of Laniakea down. This is still Duck Motif's game.
So 9, Duck Motif, they get another opening, and now they're just having a seafood bake here. They are just filling up that basket all the way down to 11. Just over 140 left. They don't have any clams yet, as you can see. Still sitting at 0, but they've got the advantage 4-2 on the stage, and essentially at this point, they just need to ride this out and make sure Laniakea doesn't go off all of a sudden.
Yep, the one thing you cannot be is passive. You can be defensive if you'd like, but do not be passive. Continue putting people up in the right positions to attack. Of course, anytime an Octo Brush can get an angle like that to go on top, it's nice. Go collect another one. Red Shell, who has been on an absolute tear this game, highlight reel, but Drift as well. Chara, these longer range shooters, Laniakea just hasn't had a great answer for them here. They've been doing such a good job, and a few more will put this one to bed.
Drift trying to slide into positioning, and this is going to be Duck Motif 1 clam away. They're looking for the sweep and then knockout all in one. Under a minute left. Can they get close? Laniakea just trying to give themselves an opportunity. They do. They will not go quietly in the night here, Milana, but under a minute left, a lot is going to have to go right for Laniakea.
Certainly, and you know, Laniakea is just going to have to play a perfect game in order to go from 100 to basically 0. They're going to have to make one really, really good push.
Red Shell just being patient, dancing around the pools of yellow ink, collecting clams. Ink Storm comes out for a little support. Here's Drift looking for the higher ground. Splash Wall comes out, takes down an opponent, and they want to get all of the opportunities that they can. Drift just hiding there, and that should do it. As the barrier breaks, then Duck Motif will fly into finals here after getting the 3-0 sweep over Laniakea. And 9, we said it. Beautiful when all the pieces are working together like a fine Swiss watch. It was very impressive. But for more on this, he's got up from the table. He's now over at the board to point out some of the key plays. We send it over to some shiny tips with Zach.
Well, welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much. It's been an absolutely fantastic set that we got to watch, and we saw Laniakea have such great success in winter semis. How did Duck Motif shut them down? Well, Nemeka was sort of the hallmark player for Laniakea, and this clip is a great example of how they were able to lock them down. You can see it in full speed. They get splatted here. Chara, kind of your star of the show, as they get not 1, not 2, but jump up for a triple there with the Frozen. Again, that pro-fro, as 9 was referring to, but it's not just them. Drift getting also kind of bothering this huge sniper perch at the top, and you can see Red Shell even starting right here on the zone. The zone is in that funky plush shape that allows you to sort of take odd angles when you're affecting it there. And now Nemeka, they're playing in commonly used sharking angles. They're in that alleyway, so of course that's some place that they're going to check first. Duck Motif, and now Chara taking this angle up and looking right at the boxes here. These boxes, especially the walls around them, are such common areas to hang out on and pop up only when the time is right. So they're just waiting with that exceptional range. And then Drift is going to come all the way up and around. They're going to watch the other side of that sniper perch, take down the last one, and that's going to basically be it for any Laniakea push that would have potentially been started by Nemeka. That's how they were able to lock down one of the more offensively minded players that we've seen.
Well done, Zach, as we take a look at our updated bracket, a man of many talents, and here we have it. Duck Motif headed off to grand finals, which means the bottom half of our bracket is set, and you see BADVXLLAIN will await the winner of TZS, who actually is up 2-1 at this moment over Xiphias. In the loser semis, we'll work our way through there until we get to grand finals, but Duck Motif looking very impressive. The only team to take a game from them, BADVXLLAIN, still lurking around at the bottom. And I thought it was really interesting there, 9, and Zach's explanation of things, of just how sometimes you get 2 teammates engaged on one opponent, and then one of them knows exactly when to break off and go flank on the other side.
Yeah, there's an old saying, the good players win 1v1s, the better players win 2v1s, because they simply don't get into a 1v1 that they don't have to. But Zach, you teed it up perfectly there at the start. How did this team shut down Laniakea? And I want to go back to, it's great that we watched Chara there on that Frozen Pro get all those shots off, because what did TZS not have in that previous set? They didn't have a ranged shooter. The longest range weapon they had was an Explosion, but the other 3 was a short-range splatter shot junior, a vanilla splatter shot that isn't super long range, and a tri-slosher. This time we bring out some longer range shooters there, and Jordan, when you have two shooters that have longer range than you shooting at you, I don't care how good at the game you are, it's going to be very difficult for you to escape.
It's simple geometry for the most part there. And so Duck Motif will get a chance to just kind of hang out in the pond and wait for somebody to join them in grand finals here for the most part. But Milana, you're a team that's now down in the bottom half of the bracket. You have to regroup. There's still a lot to play for here. You can get back to grand finals. Mentally, what's the approach if sometimes you have to deal with a little bit of adversity at this point?
I think what teams really need to focus on when they are going through adversity is just being able to regroup and really think about, okay guys, what did we do wrong? What could we change? How can we change our strategies to kind of combat what was going on in those matches? So just being able to kind of like regroup with your teammates, discuss with them and be like, okay, hey, sorry, like I dropped at this point. I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I'm be more mindful of that. So just being able to be more mindful of the plays that you're making and just working together as a team to kind of overcome that.
While we wait for our losers semifinals matchup to come here soon, Bad Villains awaiting the winner of the losers quarters here. Shout out to Czar in running the spectator cam, by the way. Just a tremendous job. It's a lost art, to be honest. Really difficult job of when to pinpoint between what player to go to or whatnot, and great to see Czar. They make the action so easy for us to follow as well, too. So we appreciate all that. And as we set the table here, one thing I noticed, we're very coordinated here. This worked out pretty well. Let's start with you here, Nine. Take us through your wardrobe selection, where you got the shirt from. I'm curious about. I'm not questioning. It looks great. No. It's a good little story behind each thing.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that the profile cam is on right now, because look at this sloshing machine. If you watched our splash tag, you'll note that I love the Squid Sisters, and I absolutely love the Squid Sisters, but I also had the 5-star sloshing machine on my shirt for that one. And, I mean, come on, right here. And you can see all the splats this weapon gets. Come on. I know you all watched the start of Splatoon 3. You know what this thing was capable of.
All right, so I am sporting a Splatoon jersey. It's a baseball jersey. I tend to, okay, thank you very much. I tend to frequent LANs pretty often, so shout out to my New York scene out there. And, you know, there was some people who were like, hey, I have too much merch. And I'm like, I could never get too much merch.
Too much?
You know what I'm saying?
Too much merch?
That's not me.
Is that biggest money that you were talking to at that point? Too much merch?
Oh, no such thing exists in my world. Clearly, I am flabbergasted here.
I don't even really know how to follow that up. This is just true to life. Like, this one is me, and these are all of my unfortunate solo queue teammates having to watch their tri-slosher die for the 10th time in the game. So it's a little bit true to life in a nice, simple, clean design.
I like it. Well, as we mentioned, we're having a lot of fun here on Saturday, but don't forget there's even more fun tomorrow as part of our Sunday Scrim. Whether you're playing solo or you're playing with a team, it's an opportunity for some salmon run. And we have a big run coming up here tomorrow, September 21st. Jump on in, have some fun, throw some eggs left and right, and get a chance to take on some exciting opponents as part of the big run here that gets going tomorrow. So once again, we're waiting for our winners finals, as we've talked about before. And the losers semifinals is what's going to be coming up next year. Bad Villain is the only team that has taken a game out of Duck Motif, who is now waiting in grand finals at this point. And at this moment, we've talked about endurance. We touched on that a little bit earlier here, Zach. And it's interesting if you're Duck Motif, you've played. Now you sit and wait.
Your high-level teams, you know, they're probably going to be used to this feeling. They get to a certain point, and usually that's winners finals, and you have to not get iced. You have to stay warm somehow. Some teams will quite literally hop into ranked and just play as a squad while they're waiting for tournament matches. You have to find a way, whether it's hand warmers or something else, to make sure that your mechanics stay strong and that your faculties are all there. For other teams, it's nice that they have a built-in way to stay practiced, but they obviously have the harder road. They're going to be playing more matches against tough teams. So both sides have their struggles, but Duck Motif, they've at least earned a little bit of a reprieve.
Well, we're going to take a quick little reprieve, but in the meantime, we have highlights from Riptide, one of the great community events from beautiful Sandusky, Ohio. Take a look as we highlighted some of the top plays from an exciting weekend amongst the Splatoon community. Well, the exciting thing is we got a taste of just how energized everybody is for the Splatoon 3 North American League, because we had a chance to go check out Riptide 2025 in beautiful Sandusky, Ohio, right off the Great Lakes. The fans were rolling in. They were amped up, excited to see some high-level play. The commentators, headsets on, ready to just discuss everything we were going to see. And of course, the players locked in, focused, and we bring you a slew of highlights from some of the best action over the weekend. In Milana, we begin with Zenith. Laniakea versus Moonlight, the Ultra Stamp signed, sealed, and delivered with a critical double splat.
And you see Zenith getting that amazing snipe with that Ultra Stamp. It just really speaks to the level of play. We see the teamwork coming out. The clip begins with Wave honing in and moving in, allowing Zenith to make that play.
And closing it out with a clutch throw to take out two more opponents and setting the stage for what was a very exciting losers semifinals. But then 9, we get to Laniakea versus FT Win, a little tower control, and for FT Win, you're scrambling towards the tower just trying to close this thing out to protect it.
Well, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, and right now, basically everybody that you see on this stage is an egg. Biscuit dives to fight with Wave, Sam fights Zenith here, and at the end of it all, it's simply Kyo and Thunder dancing on tower. Kyo gets the better of that, and they take the tower with 1 point left.
Doesn't matter as long as you get that win. Now we go to yet another matchup between Laniakea and FT Win. This time, it's Thunder. Staring the beast right in the eyes, all sorts of mayhem happening, jumps right into the firefight and is able to just pull out some incredible plays here, Milana.
I just have one way to describe this clip, and that's high risk, high reward, and that's exactly how Thunder's utilizing those splat dualies. We can see Thunder cleverly dodging the members of FT Win, even though the odds are clearly against him. Q jumps back into the action, decides, nah, that's not where I'm supposed to be, and immediately jumps back out.
Typically, when you hear Thunder, you're supposed to scatter. Apparently, the opposition did not get that notice because Thunder comes right in and creates havoc and then rolls up into that crab tank, and all it takes is a couple of pinpoint plays and some precise aim. Deploy your special, and you've completely flipped a game around. So Thunder and FT Win showing the part. Now, when you go slow-mo 9, you know you're ready for something epic. And as we are closing out splat zones, nothing slow about this reef slider coming in hot from Kyo.
Kyo is never slow, and look at this. Boom! 3 go down with 1 splash. That reef slider in splat zones is huge. And Jordan, I was in the crowd for these closing seconds of this game. This clip almost doesn't do it justice. They were standing up with time left on the clock. The crowd was losing it. The players were losing it as well. And whenever you see a Game 5 come down to these individual plays, this was a hotly contested set, one of the best that I've had the pleasure of watching. Look at how close Goss and Thunder were to getting away, but close simply won't cut it at this level.
Hop off the reef slider, pop off the stage. Then finally we close it out. Sam clutching out a win in zones. FT Win using every single member of their team. The personification of teamwork, all the pieces fitting together, and Sam being that last clutch play to get the victory for FT Win. And this is so high level. It's time for some shiny tips with our friend Zach. I know you were loving this one.
Well, this is an example of the never say splatitude that you need to have to win in these overtime moments. Laniakea basically is so close here to getting it. They have a perfect setup. Goss and Thunder are set up top, but they're behind a splat wall. They've just used a crab to back off the snipe rider on the right-hand side of your screen, and they're soon going to have Zenith coming in with an Ultra Stamp on top of all that for some hyper offense. But FT Win bunkering down. You can see how closely grouped they are together, but one person is missing, and that is Sam, camping the drop down, waiting for the members of Laniakea to finish using all of their specials and using that sticker Splatana stamper to get the important pick, get back to the zone, which is small enough where it can be taken back in a short amount of time. The sprinkler and the suction bomb helping out the cause, and with just a few seconds gone through into overtime, they are able to tie that series up at 1.
I guess you could say it was teamwork for the win. Well, as exciting as the action was on stage, what really made Riptide special were the people. Hey, look, it's us again. Jordan Kent alongside 9, Big Money, and Zach as we bring you our losers finals and semifinals just around the corner here. We've got Czar on the spectator cam that's going to give us a great view of everything here shortly. BADVXLLAIN is just waiting to see who they're going to play in losers semifinals right now. So as we bide our time for that, There's a lot of specials in Splatoon 3. Some of them are returning, some of them are brand new. We've had this conversation as far as your favorite special that you feel like gives you the best advantage at any given moment. Nine, let's get started with you.
Well, I started as a Slash Machine player, and these days I play the S-Blast 91. There's a commonality between those two, and it is the Booyah Bomb. Hands in the air, everybody. Give me your energy. And then you throw it down. You can clear a tower with it. You can throw it at a Rainmaker. You can use it to block any part of a map that you want. You can take a Splat Zone with it. You can do anything, and it gives you more HP when you charge it up.
Milana, your favorite special.
All right, so like I historically have been known as an NZAP 85 player, so I really do enjoy a good tacticooler, just, you know, cracking a cold one open with my teammates, my homies, my best buds right here. However, since Nintendo has come out with the Splattershot Pro Frozen, I do enjoy a good Tentamissiling. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
I mean, I'm kind of on the opposite end. I wouldn't pick Tacticooler or that because of how people might view me. I think those are pretty contentious specials at times.
Whoa.
I'm maybe more so on like
no.
the neutral ground, which not entirely neutral, but the triple ink strike is just a very nice, like, you know exactly what you're getting. You can choose the placement. It's not going to hurt too many people to play. You're not going to offend anybody by playing it. It's just right there in the middle ground. That's how I operate.
Well, thank you for asking, by the way, guys. Killer Whale 5.1 for me. I love my point-and-click adventures, so as soon as a special comes up, no thinking, just press the button and keep going along in my merry way for the most part. And so it is interesting how they all come together, because a lot of times we look at loadouts, and we're thinking of the main weapon and the symmetry there. Is there anything that goes into thinking behind the specials that a team has collectively?
Oh, I mean, we could do an entire segment on this, because it's so true that especially depending on the mode, you need the right specials that can directly affect it. I've already made the joke about Booyah Bomb, sometimes called the GG Bomb or the GG Booyah Bomb. You can throw it at a tower and everybody has to get off of it. That can end a game right there. But there's also the Reef Slider that you can bring out in Splat Zones. It's also really good in Clam Blitz here, but you need to coordinate with your team, as you kind of noted there. If too many people have the same sort of special, you're really leaving a lot on the table. You want something that can maybe open up a push, something that continue a push, but there's lots of options, as noted, so many specials, and one of the things I love about this iteration of Splatoon.
So, Milana, we can't go for Tacticoolers, just roll that deep and just making sure everybody stays hydrated?
You know, listen, I'm not here to yuck someone's yum, right? So if you really enjoy a good Tacticooler, if everybody on your team enjoys Tacticooler, I'm not going to tell you can't play that. However, I will say they don't really stack.
No,
so
they don't.
You know, I'm just here to commentate on the games, and if you want to bring 4 Tacticoolers, I'll have something to say about it.
Well, the good news is, if that's what you want to do, you want to bring 4 Tacticoolers and have beverages going left and right, here's the schedule. That gives you the opportunities to do that here. You've got the North American League show. We had our first episode. We had a lot of fun with that, as you can tell here. We have our next episode coming on September 26th. That's Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific. Then the North American League. It begins with event 1 that we're doing here today. Preseason is event number 2. And then the regular season starts on October 4th. It's going to run for 8 weeks, with event 10 concluding on November 22nd. After all those Saturdays, continue to get your Splatoon 3 fill by all means, please, because we have the Splatoon 3 North American League Sunday Scrim. Sundays at noon. It's a fun way, whether you're by yourself or you have a team, to be a part of some Salmon Run. I know Milana's going to be there. She's going to be having a blast. It's a big run, a chance for her to get some big money, of course. And then we go to the playoffs, December 13th, December 14th, possibly what all these teams are inking their way towards. We'll have a live stream on both those days as we wrap up an exciting first season of the Splatoon 3 North American League. And with that, we have our losers semifinals set and ready to go. It's going to be BADVXLLAIN versus TZS. And let's go ahead and check out the bracket. TZS 3-2, a close one over Xiphias. And you love to see those matches go to 5 games here. So, BADVXLLAIN, TZS, what do you expect to see here with the early preview 9?
This is an interesting matchup because we did not get to see this at the top side of the bracket. As noted, it was Duck Motif who sent BADVXLLAIN down to the loser's side. Now, BADVXLLAIN also the only team to take a game off of Duck Motif, so clearly a very, very strong team. They made short work of what's quacking, the other Duck team that's floating around at this pond. So certainly a strong team. TZS, I'm a little surprised to see them go to a Game 5 here again. This was the top seed coming into this after the latter portion, but TZS, a comp as we saw earlier, can really have certain difficulties depending on what the opponent's loading out. It'll be interesting to see the mid-set adaptation between these two teams.
Well, of course, Milana, these teams are getting a chance to watch this and see how the other teams are competing. And once you play against a team, you kind of have a feel for them, especially if they have an atypical loadout.
Totally. And you know what? I think TZS has a very unique loadout because, as we mentioned, they have a lot of short-range weapons. And, you know, they're really going to have to keep an eye out for some of BADVXLLAIN's mid to long-range weapons like that. Maybe a blaster might come out or an S-Blast might come out, and those can be really deadly against short-range weapons.
And Zach, as you look at this matchup here for BADVXLLAIN, we saw them early on, and it's going to be Clam Blitz out the gate as well, too. And so if you're a team like BADVXLLAIN, we've got Katz, Roman, Mox, and Jordan. What stands out to you about this particular team and what we're going to see here in Clam Blitz?
You know, you can take a couple of different avenues. You can even sort of build a hybrid style if you want to. I think an important component is obviously going to be, as Milana pointed out, with the 3 short-range aggressive weapons, you want to shut that down early. You don't want to let any of them get hot, let any of them really get online, and at the same time, you want to bother and displace that longer-ranged weapon, and you have a couple of options to do that. You know, from BADVXLLAIN could see maybe the S-Blast 91 or maybe more rapid blaster variants come out. That weapon especially is great at displacement. Doesn't get the one-shot splat always. The direct is not going to get the knockout from full, but it does its job at taking out whoever you need to from a position rather than out back to the spawn area.
The S-Blast 91 brings me back to a fonder time in my childhood here. What is so unique about it? Because we saw people go crazy when this was debuted.
Yeah, well, I think interestingly enough, the S-Blast is the first blaster that we have seen in the Splatoon series that has a variable firing mode. And that is unique for a number of reasons, but it means it's got a ranged component that when you are either standing still or you initiate the fire before you start jumping, goes a long distance, and then it's got an up-close, almost Luna Blaster-esque big burst at a very short range. But the important part is if both of them direct the opponents, they both take out in one shot. And that's really what that is meant to do. It's got the burst bomb to give it some additional mobility and follow up with other teammates. And then, of course, the Booyah Bomb. And we talked it up so much, I really hope we see it in this set because it is a dynamic weapon. Some people would say it's the best in the game right now.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I know you've got high praises for it as well, too, and a special connection with it as well. And, you know, going back to Clam Blitz, Milana, we've talked about how you can stack those specials when you come on in there and then defensively what you need to do. But early game in Clam Blitz, what's going through both these teams' minds if you're trying to get an early advantage here in Clam Blitz?
You know, it really is just going to be a defensive game. As you enter, you really want to feel out the other team, and you want to make sure that you kind of have that Clams advantage. Because if you, say, get a team wipe on the opponents and you don't have the Clams to make a push out of it, it really just kind of is a moot thing to do. So we want to make sure that when we are making the push that you are, you know, feeling out the team, you can get the team wipe at the same time that you have that Clams advantage.
And as far as when you get the power clam, because we know about the pity clam, you kind of don't have a choice right there, Zach, to be honest. But do you hover around 8 and 9 and wait for the last second to sneak and get that 10th clam to get the power clam, or do you hang on to it and hey world, I'm here, and then try to make your push that way?
It's a dangerous game. I mean, you could certainly play the sort of light to the fireflies mentality of, okay, we're going to use one person as the decoy, and we're going to send them all around the map and make sure that they can lure anybody that they need to over to one side. But more often, I do see teams kind of either quite literally playing pass with the power clam, so they're throwing it back and forth, both so that it doesn't despawn, and so you're changing who you're targeting maybe, who's having that power clam. And if you're building up maybe 2 or 3, that I think is the point at which you don't quite get the 8th one online yet. You can save a couple of people with 6, 7 clams and then have them ready to jump in, or build that power clam right before they jump in, or swim right up to the basket and then have that devastating double or triple power clam strategy online.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this before as well, too, Nine. I mean, it's a very complex topic as far as how many you hang on to, and it's something you've been passionate about as well.
Well, one of the things that's so interesting about Clam Blitz, at least in my mind, is there's always the threat of jumping that power clam in. So at the end of the games, I'm always looking to see, okay, will 2 power clams steal the lead back? Because that entirely changes the dynamic of how you have to defend. Maybe more than any other mode in Splatoon, where defending a tower is, you kind of know how you're going to do it almost every time. You can scramble around a little bit, but if you're up 21 versus if you're up 19, the entire defensive strategy has to change, because now you know one person jumping in could end it, and a lot of times they can land and throw that power clam in the basket before you can say anything about it, even if you're watching them. And trust me, that hurts. I've lost a lot of games for that exact strategy, let me tell you.
We'll be at Umami Ruins. We last saw this stage when it came down to Splat Zones as well, too. Now it's Clam Blitz, and talk to me a little bit more about this stage here, Milana. When you've got Clam Blitz, anything in particular that you have to keep in mind on Umami Ruins, or something that these teams are going to have to navigate?
So I wanted to kind of bring back that point that Zach made earlier about how when you spawn from your spawn point in this map, you don't have that much turf to work with to be able to build your specials to go back in. So combined with what we were talking about before, if the other team is able to make this push happen through a long period of time and maintain that control, it's actually really hard for the other team when they spawn to kind of move back and take control again.
Yeah, we're waiting for the last couple of members of these teams to confirm their selections. It'll be Clam Blitz and Umami Ruins. It's loser semifinals. It's going to be BADVXLLAIN versus TZS. BADVXLLAIN is the only team to take one game from Duck Motif, who has skated all the way to grand finals. And we've talked about BADVXLLAIN. You've got TZS with Smork and Pepe and Vapor. A little bit of different loadout here. And, are there any other weapons in your mind, Zach, that work well in Clam Blitz that maybe you wouldn't use for any other game mode, possibly?
Oh, I mean, for this map, I really would be looking forward to seeing an Octobrush. I think the Zipcaster can kind of do wonders here. I think it can fly around. One of the higher points on this map is that sort of cylinder where your typical charger or backline player, your pencil, might want to set up. So you could use that as nice elevation. There's a couple of other areas to set up, and so using a special like that's going to be great. As far as other weapons, again, the blasters, if you want to play, again, a more so protect the president style of game where maybe you just have the one power clam carrier, the Inkvac, again, underwent some changes recently, could be a viable strategy in this. You sort of absorb the incoming fire. You have that tight lane where the spawn is right next to the basket, where sort of if you get that 2 or 3 down situation that you're looking for, the enemies are going to be filtering in from. That could be one way to protect them as you get that first break.
Losers semifinals. Here we go, underway. We've had a lot of wonderful conversations as we prepared for that. And 9, go ahead and take a look at these loadouts. Do I see an Octobrush out there, possibly?
Well, you see an Octobrush, and you see a new dancer at the ballroom right now. Kraken Mare, one of the most... I don't even know how to talk about diligent. We will say
speechless.
Infamous. That's what we'll say. With the Ink Brush here, which is a weapon that a lot of people associate with Clam Blitz because of how mobile it is. It can work around and get clams from basically anywhere, and also can fire at people, get in and out, move around, make it difficult for the opponent to hit you, get up close to him, smack him a few times. They've already got 15 clams to the credit right now. Vapor here sitting at 7 will probably be the first to build a power clam, but TZS already taking another one out here. Now 2 go down. This is the way they wanted to start.
Oh, TZS hoarding the clams right now, being able to approach the basket. They threaten first, they strike first as well too, Milana, and that's how you get Clam Blitz started.
They do, and they're hopefully by putting down that bubbler, they hope that they could make a more of a meaningful push than 80, but oh my god, TZS down, and BADVXLLAIN already in TZS's base and taking the lead very quickly.
And Zach, that wipeout as soon as you scored, sometimes you risk too much when you strike first on offense and leave yourself wide open on the other end.
Well, and that gave BADVXLLAIN the opportunity to send that Kraken Royale forward. They were quite ready to go forward as they got that wipeout. They even saved their special for that initial push. Now, they're not going to get too much out of it. This looks like it's going to be more of a poking battle than a one-term offensive. Smork going to be able to get the pick there on Mox as well. And TZS, despite that, holding down the map control, which is so important on a somewhat smaller map like this one.
Pepe gets a little bit of help from their teammate. Then down goes Pepe. It's still 4-2 advantage TZS here, 9, and an opportunity for them.
Well, more than an opportunity. Look at this. Already down to 43. They're jumping in right now. That means they're probably jumping in their pity clam from their earlier defense all the way down to 23. The triple splashdown lands. I don't think it found anybody. The threat is not yet gone. Pepe dancing with cats here. A trade and a wipeout, but all the way down to 11. What an explosive push here for TZS, and I'm starting to see why they wanted to come to Clam Blitz.
And TZS does have the advantage here with under 3 minutes left to go, and that can shift their mentality here, Milana, because now you could possibly focus on defense until you really have all your resources gathered.
And I just wanted to bring back what Nine said. We don't want to play passively. We just want to play defensively. So if they choose to do that, that is totally fine. But we want to make sure that they don't let BADVXLLAIN kind of have standing here, that they aren't able to take too many clams, and you know, this tactic cooler coming out. BADVXLLAIN, unfortunately, power clam holder going down, and this is maybe going to go back in the favor of TZS.
And this is tough here, Zach, because it's 4-2 for a moment with 2 specials. The advantage for TZS, they've got the lead, and they were able to push BADVXLLAIN out of there.
Yeah, for BADVXLLAIN, holding on to 2 power clams, no fear. A random splat bomb at the top of the median there, 1 fear. That is absolutely what shut them down there. So unfortunate that they had a great setup ready, and they still are kind of set up. They just need to wait for their Octopus to get back. They are going to expend Jordan. I think they heard you, both teams, with a killer whale online here for this game number 1. BADVXLLAIN going to use theirs as well, and I think TZS doing a good job of what's called layering their specials to where they're not expending them all at one time.
Down goes Mare, so Smork trying to provide a little bit of backline support. Kraken Royale comes in and chases them out of there. They have to retreat. Power clam ready to go. Down it goes to the triple splashdown. And again, no luck in mid so far for BADVXLLAIN. They can't quite get back into this one. They've got the basket open. They're going to have to hustle. Roman goes down, and also the opportunity for some points.
Yeah, they overstayed their welcome a little bit there. You saw that they didn't want to quite back all the way up off that central median, maybe see if they could get a couple of their jumps in. TZS was already moving forward at that point. You saw the jumpers got camped, and then even the player who had the power clam at the time still got collapsed upon. This is simply too quick of a composition with too many bombs going around everywhere from this composition for you to wait too long for your moment.
Just over a minute left. TZS in full control. Both teams having to deal with the penalties, so if you're BADVXLLAIN, you're going to have to do something substantial very quickly here, Milana.
BADVXLLAIN is going to have to work quickly. There's, like you said, there's only less than a minute left, but unfortunately, they keep going down one by one by one, and Smork with the power clam able to punch into that power clam basket again. And you know what? They are able to take that score all the way down to 0.
TZS finds the end zone, and they take the very first game in this loser semifinal match over BADVXLLAIN, and we saw it. It was that second push that they had there, Zach, where they're able to just get it all the way down to 11. And you talk about coordinating things, controlling mid. They did everything they needed to take the most that they could in that second push.
Well, and the last push there may be indicative more than anything of their play style up to this point. 24 clams to their name when they only really needed 11 to get going. That's part of why, even though there was so much carnage below the basket, they were able to make it worth despite losing a couple of members there. So I think they kind of maybe planned for that contingency or just had so much map control that they could kind of roam around and get as many clams as they pleased there. But if that is going to be how dominant these sets look, I think we're going to really need to see a change coming out from BADVXLLAIN if they want to hang on.
And sometimes that's a strategy there, Nine, where if you realize the other team needs a lot of clams to get back in, why not hoard them for yourself? Take all the resources away, right? Worked for the Boomers. Here it is in this situation.
Yep, sure did. Sure worked great, Jordan. It's well, no. To your point, that is one of the things about Clam Blitz that is so interesting. The clams spawn in little pods. You could kind of call them of 3. So that means that if you have control of the bulk of the map, there just aren't any clams. They don't spawn that close to spawn areas too often. So you can control around. You can even toss them off the map. We see some people do that towards the end of the game to make sure nobody can get them if they drop when you get taken down or something along those lines. But the moment we saw Clam Blitz and the moment we saw Kraken Mare get subbed in on that ink brush there, the stars started to align. That was a dominant game from TZS from start to finish.
It really was. And so Rainmaker will be our next mode. We go to our resident dunking expert, Big Money here. And we haven't talked to quite about the start to Rainmaker, because a lot of times getting to that first checkpoint makes all the difference in the world, because now you can push so much faster that second opportunity you get.
So I think you really have to be strategic about how you approach the Rainmaker first. You really have to look at the enemy comp, because if the enemy comp has much more turfing power, you might not be able to compete as far as popping that Rainmaker for the first go. So you want to say, hey, is it time for us to step back, let them pop it, and then we will kind of move forward from there? Or are we going to fight for the control of the Rainmaker?
Yeah, it's a bit of a cat and mouse game sometimes here, Zach. Do you want to take it first and expose your team possibly, or do you think you can have a better counterpunch once you can scatter and eliminate the other team?
Well, and I think some of those thoughts are actually going to trickle over into Rainmaker. It's very much that same strategy of there's a lot of times when you break the Rainmaker shield, that cat and mouse game, it comes right back to, okay, do we want to just set up and get map control? Do we want to try and make an early push on Clam Blitz? It's something where we saw teams kind of be sitting on 16 total. They had 2 power clams, so 16 total clams, and they were just kind of dancing around, looking for the right opportunity to push forward, hiding behind the little tiny boxes that don't give you a ton of coverage. So it's another pretty high-risk strategy because you're spotted out that entire time. They know exactly where you are, and with a lot of their weapons, they can find you. So with Rainmaker, they're going to have to play extra careful to make sure that their Rainmaker carrier is not caught out too early.
Undertow Spillway makes its debut for the day here, and you say, of course, and why is that?
Again, when you talk about certain stage and mode combinations that roll off the tongue, Mako Mart zones, tower control, Inkblot again, and of course Undertow Spillway Rainmaker. This is, I would say, maybe the most commonly played Rainmaker stage mode combination that we have in the Splatoon community, and it's because of how dynamic the push can be when it goes around that far left side. Zach, you had a term earlier, uninkable surfaces, and there are some parts of certain stages that you actually can't get. So when you go that far left side, there's a pedestal over there, and then there's one quick sprint to the finish where you can eliminate points very quickly. Of course, the opponent knows the attack is coming from there, so the defense comes from there, but I would say it's one of the few stages in this game where you can really pick your poison in terms of which way you want to push. So
is this one where you're trying to sprint and take control of the Rainmaker immediately, or is it just you play a little bit more patient and then find that best opportunity to seize control?
Yeah, one of the reasons why this gets played so much is because the pedestals are very far apart compared to a lot of the other stages here. I think sometimes on the right side you have a more exposed and open. On the left side, you're really far away from the opponent's spawn. So I think you take the sprint if it's open to you. Otherwise, you go for the spot where you can defend your Rainmaker carrier more, especially once you've got that first checkpoint down.
It's a bit of a narrow stage at times here as well, too, Milana. What are some of the key points outside of what Nine mentioned that these teams really want to make sure they try and control as we get set?
You know, I think the key area of this map in particular is that middle section right there. There is that median that divides the middle section into 2 parts, and I think when you have control of both of those parts, it really limits the way that the enemies can kind of go towards into your base. And you know, like Nine said, that there's 2 different, very distinct paths for Rainmaker, so being able to make sure that the teams can't go in, key.
Undertow Spillway, the side of Rainmaker, Game 2, loser semis in this match. TZS leads by 1. My good friend Zach, gazing at these loadouts, any changes that we've seen from our last game?
Well, there's the S-Blast that we were talking about, so it's not going to be a Rapid Blaster. It will just be the dominance of a weapon that has really stayed at the top of that proverbial meta that you mentioned, the Burst Bomb and the Booyah Bomb, kind of that combination, able to help back off enemies as you want to, but an early start for BADVXLLAIN, getting both the Splatter Shot and the Custom Explode, the Ink Brush shortly to follow. Surely a push will too.
BADVXLLAIN trying to do some villainous deeds to start things off and quickly squashed in the middle of the stage, and now it's up to TZS to try and bounce back. They've got 2 specials ready to roll, 2 also for BADVXLLAIN here, Nine.
Yeah, and one very powerful one, Mox. We really didn't get to say this player's name at all during that last game after saying it all of that last set and even jumping out with the recall of the Zipcaster at the exact right time. Already through that first checkpoint here, and they're already set up with the right players in the right spot. You see a couple people trying to flank from back behind, but they'll go forward, they'll grab it, try to get a few more points. Maybe a little overzealous there, though. 57, not bad, but you know they're looking for more.
So BADVXLLAIN getting past the first checkpoint here, Milana. We see TZS, the big bubbler, come out. Roman up top here on the grades. Killer Whale is going to try and provide a little bit of pressure as Smork dodges that. The Rainmaker tucked in the corner by that first checkpoint. but it's the advantage for TZS on the stage right now. 4-2 with 2 specials is a chance for them to possibly seize momentum here, Milana.
And you see here TZS taking control of both sides, again pushing that Rainmaker towards that safer left path. Smork holding on, using that big bubbler, hoping to give a little bit of cover, and Pepe with that Trizuka, hoping to get one, maybe 2 picks, and this might be TZS's chance to get the lead.
Pepe and TZS, they take the lead after getting through the first checkpoint. What a push! They're looking for the dunk. They want that knockout. Wow! Just like that, TZS busts through the opposition. They take game number 2, and this looked like Zach BADVXLLAIN was going to possibly control this game, but no, TZS had something else to say about that.
Yeah, funny enough, there's also a Horseshoe of Death on this map, and they opted not to take it. So you can go around to the right and take an uninkable path if you feel like you don't have the wherewithal or the support to make it through. But there was a lot of specials expended to get to that point. They had the big bubbler right on top of that first pedestal. They had the Trizuka right behind it or to the left of it to make sure that they had enough range. Even though you're so far away from that spawn, they're filtering in actively as you go in. And nice job there by the Rainmaker carrier to just kind of duck, dodge, dip, dive, and dodge their way right to the Rainmaker pedestal.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a special if you're trying to get your way to the final podium here. That's a reference that might go over the head of 60% of the Splatoon community. It's all good. And so, as we look at this next opportunity here, BADVXLLAIN, we thought they were going to have a chance here, 9, to possibly even this up, but TZS with a swift knockout. And now mentally for BADVXLLAIN, here you are. You're hanging by a thread. You're going to get knocked out of the top 8 here if you don't pick up a game here soon.
Yeah, and this is also the time if you're going to reach into your hat and pull out a rabbit, you want to go with something that you think the opponent has absolutely no chance on. And folks, I'm being told by production we have Turf War to show you all the 5th mode that was promised. It's here. Hey, when your back is against the wall and you've got nothing left, you've tried Clamblitz, you've tried Rainmaker, you feel like you can't keep pace with them in the more measured modes, let's go back to where it all began, baby. Turf War.
You want to explain what it is?
Oh, yeah, sure. I guess I just assumed here. Listen, if there's ever a mode that's simple, it's this one. The stage, you want it your color. It is 3 minutes. It is the only mode in Splatoon that the game is ended and then they take the score at the very end based on your turf control of the entire map. So teams are going to trade back and forth a little bit. They're going to maybe kind of hold their specials for one climactic moment. Watch out when 30 seconds are left on the clock. That's when the fireworks are really going to start to fly.
And that's when you really have to make sure you just stay alive, Milana. Don't get splatted, sent back to spawn. Those last 30 seconds are so critical in Turf War.
It really is so critical because you want to spend every moment turfing the ground. You don't want to spend that time being able to respawn or just having to wait. You might see a tacticooler and you might come back instantly, but we want to make sure we stay alive because when you are alive, you are able to turf, and when you are able to turf, Judd is going to be like, you did good today.
Yeah, Judd's opinion going to matter at the end of this one. Normally before we understand the result here for the most part. Weapons. This changes everything here, Zach, because there are some weapons that are very good at inking turf and really doing just that for the most part. What might we possibly see here?
Well, one of the most famous or infamous weapons that we have for is going to be the Reflux, which did get a new variant recently as of 10.0. So multiple different ways to use that very short range, short string bow, if you will, to really lay as much ink at your feet as possible. There's also much more classic weapons like the Splattershot Junior that you can just throw ink everywhere. Even my beloved Tri-Slosher has a niche in Turf War where you can just throw ink everywhere. And I was going to mention, too, the first 2.5 minutes don't get talked about enough. The last 30 seconds so important. But if you don't have a dedicated objective to focus on, it can feel a little bit like time creeps up on you. When the whole map is the objective, you have to be very cognizant of your time and how you set up before that final 30 seconds.
A dedicated objective or else time creeps up on you. That is some life advice right there that Zach is dropping. Make sure you've got that objective in your North Star here. That is a man with experience. So, first 2.5 minutes here, 9. How much are you focusing on splats versus, hey, this is my area of the stage. I'm going to make sure it stays this color. Everybody else stay out.
I think it depends a lot on who you want to protect. And I know that may seem a little odd given that, again, not really an objective that's carrying the Rainmaker, but as Zach noted earlier, there are some weapons that are made specifically for one job only, and that is turf, turf, turf. So you want to make sure that if anyone is still up at the end of a big scrap, that is the player who is still up. Because, again, as Zach noted, the last 30 seconds are important, but where you are going into those last 30 seconds is a huge deal, especially on a stage like Barnacle and Dime, again, where there's only one real avenue to the opponent's side of the stage. Certain parts of this get raised. That's a lot of turf that is inaccessible to you. You've got to protect it until those 30 seconds.
Milana, when it comes to turf war, and you have to choose a weapon to go into a turf war battle with, what is your top choice for you individually?
It's gotta be the arrow spray.
Yes, arrow spray. And here we go. Game 3, losers semifinals. These loadouts 9 at Barnacle and Dime Turf War. What a wonderful combination we have. What do you see?
Well, there's the reflux. Zach promised it. Jordan also switching over to another favorite of mine, the heavy edit Splatling here. So we're still getting to our Tacticooler one way or the other. Also just a strong weapon. The S-Blast is out as well. And interestingly enough, TZS is bringing a Splash-O-Matic Neo to the battle as well. That's going to, as you see, immediately pop a couple of Ink Strikes. Move forward, take a couple out there. Another great turfing class and a great turfing weapon.
And Milana, with the specials, is Turf War a mode where you always want a special that's going to be inking a lot of turf? Or we saw Killer Whale 5.1 come out, a Tacticooler. Does it not so much matter what that special is?
I think it really does depend. Like, the Tacticooler is going to be something that we want to see because we want to be back into the action as quickly as we can. But we also want to consider that there are specials that you can use as the clock is ticking down to 0 that you can use so that, you know, when you toss that Tri-Strike, it's not going to be able to be turfed on again after the match is over.
TZS controlling about 70% of the map at this moment, and now you have an opportunity here with BADVXLLAIN and Roman behind that splash wall, backing up, avoiding that Trizuka. And so far, neither team able to wrestle control of this map. It's going back and forth here, Zach.
Yeah, it really is. You have the Tacticooler set up for BADVXLLAIN. Again, just this map is one of the tougher ones to get out of spawn on. Now, again, thankfully not happening around the 30-second mark. Cats, in fact, hanging on to that Booyah Bomb when it feels like they finally have a foothold. They were marked up until that point, their location spotted out, but there's only so many ways that you can leave spawn, and BADVXLLAIN not able to find one that TZS is not covering.
We continue to look at a map of the stage in one of our monitors, and now it's starting to get a little bit more 50-50 here, 9, and you have a nice little push from BADVXLLAIN as Roman's advancing forward, getting a little bit of help, and they have the 4-3 advantage on the stage.
And their Tacticooler, and I know I keep saying it here, but it really changes how all these engagements go because Cats' Tacticooler there is going to be back here faster than Pepe was. I know it's a blaster, but that does mean that they'll continue their pressure, moving forward, jump back in and use that Booyah Bomb, force the opponent back. I'm amazed at how patient they've been here. I thought that they might move forward and really try to take a couple out. Instead, they've waited, and Kraken says, hey, maybe you waited a little too long.
Milana, 40 seconds left. BADVXLLAIN's still in the lead, but now Mare trying to advance forward, and this could be where TZS with the special ready to go, and they take down 2 members of BADVXLLAIN, might stage the comeback.
I think this might be TZS's opportunity to seal the deal. They are moving forward. We said with the 30 seconds left on the clock, we're going to see a little bit more aggression. We're going to see them moving in, Pepe going down. But, you know, we do see that danger sign on BADVXLLAIN's side. They're going to have to make something happen.
14 seconds left. TZS trying to wrestle it away, but an opportunity for BADVXLLAIN. Roman's going to have to make sure they get the splat. Roman gets the win. 6 seconds left. BADVXLLAIN, can they do enough down the stretch to possibly take a game? 2 seconds remaining. It's going to be up to Judd. It's going to be awfully close because there was a clash for mid in the middle. Let's go ahead and see what Judd has to say. Ooh. This is one of the tricky ones. And it goes to TZS. They were able to do enough down the stretch, and they get the sweep. Zach, that was exhilarating. And what a match that we had between these two teams. What are some of the highlights from it?
Well, and I think we need to break it down by using such a small section of the map when you have so much real estate to work with. It's so funny how everything gets condensed. Look at how little of an area they're playing on here. Look, there's all this map over here. They're not using any of it. That's why this pedestal right there is so important. As we play the clip and go through what Smork is doing, their job is breaking apart this splash wall. You see they're on the sort of Horseshoe of Doom again, the uninkable area, expending the Killer Whale 5.1 and playing that more so security guard aspect, guarding their team as they push forward. And Roman using the range to try and get Kraken Mare. The Rainmaker carrier does go down, but still all of this concentrated in this tiny little area. But you can see that defender-sided wise, TZS still with the high ground advantage. So over here and up here, they're basically not only able to see everything, but predict which of the two major paths that they might want to go to. So BADVXLLAIN could either go toward this back bridge right here or around this horseshoe. And we know what they opted for. They opted for the bridge to try and push it forward. And that's how, of course, TZS was able to claim this one. But just looking at a push like this one shows you that, again, even with a 3-0 on the match score sheet, it was not always that far apart.
Zach, well done. As we check out the bracket, thank you again for the expert breakdown. We're going to have a rematch in losers finals. That was in our winners semifinals. Laniakea had the 3-0 sweep over TZS, but remember, it wasn't that close. It was closer than it actually looked in that last matchup in winners semifinals. So an opportunity for TZS to get some retribution when it matters the most. Losers finals is coming up here in just a moment between these two teams. And so you get into a situation here, Nine, where you are Laniakea. You won last time. You don't really change anything, but TZS is the team now that's going to make the adjustments.
Well, I've wanted to talk about this, and I'm happy, so happy that TZS has made it back this far. Because what was the variable that changed in that last set? It was Kraken Mare coming in on the brush. Now, DRF, a proud Tri-Slosher player here, and a strong one too, and I salute you for playing that weapon. That's not always the most fun when you're the first one into every fight. But the dynamic entirely changes when you have an Ink Brush on your team. Suddenly the mobility is in your favor. Suddenly you have a special that Jordan noted. He just put it down. That Killer Whale 5.1 is going to do the job for you. But it also gives you a lot of splat bombs, and especially in that Umami game last time, we were like, wow, that Splat Bomb sure is getting a lot of people down here. It's the true great evil. We talked about main weapons and special weapons, but the sub-weapons, don't forget about them, especially that one. So in that last set that they played against Laniakea, they were getting outpaced. They were getting jumped upon by the short-range weapons. Now you've brought the fastest weapon maybe in the game now to this fight here. It's certainly going to make this look a little different if they stick with it.
And we played against Ink Brushes a lot here, Milana. It is really difficult when all of a sudden you have this distracting fly buzz by you with a brush, and it diverts your attention. And that mobility point that Nine brought up, that can change so much, especially in some of the objective-based games that we have here.
Actually, I've had the misfortune of playing against Kraken, and really it just, like you said, infamous is a great word to describe the way in which this player plays. And it's just, like you said, it will make it so that your team's momentum is just moving faster. You move faster towards the objectives. You move faster past the objectives, and being able to shark, being able to take out other members of the opponent team. It's just, yeah. That's it. That's it.
Turf 4 is coming up, and this was a mode that was not played the last time Laniakea and TZS faced off against each other in winter semis. So now you take a look at this, and we just saw TZS with a come-from-behind victory on Turf War. Dabble a little bit more on the first 2.5 minutes and why that is so critically important for setting things up for the closing stretch.
Well, think about the way that we've looked at each team, right? Each team has kind of had a standout or star offensively minded player that comes up in those big plays. Even in Turf War, where you don't have a dedicated objective that you see on the map. Again, the map is the entire objective. It's still so important to shut them down, to not let them get hot, and to take important space that would prevent you later from getting out. Again, that spawn area, if you go to a map where it's difficult to get out of spawn, if you let that player get into position, it's not going to matter really if it's 45 seconds in, if it's a minute and a half in. They're going to wreak havoc on you and give you such little time to adapt and use whatever specials you've brought. No matter how many inking specials that you have, it's going to be such a time crunch whenever you get back to the middle of the map that you are going to be frazzled, essentially. So shutting down those offensively minded players while still looking out for the mid to long range ones is going to be key regardless of what you're playing, and especially on these Turf War matches.
What does a coordinated push look like in Turf War? Is it the same thing in Turf War as it is in the other ones? I mean, are you going to be a little bit more spread out because the objective isn't some singular thing in the middle? It's just covering as much turf as you possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, you're always coordinated, at least in theory, right? You understand that we all have to work together when an opponent runs forward and tries to attack us here. We've got to get some damage on them before they get right next to us there so we can clean them up at a certain point. And I see a lot of it also look like Clan Blitz, where you really have to control big swaths of each stage in order to build up the resources that you need. So it's coordinated in the sense that everybody knows what they should be doing. It's simply a matter of executing it and responding when your teammates either need help or when they've done their job right and now you get to move up with them. So it is a little different, though, you're right, than you'd see in a Rainmaker or in a tower control.
And it's a really good point because Turf War is kind of the unicorn of all these modes here for the most part. It isn't, you know, we've talked about Clan Blitz being a little bit different as well too, but Turf War, everybody can chip in on the objective at any given point, and you really don't want to congregate in the same area too much of the time as well too.
Right. Getting splats is not the goal in Turf War. It is nice to get the splats, and you know, you are playing for turf, and getting splats means you get more turf, right? But that's not our goal, right? So we have to just be strategic in how we play. We have to be strategic in when we push up and even when we back away, because, you know, not unlike other ranked modes, Turf War, when you back up, it is kind of easy to move back if you have that turf advantage. So being able to kind of be cognizant of that is really important.
All right, Zach, Turf War, you got to bring one weapon in. What are you looking to bring?
I mean, I think people would know it's going to be the Tri-Slosher at this point. You know, I feel more like a supportive player in nature. I've taken behavior styles quizzes. I am a supporter. So I think the Tri-Nouveau is going to be my bread and butter here. I'll bring the Tacticooler in. There's not one with a triple ink strike, unfortunately, or maybe I'd be bringing that. But not as keen on the Aerosprays as Milana is, for example.
And how about you, Nine?
Reflux. It's like, what's the top tier weapon? Bring that, everybody. I do want to point out that it is TZS that has picked this. Mm-hmm. And I find that very interesting given, again, that they don't really switch up their comp for anything, but they really changed nothing when they played Turf War last time, and I believe that time it was brought to them on the counter pick. So interesting to note that they have chosen Turf War to start this out. They're probably not going to change their composition up at all. I think to your point, Jordan, they said, hey, last time we played against this team, these other modes, that's a wash, get them out. They'll take us to it eventually. Let's take them somewhere where they probably feel very, very uncomfortable.
And right now it's going to be Turf War on Urchin Underpass. And so looking at this stage here, sure, Nine, you just talked. You had the biggest expression or reaction to it. Let's go into you.
I'm a little emotional here. Turf War on Urchin Underpass, for a lot of us, was the very first stage and mode combination we ever played Splatoon on. In 2015. How can you? It's stunning that it's back. How can you not get a little emotional? Come on. Come on.
And obviously, it does bring back a lot of nostalgia as well, too. And Milana, when you get to Urchin Underpass, we have to keep in mind this particular stage on Turf War. Is there any area that you're trying to get to in those final 30 seconds?
Yeah, so I think what is important about Urchin Underpass is that there's this extra paintable area towards your base that you just can't forget about. And, you know, one of the strategies that a lot of teams like to utilize is they will take their most strong turfer and they will take the time to turf around their base. So just making sure that you don't miss that giant chunk of turf, I think, is so valuable.
Waiting for just a few more members to confirm their selections as they get ready for their loadouts. We've got Turf War and Urchin Underpass. It's losers finals. TZS versus Laniakea for a chance to go against Duck Motif, who had essentially swept their way all the way to grand finals here. But an opportunity. You've got some momentum here for TZS, you could argue here, Zach. You're not even looking at what happened in winner's semis when you got swept by Laniakea. It's a whole new match now.
Yeah, and they have sort of this option at their disposal, and I love that we're actually getting to see this exact combination, Turf War, Urchin Underpass, because this is a huge map. And on basically every other mode, you don't really get the full scope of just how big this map is. There's tons and tons of random space. There's a little sniper hallway at the top left. There's all this space near your spawn that you can use, and Turf War will actually make full use of it. So nice to see this instead of something like Zones where you would, again, just be set in mid, and the discussion would more so be getting towards mid and how you make it there safely. As far as momentum goes, I think TZS, this gives them a great opportunity to make use of their weapon pool in a large variety of areas with many different obstacles on foot.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You've talked about TZS and sort of the atypical loadouts that they're going to have, and this whole weapon pool that Zach pointed out, it could be pretty beneficial in Turf War.
It can. It could be very interesting to see the teams, I believe, are already loading in. And sure enough, there they are. Great work. Holy cow, there's a couple things. There are two stringers there on the side of Laniakea. Okay. I mean, hey, if you're going to go ahead and throw them a curveball, let's bring this out as well. Yes, we do have a member of the Reflex family, but also a well string coming out here from Blob. 5 of those big booms, and also big things that they can throw and hit their opponent at, immediately turfing with that Ultra Stamp as well. It's chaos here. What a huge map. What a lot of fun this is going to be.
Like you said, Nine, you're a kid now, you're a squid now. It's Turf War on Urchin Underpasses. Brings back a lot of memories, and now we see Mare with that ink brushes. That could be the difference here for TZS against Laniakea. So far, it's 4-4 on the stage. Both teams kind of going back and forth as we look at the overhead view. Milana, it's also about 50-50, pretty even out the gate.
And you know what? They're both of these teams are playing extremely cautiously. We have a Reef Slider coming out, unfortunately unable to get any picks, but playing very safely. Her V-shot jumping out, making sure that they stay alive for the next push.
Venoct working their way up. We switch over to Pepe. Pepe backing up, trying to pepper a few shots here and backing up, just making sure that they're able to maintain positioning. They take down one member of TZS, but then they go down as well too, as Venoct is still working up there in the hallway. And Zach, now you have the Booyah Bomb ready to go at this moment. Smork trying to be a little careful building up that tri-missile as well too.
Yeah, that might be one of the tougher things to learn when you're playing a short-range weapon like a shooter, as we see her V-shot get taken down immediately by that special there. But it is finding the maximum range that you can use your weapon at and still play safe. When you're playing with not much range to begin with, you have to use as much as you've got. And speaking of specials, multiple that we had not really seen prior to this, not just the Reef Slider, but also the Ultra Stamp that we may see come out in the near future.
About a minute left here. We're getting to that 30-second mark here, Nine, as we talked about, and it looks to be a slight advantage for TZS from the overhead view. Namika trying to get back and just create a little bit of support here for Laniakea that's on the ropes here with about 54 seconds.
Oh, that was a high priority target that just got taken down. Vapor, the anchor for TZS. With that back, everyone else is going to have to back up. The Super Chumps, another special we haven't seen much at all today, will now move forward there. Namika getting taken down. Great job holding that position by Smork as we enter the last 30 seconds here. 2 down now for Laniakea. This is the opportunity for TZS.
And we're at the 30-second mark, 4-3 advantage TZS. And Milana, this is where they have to make sure they take mid and just stay alive and not have to go back to spawn, as we see Pepe take down one member. Critical splat with 20 seconds remaining.
You know, you say that we have to stay in the middle, but Pepe doing what is, you know, the high risk, high reward thing, staying in the enemy base and painting, because that is where you are going to get the most turf.
And an opportunity, 5 seconds remaining. Is it going to be a late push from Laniakea? Looks to be TZS in main control, and TZS most likely going to get the victory in this one. They did a wonderful job there, Zach, of the final 15 seconds of just getting a couple of critical one-on-ones and being able to go a little bit deeper into the enemy side. It was closer than we thought, though. But TZS picking up the first win, their first one of the day against Laniakea after 4 games.
Yeah, you take a look at just mid, and it's looking like TZS all the way. I did not really expect a 5% differential there, but lots of specials going on. Even the Ink Storm, which is something that you don't really get to see too often because it's not a very flashy special. It's not always a very impactful special, but it is consistent and it is dedicated to what you're doing in this mode. It just provides that nice passive ink control right through a straight area as you throw it, and you can focus completely on other things. The Super Chump operating effectively the same way, although with a little bit more startup, getting those shots down and can do even a fair bit of damage, I believe around 60 per shot there. So nice way to view a couple more specials that TZS was able to both use and deal with to get their first win.
And you've talked about one of the differences being that ink brush. Did we see it evident in there as far as maybe the adjustment that we were going to see from TZS?
Well, especially on a stage that big as Zach laid out, you want to try to create advantages in little pockets, right? And if you have an ink brush who can quickly get from one fight to the other with different teammates in different areas of the stage, it changes a lot. And again, you said earlier, Milana, and you put it so well, not just zipping to an objective, but zipping past an objective. If you can get people to turn around at a critical moment in a game, if you can take their eyes away from them, that's the job done right there. Someone else jumps across, takes you out. All the while you're saying, ink brush is still up, ink brush is still up, where's the ink brush, where's the ink brush? And it changes a lot. I really think that was the dynamic they needed. Again, maybe we don't know exactly why DRF was subbed out for it, but you cannot argue with the results that bringing that ink brush in has had for this team.
Up next, we have got Rainmaker on Crab Leg Capital, and just thoughts on what we're going to see with Crab Leg Capital. It's a stage we have yet to see here today.
So this is a really interesting pick because Rainmaker on Crab Leg tends to be pretty precarious no matter how you take the Rainmaker. So the pedestal obviously can be seen one on the left and the one on the right, but the one on the right is on an entirely uninkable graded surface, and then the one on the left is literally right outside of the spawn of the enemy team. So you really have to kind of pick your poison, like which side do you really want to go? And honestly, sometimes there's just not a good choice.
Yeah, and to expand on that there, Zach, when you've got so much of the stage that is uninkable, you've got checkpoints that are really difficult situations. What are teams going to continue to try and do to find that opening so that they can get there?
Well, I come back to that analogy of feast or famine, where this is a playground for some weapons. The grates that span basically the entire map. If you have a Splatling or something, it is phenomenal to walk basically above everyone else and have a full overview of the entire middle portion of the map, which is decently sizable. And again, you have these little pockets on the left and right hand side. Otherwise, if you are a shorter range weapon, you're going to have to get creative. Thankfully, there are walls you can use to get up on that high ground, but you have to wait until the exact right moment because you can get outraged very quickly.
Here we go, Rainmaker on Crab Leg Capital. It's game 2 in our losers finals. TZS has taken the first one. Can they make it 2 in a row? We return back to objectives, and now 9 again, another surprising loadout.
I never thought I'd see Vapor willingly switch off of an Explosher here, but take a look at it. It is the Rapid Blaster Pro Winter, one of the newest weapons in the game as of 10.0. And Zach earlier made the point that Splatling's very, very strong here because they can walk around and fire at people. Something else that's really strong is ranged blasters. When the opponent can't swim away because they're on a grate, the blasters at range can really make the life difficult for everybody, and it's got tacticaler to boot.
An early splat in favor of TZS. It's 3-4 on the stage. Now it's back to 4-4. Special was ready to go for Laniakea, and now you've got Smork retreating right now. That Tacticooler's out. Kraken Mare applying some pressure, and we talked about it. The brush has been so helpful for Kraken. 2 splats in a row there, Milana.
2 splats in a row indeed. This is going to give TZS a great opportunity to push. They decide to go that left route, and as you can see, what they need to do is they need to take that Rainmaker and jump onto that platform, but that platform is immediately the drop right below the spawn point, and Kraken holding on the big bubbler, clutching out, allowing Kraken to just get a couple more points before going down.
And that was huge, Zach. You saw the Killer Whale and the big bubbler come out, buying just enough time to push the lead. How about that? 21 on the initial opening salvo. Puts a lot of pressure on Laniakea.
Yeah, 21 on just about every map is going to take you the way home. Blob here, surprisingly, the designated Rainmaker carrier. We've seen them more from an offensive perspective. We are going to have to see if they use, again, the range of this weapon inherently. Instead, they're just going straight for that left-hand side pedestal. A little bit of contention and jumping right on top
of a waiting splat bomb. That's unfortunately going to be 3 down as the rest of the team follows suit.
Pepe in a one-on-one firefight gets the wipeout and another opportunity for TZS. They are pushing forward with that Rainmaker. They are marching forward. You've got the bubbler coming out, a Trizuka as well too, applying some pressure. Venok trying to get a couple of more splats on the side here and then able to get Smork, and then it's a wipeout on the other side here, 9 for Laniakea.
A wipeout, but they gave up even more points as if 20 wasn't daunting enough. Now we'll take it all the way to 17, and the members of TZS, again, the bomb. I'm telling you all, the true evil in this game is the splat bomb. Just right on top. But again, when you have to worry about bombs, it can slow you up, and you're looking forward at specials. Where's the opponent? Who's holding the Rainmaker? What's coming up? And just one tiny bomb sneaks right past you, takes you out, and all of that good you did in the last 30 seconds, gone and erased.
Venok's going to have to retreat. The suction bomb going to push them back. Nemeko, we go and check in on them, coming forward with a little bit more pressure. Booyah bomb ready to go for Venok, just trying to climb up to the top here of this grate to get a view. Nearly gets taken out by that Rainmaker as Kraken Mare backs up just a little bit. Vapor providing some support, scoops up out of that Tentacooler, and now you've got an advantage here for TZS here, Milana. They're in control. They have the lead. They're looking for the slam dunk.
They are looking for the slam dunk, and unfortunately, I think Pepe did not mean to fall there, and this might be the end of the push. Oh, but that takes out 3 members of Laniakea. Pepe with the not able to get the dunk, but a score to 4 is nothing to scoff at.
TZS moments away from taking a 2-0 lead. They got swept by Laniakea last time as well too, and now you see with about 1:30 left here, Zach, Laniakea, listen, it's one checkpoint they have to clear. They can try to turn this around. They've got 2 specials and a 4-3 advantage on the stage.
Call it effectively a knockout that they need, but TZS is doing more than just resting on their laurels. They're taking the Rainmaker as often as they can to disrupt and minimize the number of times that Laniakea is going to have, even if they get into an overtime situation. And not just that, Nemeka being completely bothered and outranged here on that roller. It's been knocked, who's going to have to try and make use of the bit of range that they do have, able to sneak away but not quite get away from Kraken Mare. They are all over the map, and TZS continues to bother Laniakea.
And it's just been wild, the damage that Brush has been doing. You pointed it out, Nine, that could be the turning point for TZS, and it has been so far as they are less than a minute away from taking a 2-0 lead.
I did more than point it out, Jordan. I was swinging along with Kraken Mare on that. Whenever it gets so close, you just know how the rest of that engagement is going to go, zipping and moving between all of these fights. Now, I do need to give some praise here to Laniakea. Despite everything, they have the Rainmaker in a spot where if they can just get one more special and maybe ward a couple of these members off, that checkpoint is within reach. At that part, you have to do everything else pretty much perfectly, and instead they've opted to let it reset, figured that they didn't have the opportunity. Her B-Shot has moved up an attack and even has a grab. This could come up big, but they need to take these players out in a hurry, and a wonderful big bubbler is going to stop that. That's a yellow Rainmaker here, and there's only 10 seconds.
Terrific use of the big bubbler, negates the crab, and now with 5 seconds left, TZS just has to make sure this thing doesn't go into overtime or at least sees control. And TZS, after being swept 3-0 in winners semis, has taken a 2-0 lead in losers finals. And we mentioned it, just that second push to get to 4, and it felt like the pressure was on Laniakea the entire time.
I think they were maybe a little bit unaware of that Rainmaker and how close it was to being popped, because that, you know, we don't really talk about it too much, but that is a deadly weapon.
Oh,
just
yes.
being able to pop the Rainmaker shield and using that to your advantage, getting picks from that, picking it up, and just using the ink that is created by that pop to kind of move it forward. I think that's just such a smart play, and that helped get it to 4 and really effectively sealed the deal.
And Zach, it's interesting because the dedicated Rainmaker carrier, is that something that teams are deciding upon before they go into a match, or is it just whoever can get to the Rainmaker, it's your job to carry it?
You know, oftentimes it's based on your role. We see a lot of anchor or backline players carry it just because, you know, you need more so the up close and personal, like somebody that can go ahead of you and at the short to mid range take out anybody that's in your direct path. You don't as much need the back end player who's going to be taking pot shots from afar, but you can also do the strategy of if you're scrambling, whoever's near it, just grab the darn thing. It's all you need to do. And I'm glad Milana brought up the Rainmaker Shield as well, because a couple of strategies were employed there at the end, including the inflation of the Rainmaker Shield just up to the point right before it's about to be popped. Not only then does the team that would need to get to overtime have to pop the Rainmaker Shield, they have to get all this enemy ink out of the Rainmaker Shield before they can even put theirs in. So it just delays even more time alongside the subs and primary weapon fire that they're using that whole time.
I guess the conversation now, 9, goes to Laniakea. What's their adjustment that they need? Because they haven't really threatened much in the last couple of games.
No, they haven't. I mean, aside from that one scuffle that really went their way in that turf war game, this has been all TZS, and I'm not really sure. I think, you now have the opportunity to go back to a stage mode combination that you won on previously. That time they went with Rainmaker, felt like they were stronger there, but remember that the team being counterpicked has a say in it too. Going to Crab Leg, I think, was exactly what TZS had in their back pocket for that. Vapor had that swap, so now I think if you are Laniakea, you say, we beat them on the more neutral modes, the more neutral stages last time. Let's get ourselves back to one of those, and we'll figure out the rest when we get there.
Yeah, Clan Blitz on Barnacle and Dime. We've seen this, and it's an opportunity, really, if you're Laniakea. You have to take this one game at a time, Milana. You're down 2-0. You can't look at the fact that we have to go 3. If you focus on one and not try to panic or put too much pressure on yourself, it still allows you to play within yourself, I imagine.
Totally. And you know what? We have seen them win against TZS, so it's not like it's impossible or like the skill level, the skill differential is too great, so we definitely can see them come back from this.
It is pretty wild, though, Zach. They were swept in winter semis, and I don't know if it was just a fluke, but TZS has now flipped it completely. Is it more than just the ink brush, or is it that tiny little adjustment right there?
It's also the beauty of the double elimination. You get to learn so much about a team when you're on the winner side of the bracket that you can afford to just play around a little bit and find out what sort of makes them tick. And they had enough time in between, playing through the losers and getting up to this point. They had enough time to say, okay, well, maybe what caused us other than that? Was it the sub that helped us win? Was there anything that our other 3 team members can do to be more successful? And really the strategy around having Kraken Mare in that last game not only help create some of those opportunities, but to use the other 3 members while Kraken Mare is the designated Rainmaker carrier. It turns out they're pretty good at navigating those tight spaces due to being an ink brush. So they made a great Rainmaker carrier.
Well, TZS is just one game away from getting back into grand finals and a chance for some retribution against the team that swept them earlier. We're getting set to go here, and 9, what an opportunity for TZS as they get set to take on Laniakea.
Yeah,
all the pressure on them.
All the pressure. You don't often get the chance to have this sort of revenge, and boy, would it be sweet. Back to the old reliable here for TZS. On the other side, we've got another slight change. Interestingly enough, it's been Splatana Stamper most of the day for Venoct, but now instead, bringing out that Mint Decapitator. We've seen some players use this here. It's a very, very strong main weapon. I'm wondering if it's just the big bubbler, though, that they want to try to get a little bit more sustainability on their pushes, set that below the basket, and go to work.
Pepe already with a Trizuka and picks up a splat against her V-Shot, and moving forward, Pepe and crew already blazing a trail towards the basket. This is an early onslaught from TZS potentially, Milana.
It is, but you know what? They still have to play it very safe. We have Vapor really playing it cautiously, holding onto space, allowing their teammates to jump back in, the big bubbler, protecting their teammates' jumps. Really, we're going to have to keep an eye out for Venoct because maybe this big bubbler is going to change how Laniakea plays this.
And Zach, Laniakea did a really nice job for a moment. It looked like TZS was going to go right towards the basket, able to push them out, and now finally a power clam, and right as I say that, of course, TZS opens up the basket.
Yes, Smork going to get that in, and they're really going to rely on Kraken Mare yet again. They're going to be the one, as you noted earlier, to kind of run back, see if they can pick up some clams. They're also going to have Smork sitting right above for more. Instead, they're going to rely on Vapor here to take a couple out on that Explosher, and that is the wipeout, the direct shot as Venoct makes full use of that new weapon.
Venoct cleaning house and stopping any hopes TZS had of a quick opening salvo. They did get 50, but now the response right away here, 9.
Yeah, very rarely in this game at this level do you see 3 go down that quickly, but that changes the dynamic entirely. One dropped right in front of Navika. Throw it up there. Keep it open. Yes. Does it? Do they have enough to take the lead? Kraken Mare is running away, so I assume that means the answer is no. A nice counter push, though. I mean, make no mistake about it. This was looking like it was going to go the way of those previous 2 games. They were not able to break out. One player totally turned the tide. Laniakea with new life.
Yeah, it's looking like a heavyweight fight here. A couple of huge hits coming out here initially on the opening run. Both teams essentially on middle ground here, 50 to 56. And now you see Kraken Mare. They get it open again, does TZS, and they're able to go right through the penalty. This is a huge opportunity here, Milana.
This is a huge opportunity, and Smork with that big bubbler, unfortunately big bubbler does go down. Smork still in position to be able to have teammates jump to them, but really playing it safely, moving backwards, collecting the clams, regrouping, because a push to 20 is nothing to scoff at.
You saw her V-shot drop off the power clam, and now it looks like Laniakea is going to try and respond as quickly as possible. It's 3-3 on the stage, now 3-2 for a moment here. And Zach, if you are TZS, you've got this lead, you really have to continue to play aggressively here.
Well, and you had maybe wanted to look for her V-shot, who was able to get the tactic cooler out, and now TZS starting to fall as a result. That's 3 down. It's just going to be the order shot left as her V-shot helps to secure the wipeout, and they have the clams to get rid of their penalty. They're going to be depositing just enough to where they need 3 more to take the lead. Now 2. Blob assisting yet again on that famous inkjet. Can they find 2 more? Yes, they do. Laniakea taking the lead and holding them back.
Under 2 minutes left, and a wipeout comes. They might get the knockout here. Laniakea trying to extend this match. They just need to grab a couple of clams. They found 1. They need 2 more to try and close this out. There's 2. They put them in, and we are now getting set for a game 4 as Laniakea picks up their first victory here in losers final. And that is what we haven't seen the last couple of games as well, too. Laniakea really putting their pedal to the metal there and taking control of the game here, 9.
I've been round of applauding Venoct for so long because earlier at the game we said, okay, this is their swap that they have made here. Venoct has been on variations of the Splatana Stamper the entire time. All right, let's go mint decav. Yes, it has the right special for this mode, but maybe our opponents just aren't ready to fight a decav here. You bunch up, and that comp that they run on TZS really thrives on misdirection and surviving in these awkward situations. There's no surviving when that thing is charged up and next to you. It opens up, it continues the fight, and what a great counter pick, not only from the mode, but also to have that as another weapon you could bring. These teams keep going back and forth.
It's great, Milana, because TZS made the adjustment with the ink brush, and now you see Laniakea make the adjustment with the mint decav. Now it seems like it's back on TZS to make another adjustment here.
You know, I think they're really going to have to handle that mint decavitator because that swipe is just so long, and if it touches you, it's over, you know? So we have to just make sure that TZS is going to have to kind of deal with it somehow. Again, we mentioned that they do have a lot of short-range weapons, and you know, when the mint decavitator does that horizontal swipe, it really is a lot longer. Like, it has a lot of range. You kind of don't really expect it, so they're going to have to figure out a way around that.
So getting set for Splat Zones, we're still determining the stage here, but what we've seen so far, give me an early thought on Splat Zones between these two teams here.
I mean, I'm looking at 2 things from that last game in particular. The Big Bubbler is your all-rounder. It is really good for basically anything you want it for. It's good right under the objective. It's good in the middle of the map. It's good when your team is backed into a corner. And the other thing there was Pepe at that last push did a great job of just dodging around, using those squid rolls to get the picks that they needed to push forward. And I see here that it looks like we might be going to Umami Ruins. That's back to that 2-zone map. So you're going to almost have to split your mentality around. Do you sort of send a couple of teammates to focus on one zone versus the other, or is it, again, about that middle section of the map and how well you can play protecting from that literal king of the hill spot?
9, you have a look on your face like you're very hungry and you're gazing over a menu. What are you thinking?
Wow. Maybe I am hungry. How about that? They counterpicked this before, and they lost on this before. So this is, I think, a question of if they believe that Kraken Mare will make the difference here, because, yes, there were some good moments the last time they went on Umami Ruins Splat Zones, but they didn't get the dub, and that's all that matters. It's interesting.
An opportunity for TZS to move on. They are looking for a win and a stage and mode that they lost in last time they made a counter pick. And Zach, as you look at the loadouts, what stands out to you?
I mean, part of what stands out is that not many changes are being made. Nemeka is still going to be, of course, on that Carbon Deco. Venoct sticking, obviously, what's been working, and that is the mint decav. And on the opposite side of things for TZS, still with the custom Explo, and the Splattershot Jr. going to do wonders for painting these smaller zones and not having to go too far near the enemy base.
Pepe just trying to hold ground down. TZS with the early zone lead, and they're building upon that. Laniakea able to get in and take control of the zone, and already turning the tide of this game here, 9.
Yep, great work there. They took that initial shot, but they made sure that they had enough resources that they could get into this scenario. Namaka, you're going to get taken down by just bombs if you're not careful. And yeah, Kraken kind of saying, hey, buddy, okay, are you going to move? No, you're just going to let me run in. Nice job neutralizing here, and that means that you've got somebody attacking from both sides. Now, I will say Laniakea hasn't given up that central median, which means they can choose how to attack. Namaka happy to do that, and even got away, had no business. The points keep rolling.
And that was huge because we saw Kraken going around, about to get that second zone. Namaka able to get the splat, and now control in the hands of Laniakea. And now you've got Blob on the Inkjet, and they're starting to make this push here, Milana, of backing TZS out.
And they are, and again, like we said, Umami Ruins, kind of a hard map to come out of spawn with, and Venoct is going to make it very difficult for them. The tactical are coming out especially so. So even if they all go down, they will be right back in the middle of the stage immediately.
Punishing pressure coming out from Venoct and the rest of this Laniakea team. With just 16 seconds remaining, Zach, they might have this on lockdown.
I no longer know the phrase cranking 90s. I only know cranking decavs, as Venoct is going to be able to get multiple 180 shots and flick shots that are able to help set things out. Laniakea holding it down at least for the moment. They do lose 2, including their longest range player. Can the Mecha make things happen? They will, getting the splat onto Smork that'll take them down to 1. These 2-zone maps always so difficult to finally close. Laniakea will find it, and folks, we've got ourselves a Game 5.
Listen, I don't want to say, like, listen, if you did your homework and you felt this was your strongest Splat Zones map, this is where you do it. But, like, listen, the last time these two teams played, it didn't look great. It looked a lot like that. You know your opponent's probably going to be bringing a decav in. You know once the decav pushes in, that's it. Yes, you have an ink brush now, but it's not like you got more range because you picked your ink brush, which is wild to say given that the other option was a tri-slosher. It's always difficult for me to accept going back to a stage and mode that you really did not perform well on. I wish I could say I was surprised at that result, but I wasn't.
A very befuddled 9 as we get set for Game 5 here. And now all of the pressure is back on TZS here, Milana. You're up 2-0, and now it's a Game 5. And you've got Laniakea looking very strong over the last 2 games.
If something isn't working and you see that the Mint Decavitator is really wreaking havoc, you're going to need to do something to change. Whether it's in the way that you play, whether it's in the comp that you bring, but something is going to have to change for TZS to kind of get their footing back in the game.
It's a really good point because, Zach, not to try and put a crystal ball in front of you, but TZS is known for having a very varied set of weapons that they can use. What is the counterpunch to the Mint Decav that has just been wrecking havoc?
Well, it depends on what part of it you want to target, because there's multiple areas in which it excels and is very dangerous. Do you want to target how quickly it builds up a big bubble, or then you need something that can kind of poke it out and make sure that it can't really get into these areas that it excels? Do you want to target maybe the exceptional range and the flicking ability of the player who's operating it? Maybe, again, you target either the surprise attacks, the sharking, where you don't allow it to get into good positions. Maybe you do a 2-player dedication. You get 2 folks on the same player, and your main job is just running them down, spotting out where they are, or picking specials that locate, that find enemy players. Maybe that's something like the Killer Whale 5.1, or even the Tenna missiles, where you can see where they're positioned on the map and call them out that way, just so that you don't get taken as by surprise.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, 9, if you're TZS, what are you going to try and do to get a little bit more momentum here? Because you have struggled the last 2 games. It comes down to this. There's no more time to be playing around. You've got to pick up this game to get to Grand Finals. And so far, you've taken 2 steps backwards after going out the gate strong.
Well, I wish you could say that you go to your strongest mode, but they don't have that option right now. There's only one mode left, and it's tower control. And we're going back.
A classic. Our favorite classic.
Oh, gosh. Here we go.
We're going back to Inkblot Art Academy for the tower control. And what's most frustrating here, if you are TZS, is the only say that you would have had in this is the mode, which means really you didn't have any control here because the opposing team gets to pick the stage, meaning that now on Game 5, because of the way this set has gone, you have to go to probably the strongest mode your opponent has and the strongest stage that they play it on. you talk about getting momentum back here. It's got to come in the game. There's nothing they can do at this point or on the weapon select screen to make it happen.
And maybe the fact that you've got a tower and things are a little bit slower in this is an opportunity for TZS. But right now, it seems like everything's going against them. They've got to regroup. And when you look at tower control and Inkblot Art Academy, what's going to be one of the critical spots once again for these teams, especially if you're TZS trying to get back into this?
It's going to be at that second checkpoint. We've talked time and time about that second checkpoint, and once it gets past that second checkpoint, the points just really go so fast, and we really have to keep in mind that when that happens, all the specials are going to come out, and they're just going to have to come out on top.
The Mint Decav has been the weapon of conversation over the last couple of games here. In tower control, is that Mint Decav going to be on the ground ahead of the tower, or is that something you want to put on the tower itself here?
I mean, it really depends again. Like the big bubbler, you're going to have to be on the tower at some point because you want to throw the big bubbler on there ideally. You're protecting whoever's running with it. Now, whether that's you or not, you could make both work. It has pretty solid range, and you can be the one to, if they want to try and climb up the tower, you can kind of snap your head in any direction and take them out. But I can also see them sort of being the tip of the arrow to lead the charge and be the sort of offensive aggressor here and find where those enemies are hiding, because on Inkblot you've got a lot of high ground scenarios, you've got sort of that whole back area and that sniper perch that you can wait to sort of jump down, and the Mint Decav might just be the one to go out and find them.
We're waiting for the teams to get set up here as we prepare for tower control and Inkblot Art Academy. And I've got to ask you guys, do you have a favorite stage and mode? If you could think about having your own choice at some point. I'll try and drag out the question here and just slow things down for a moment as you get a chance to think. 9, anything come to mind possibly?
Favorite stage and mode combination? Oh, man. Splatoon 3, I will say that my favorite is... We'll say it is tower control, and I'll say tower control Mako Mart is my favorite. Fortunately, that is the one that is also always picked if it's not tower control and Art Academy. But I really do feel that that is a stage in particular that takes advantage of the strengths of tower control. The tower itself carries you up as a platform, a way that you can attack your opponents and get around. On the defensive side, you have to be aware of the left. You have to be aware of under your drop. You can't be too overzealous. The attacker always has an answer, and I think that is where tower control is best, when the attacking team always has something they can do to affect what the defender's trying to do.
Milana, how about you?
I think for me, it might have to be Humpback Pump Track Rainmaker. I love that Horseshoe of Doom. And you know, okay, I see the reaction, right? For me, it's a nostalgic thing.
Fair.
There have been tournaments where I have won by the singular point from 100 to goal, right?
Yep.
So for me, I could just relive those memories forever and ever, and I'm like, that's a good map and mode until it happens to me, and then I'm like, never mind.
Zach, how about you?
Look, if I'm going to stick to this mantra of being very vanilla, very neutral, it's hard not to have a conversation. It's hard to have a conversation about good maps without looking at the stage of Hagglefish with Splat Zones being the mode. Like, that is sort of the bread and butter, same as Inkblot TC in a very different form and fashion, but it is just neutrality incarnate.
It really is interesting when you get one of those that comes up. You feel strong about it. And I've got to ask you guys, do you prefer to do solo queue? Do you like to go with your friends and get lined up when you sit down for a nice long session sometimes?
Friends are cool.
He's a solo queue warrior.
Listen, all right, you know, we've got responsibilities, okay? There is nothing more frustrating than trying to get 8 people together or even 4 people together. It stalls, suddenly 30 minutes have gone by, and you've played exactly 0 games of Splatoon, okay? So, yes, it's always good to play with friends. There's nothing quite like it in this game. But I gotta say, a good solo queue session on stages and modes that you like, you can learn so much from, and it's always a rush. And hey, sometimes the number goes up, and that feels good. Sometimes it goes down, and that's not so good.
And sometimes people are just getting their stuff ready to go when they're playing with friends, as far as the time that it takes to get between matches with that. And once you get 4 together, that can be really fun. I know you like Salmon Run with some friends.
You know,
sometimes
how did you know that I was going to say Salmon Run? I wasn't even going to be like, Splat Zones, solo queue. Nah, I'm all about the Salmon Run. And it's always just so much fun with friends. You can just, you know, you're not going to get mad at the people that you're playing with. You can communicate with them. And for me, that's just key. And I just love being able to win my scales and buy my things. You know me.
Let's go ahead and check out the bracket and get you guys up to date. Zach, don't worry. We'll get to a little bit more thoughts from you. I just wanted to, we got to remind people of this bracket and see how we've navigated all this traffic so far here as we take a look. Grand Finals, Duck Motif. They're just awaiting the winner of Laniakea and TZS as we get rolling here. And then keep in mind, TZS got swept by Laniakea early in winter semis. They're able to come back. And now Laniakea is trying to put a cramp in the possible sweep that TZS had to try and get to Grand Finals. Now, as far as the schedule, we've got so much wonderful content coming your way here. As we mentioned, our North American League show, that dropped yesterday, our very first episode. You can catch episode 2 on September 26th. That's Fridays at 10 a.m. We're going to break down a lot of the action that happens in the previous weekend's competitive action. We'll talk about some of the aspects of the game. We'll speak to community members. It's a lot of fun. Make sure you check it out. You'll learn a lot from that show as well, too. Then the Splatoon 3 North American League, Saturdays at 12 p.m. Pacific. The top 8 live streams every single week start at 4 p.m. Pacific. You've got preseason number 1 that's going on today here, event 1, that goes all the way, beginning with the regular season starting on October 4th through November 22nd, 8 weeks of the regular season. And then don't forget, on Sundays, you can have some fun, whether it's solo queue or with friends. You can do some Sunday scrim where it's going to be that salmon run, and you're going to get a chance for a big run here on September 21st. And then, of course, the Splatoon 3 North American League and the playoffs. That's going to be December 13th and the 14th. Lots of fun to be had, and we've got a busy schedule up ahead of us here, Zach. There's no shortage of wonderful content.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, I can't wait for the salmon run portion. I think it's going to be so great to see that league come about and to see sort of the nice little cap off to a week of Splatoon action that'll just cycle back around that next week. And speaking of cycling back around, we are just moments away from our Game 5.
As we mentioned, Game 5, Tower Control, Inkblot Art Academy. We've seen this multiple times, and here we go. There can only be one that can make their way to Grand Finals as we begin with this matchup. And let's go ahead and take a look at this loadout here, 9. And anything you notice?
Well, Zach said it already, so the Thunder has been stolen, but the thing I notice is that nothing has changed. These teams going to
keep you informed on that.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have to keep you informed, but I will say I am happy to see that Venoct is riding the hot hand here with this decav. So often you have a weapon that you maybe think is your sub-weapon, maybe your second best weapon, but sometimes if it's winning and it's working, don't overthink it. Keep playing it.
We check in on Pepe, picks up one of the splats right there to give the advantage to TZS. They're on the tower approaching the first checkpoint, trying to chase down a couple more members of Laniakea. And already, Milana getting to the first checkpoint, putting that pressure on Laniakea.
And TZS is really, like you said, putting that pressure up. Smorg putting that big bubbler down. Oh my god, Pepe really precariously, but able to get a double. This is going to get TZS to move past that second checkpoint, and this is going to be their push.
And what a turnaround here, Zach. A triple splat, and they get past that critical second checkpoint. 28 out the gate. Unbelievable. A near wipeout, Zach.
Yeah, Pepe being very much so the yin to Krakenmare's yang, getting around and getting some important picks. Blob trying to survive after coming down on that inkjet. They won't have the luxury. Taken down. That's 3 down for Laniakea, and an emphatic a game as I've seen caps this one off with the 5th.
So TZS, we thought that they were going to be down for a moment, but just like that, TZS able to close things out, and what an impressive victory here as they're down 2. They come back and get the 5th game. Zach, what stood out to you in this match?
Well, we're going to take a look at Game 2 here when TZS was really dominating things early on.
Zach, you sound so good. We need
my
to turn
gosh,
the mic
yeah,
on.
the studio there is doing so well.
You've got a great
Krakenmare
voice.
helping out and getting Venoct. That's 2 that they're getting down, and you see just how well they're able to get around these structures. It's another map that's so difficult to get around, and Vapor, kind of the designated Rainmaker carrier on that one. really buffed by this tactic cooler and able to sort of get around this side. You're covering the middle of the area and you're covering this sort of ramp right here that is so commonly sharked around, including that wall. So the wall also factored into all of that. And then you look right in front. It's such an easy pedestal to get to. The harder part is making sure that you stay on top of there. But look at how much they even have set up right there. They have a ton of ink already present right next on the high ground for that pedestal. So such a great job of setting this one up. That allowed them to get the early lead in this set.
Zach, great job. You had about 3 seconds to get up from the desk over to the monitor. You're figuring out the mic at times as well, too. I mean, look at it. He's got the pointer. He's got the mic. He's breaking things down. He's going to the screen. Zach's doing it all here, folks. And now we get set for grand finals. TZS versus Duck Motif. Duck Motif. They've had a chance to just chill for a while here, 9, but they have been clearly the most dominant team, and now they're going to take on TZS. It's another unique matchup. We love to see that. Early thoughts on these two teams?
Well, again, these are the two teams I talked about at the top, and I said I'm so happy to see these old stalwarts keep fighting it out here, and it's fitting. Very different journeys to get here, that these two are the final two teams. They were our top 2 seeds after the ladder had finished here today. So it took them a little while to maybe figure out the permutation of how they wanted to attack, and certainly TZS has had to win 2 Game 5s just to get to this part. Meanwhile, Duck Motif really hasn't seemed to be bothered by anybody, but it's the classic momentum on one side and just precision on the other side. I can't wait to see this set and see which team is sharper.
And just as a refresher, Red Shell for Duck Motif, Milano, one of those players that you really want to keep an eye on here in the grand finals.
Yeah, totally. And you know, Red Shell, one of the best brush players in North America. And I think it's actually really interesting that they'll be up against Kraken Mare, who is also one of the best brush players in North America. So I'm really excited to see how they're going to fare against each other.
And it's going to be turf war. We haven't seen Duck Motif on turf war quite yet here, Zach.
Yeah, I think a lot of the strategies are still going to hold water. I think they are going to want to establish that dominance early and not really let their foot off the gas here. So, again, the last 30 seconds still going to be very much so important. The map, I think, will dictate a lot of play here because we've seen how it operates on a map like Urchin Underpass, a huge map, lots of area to maneuver around. There are some maps in this pool that are pretty small, even with all the different nooks and crannies factored in. So super excited to see what sort of size of map gets played on here and if Duck Motif can continue being as dominant as they are.
And we've talked about this ad nauseum for the most part as far as the final 30 seconds, the initial 2:30. But what specials are you thinking about here on Turf War? It's this balance between support specials and clear inking specials as well, too.
Yeah, this is one of those modes where I truly feel that you just need to play whatever you feel most comfortable fighting with. Because, well, it's true that it's not just a classic get lots of splats type of mode. It's also a I need to survive mode. And typically you are best at surviving with the weapon you feel most comfortable playing. So I don't think that teams should overthink this. I think you want one dedicated weapon that is great at turfing your own base, as Milana noted earlier here. And if you've got a shooter maybe in your back pocket, this wouldn't be the worst time to bring it out, but you can make it work a lot. I see some players try to get maybe a little too cute with the triple ink strike right as time is expiring, but oftentimes I think you go with old reliable. You get your tacticoolers down at the right time. I do think you need that. And outside of that, just make it work in the heat of the moment.
Milana, is there anything Duck Motif was doing to stay warm during all this time? I mean, it's been a couple of hours of real time since they've last played, and now all of a sudden you're going against a team that has played 3 consecutive matches in a row. The controllers are warm, I'm sure. How does Duck Motif make sure they're loose and mentally ready for this?
You know, I know a lot of players, as they have a large break during a tournament series, they'll hop into some Anarchy Open, they'll just continue playing, stay warm, they'll stay in the training room, they'll do some drills, because I think it's really easy to kind of lose it if you're not playing for a couple hours. Maybe if you go take a break, go for a walk outside, you might be like, oh man, I was outside for too long.
and Zach, Milana said something interesting there. Drills. Take us through some of the practice and training that they're going to be doing here.
Well, and I mean, recon and scrims come in huge in that regard, where you can kind of, if you're doing recon, you have 60 minutes essentially to set up wherever you want, kind of create plays if you want to, kind of figure out where you want to operate on the map, and then scrimmaging. Scrimmaging does so well for you to kind of build up that mentality of, even if you're playing a team much better than you or much weaker than you, it really does allow you to see if those set plays that you're working on do very well, or if you're moving at the right
right times if you're getting the consistent 2-3 down situations that maybe you're trying to carve out, or even the wipeouts. And how do you not fall too much on your laurels? We talked a little bit about not sort of sitting back after you've gotten a big lead, making sure you're still pressing the advantage. Those practice opportunities are some of the times that you're able to do that. And of course, the fundamental things like squid rolling, squid surging, lots of sort of basics that competitive players have down to a T at this point.
And we get set for Turf 4 on Museum del Foncino, a stage we haven't seen yet today on the stream. Thoughts on this? This is one of my favorite stages and modes, by the way.
Yeah, well, we're talking nostalgia here. Here's again another old map in the series coming back.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Pearls clutched officially. No, well, this I think is one of the more interesting maps for any mode, really, but especially here because you've got those spinners, as we like to call them here, parts of this stage that move around and give you access to parts of the opponent's side of the stage that you really wouldn't have normally. So you're going to see the fireworks come out very quickly. I'll be interested in seeing if these teams really have a strategy for Turf War on it, and here we go.
Grand Finals, TZS versus the heavyweight favorite, Duck Motif. It is Turf War, Museum del Foncino. Zach, do us the honors, loadouts, thoughts, concerns.
A couple of new weapons sneaking in there. Chara going to be on the 10.0 Splash-O-Matic. It's going to have that Ink Storm that we saw on Urchin Underpass, and also the custom dually Squelchers going to come out. You have the great rolls and maneuverability that a dually has, but it has a decent bit of range. Joining with that for Duck Motif, the pencil to provide that tacticaler. It's a pretty set combination.
Keep in mind, TZS will have to reset the bracket if they want to claim the title here today, so they're going to have to take 6 games from Duck Motif if they want to do that. Vapor with that triple splashdown, and so far, if you take a look, TZS chose Turf War, by the way, here, 9. They probably felt this was their best opportunity on a little bit more neutral ground.
Well, and I think interesting to note as well that, we can kind of talk about like the benefit that is given when you are the #1 seed, because even though they're coming from the loser's side, technically they are the higher seed. They got to choose Turf War here to start. It completely changes the dynamic of this set as it goes on.
We hear Vexen right here trying to apply a little bit of pressure. Smork near spawn, chasing down another member of Duck Motif, and if we take a look at the overhead view, it's Duck Motif with a slight advantage, it looks like, and so far it's been pretty tame back and forth here, Milana.
Yeah, and like we said, like we mentioned time and time again, this is just teams feeling out each other, making sure that, we haven't seen this comp come out from Duck Motif before, that we just want to make sure that TZS is not overextending. They just want to make sure that they are able to hold on to what they have.
Under 1:30 left, you see the Zipcaster come out for Red Shell. We've seen Red Shell so diabolical with that Zipcaster as well, too. Puts it to great use here, Zach.
Well, and they're diverting a lot of eyes at the same time. The splat there is just a bonus, and they're even able to trade that one out. Kraken Mare getting one to show that they are not also the brush to be trifled with as they move forward. 2 down there on the side of Duck Motif is TZS trying to take back mid. We're on that last minute, and Pepe getting closer and closer to the Trizuka. Can they use it on this spinner?
Trizuka locked and loaded as we see less than a minute left here, and for Duck Motif doing a great job. Picks up a couple of splats right there. It's going to give him a huge advantage down the stretch here, 9.
Yeah, great work by Vexen there. The one thing to note about this stage, as we've said time and time again here, is because of the unique geometry, you don't always have a great way to get to your opponent's side of the map, which means that all these scuffles in the middle of the stage don't really add up to a whole lot of advantage, meaning that this last fight here, forget the last 30 seconds, it might be the last 10.
Kraken Mare picks up a splat, still hunting for a little bit more turf, doing a good job. Interestingly enough, going over some yellow ink, and then we take a look at this firefight going on near spawn. Pepe gets collapsed upon, and now Duck Motif might be in a difficult situation. 11 seconds left. TZS might be making a late push here, trying to pick up the first game. Super Chump comes in, is going to be enough with 5 seconds left. Advantage for TZS down this stretch, awfully close, but Duck Motif might have inked enough turf down the home stretch. Let's see, it's up to Judd, who's going to take our first game of Grand Finals. Awfully close here, and the advantage goes to, it is TZS. The underdogs, essentially, even though they're favorites coming in, take a game from Duck Motif, just the second game that Duck Motif has dropped here today.
Well, again, as I noted, this is why TZS picked Turf War, and I want to note for y'all, the teams have the opportunity to not play Turf War if they want. TZS saw that and said, hey, this is our strongest mode. We won last time. Our opponents probably aren't practiced on it here. Let's try it. And maybe they'll even pick a weird stage where they can't do it. Because, well, I say weird because typically you get an advantage on a stage. You push forward. You take your opponent's side of the map, especially in Turf War, and then they have to spend 10 seconds getting back to the center. There, it's very difficult to get onto the opponent's side of the stage. That spinner that we talked about, which meant for TZS, as long as they didn't let all the walls fall down, they were going to at least have a say at the end. They trusted they'd get enough done in those last 10 seconds, and they did.
And that's all it takes for a little bit of confidence. We saw that in losers finals when it was TZS versus Laniakea. They picked up a couple of wins, and all of a sudden, it changed the momentum.
And it did. And even though they had those 2 losses against Laniakea, they were still able to get that 5th win. And maybe this is their shift of momentum. Maybe they're going to go into this set hot, and who knows, we might see a bracket reset.
Clam Blitz is coming up next here, and now we kind of get to some of those more traditional modes, and maybe we aren't on a weird stage here this time around. We'll see.
I feel bad.
No, don't feel bad.
It's okay. It's okay.
You didn't deserve
Museum
that.
Del Fontino's an inanimate object. You're okay.
No.
Like, the feelings are going to be all right here. But going back to Clam Blitz, and we've seen what Duck Motif has been able to do in this mode at times, and just the hot starts that they get out to can put tremendous pressure on TZS.
It almost feels like we're running the reverse gamut here. We're getting some of the least played modes, I think, out of the way. We have Turf War into Clam Blitz. The next one's probably going to be Rainmaker, and then Tower Control and Splat Zones if we go to that Game 5. So, but with Clam Blitz, you're absolutely right. I mean, between the 2 styles that I described earlier of Clam Blitz games, most of them have been the early and often strat, where you're just wanting as many pushes as you can get. It's not the sometimes 3 and 4 minutes into the game where you're seeing the first push by either team, because these are just not defensively minded teams all the time. They really want to press the advantage as often as they can, and with a map like a stage like Crab Lake Capital, it is very much so going to be right butting up against each other, because there is not too much room on that lower level.
And you've talked about it before, the upper level, there's nothing you can really ink up there. It's a lot of grates and uninkable surfaces.
Yeah, and I think we now know exactly what TZS's plan is every time. It's we're going to Turf War Game 1, and then wherever you want to play next, we're taking you to Crab Lake Capital. We don't care what mode it is. Listen, I like when midway through a tournament you stumble into greatness, and that's what they've done here. I mean, Vapor having that Rapid Blaster Pro Winter completely changes the dynamic of what this team is able to do. I will say, everything that we've said about Rainmaker and how difficult it is to push up, you can put that exact same notebook into this one as well. There is one way to swim up. It is inkable, at least, a ramp, but everybody knows where you're going. That's the only way to get to the basket for most situations.
And to me, Milana, it feels like you need to be the aggressor this entire time. You can't wait for the other team to make a push and then try and have a counter. You want to be the one that's always initiating each push when things are kind of getting to neutral.
Yeah, when you're the one initiating the push, you're the one in control. That you can use the specials when you need, and you can be able to kind of create space. This basket is right underneath the drop of their spawn point. So we just want to make sure that, you know, as we have control of it, maybe we want to push up a little farther. Maybe we want to make sure that this area around the clam basket is free.
And that's such a good point, because if you can free things up and limit the chaos near the basket, that's when we see some big scores. But we're getting rolling here. Game 2, Grand Finals, Clam Blitz, Crab Lake Capital. And, well, we had Turf War last time. Now we see a couple of different weapons possibly come out this time around here, Nine.
Yeah, we're back to the composition that I think was by far and away the strongest for Duck Motif here. Let's get Chara back over on that Frozen Pro. Let's bring Drift back in with that 52 gal. Let's go up and fight and make it happen. And I spoke too confidently and entirely too soon. Vapor is not on the Rapid Pro Winter here. Instead, sticking with that Explosion. I mean, this is Vapor's strongest weapon, certainly. Kind of pioneered it as far as North America is concerned, but that thing can have a very difficult time fighting people if they get up on those grades.
And Zach, how about Duck Motif racing out to a 3-1 advantage on the stage? They also have a 6-0 advantage as the Power Clam goes through. Now they're scoring points already in the first 40 seconds.
Yeah, and look at where Kais is set up. They just have this tiny little box that they're protecting most of their body on. There's, of course, no headshots in Splatoon, so you can basically have a huge advantage from protecting yourself. That's allowed Duck Motif to get all the way past 60 into the 50s. They still have 3 members left alive, and Vapor helping to try and lock down Red Shell, but not without some casualties as Kraken Mare gets taken out just close to the halfway point. They will finally let that barrier come back up. Great start, though, from Duck Motif.
So Duck Motif setting the tone early on here. And Milana, when you're able to get past 60, that puts so much more pressure on the other team when they have to make that push. Now you need 2 power clams just to try and tie things up.
And they do, but unfortunately, Duck Motif making another push, getting rid of their penalty very quickly, and Red Shell, it is in a prime location, taking out the other brush on the other team. Carol, with that Frozen Pro, it really is just Duck Motif's game.
And you saw using the Tenta missiles to try and flank out with that brush. And now with just 15 seconds left, they've got 3 clams. They got to try and get there. You've got Red Shell with that zip caster. That's going to distract all the opposition. But it's a wipeout by TZS. However, they are staring a huge deficit in the face here, 9.
And everything that we said earlier about how difficult it can be to even open a basket now going against TZS right now. You look at their composition. What specials do they have to break in? I think for a lot of time it's going to have to be Pepe, maybe with a Hail Mary shot with one of those Trizukas. You see, it fired there. I don't know that it found anybody, and that probably means that they are getting encroached upon. And sure enough, that's 2 down right now. Karen now moving forward. Can't get away, could have gotten away and thrown some of those Tenta missiles forward. Instead, it's going to be a stall. It's slowing down, and that means all the room for Duck Motif.
And certainly is. And then a wipeout comes, and Duck Motif should be able to close this out here in just a moment. They are grabbing clams left and right. Power clam comes in, and now it's just a matter of filling up the basket. They've got plenty of supply. However, that is a very quick match of clam blitz as well. And now we are tied at 1-1 here, Zach. And it was interesting. Duck Motif dropped Turf War. Maybe we were questioning where the momentum was going to be. No questions right there.
Yeah, this is sort of that backed into a corner state of there's not a ton of room to be maneuvering around in. It's not a huge map. It's not a huge area that you have where the actual pedestal, where the barrier exists. So if you're needing clams, you have to leave, hop back up, and be able to do that. So obviously you don't want to be sending every one of your teammates. So great job there. I loved especially the layering of the Tenta missiles with the Frozen with the sort of brush v brush battle that we got to see, and that allowed Kraken Mare to not really have the advantage. They were kind of spotted out. They had to run from the missiles at the same time, and they were taken out by the Octobrush as a result.
So tower control comes up next, and TZS, you're starting to run out of tricks, I guess. You can't do Turf War again. You can't do Clam Blitz. You can't do Crab Leg Capital. Now it seems to be narrowing in on those things that Duck Motif specializes in.
Totally, but we know we did see TZS be able to have such a dominant performance in that last set in tower control. So hopefully we can see that kind of performance again.
And that was where at, Zach?
No way.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, listen, we won't take any wagers or anything like that, but we'll see.
Don't do this to me again.
You know you'll want it. Let's assume it's maybe at Inkblot Art Academy, but if you're TZS, what allowed them to be so successful last time? Because I know we had to go to a quick highlight afterwards, but last time, Zach, they just quickly made work of tower control when they needed that critical Game 5 victory in losers finals.
Yeah, it's the snowball effect. It's the momentum of knowing that you need to have somebody available so that they can back off a little bit and allow the jump-ins. The jump-ins are what are tantamount to the pushes being continued. So yes, you do need aggression. You need someone ahead of the tower. You need someone spotting out those folks that are coming down from spawn from multiple different directions, but you need someone safe. And that's not always the person on the tower. The people on the tower are the most visible, the most targeted. So you need someone behind the action, allowing, if you do let somebody go down, to get right back next to the tower and continue that push onward, especially around those checkpoints.
Tower control, Urchin Underpass 9. Thoughts on this one?
So, admittedly, I don't get to commentate this one a whole lot, but I've played it a lot in solo queue. And the thing that I will say that's very unique about this stage, as Zach kind of noted earlier, a lot of times you don't get to see a lot of Urchin Underpass because it's so big. And believe it or not, the tower path actually kind of continues that trend. It runs right up the middle of street, as we tend to call it. But those last 20 or so points are so awkward for that tower. And if you fall off of that tower, there's not always a great way to get back up to it. So these teams will sort of have to feel out how they want to and who they want to ride the tower, because a lot of these other stages, someone throws a bomb at the tower, you jump off, okay, we get back on the tower, we're fine. Now, if you jump off at the wrong angle, you have to swim way around, find another way to jump back up to it, and sometimes the tower just has to actually come back to you. You simply can't get back to it.
Is this a situation of TZS again trying to do something wacky? Hey, let's pick a stage where tower control doesn't happen a whole lot often, or it is a atypical selection for tower control?
You know, I really wouldn't hold it against TZS for having picked something a little bit unusual as far as competitive goes, because sometimes you just want to shake up the status quo, and when you shake up the status quo, if you can adapt faster, you can win.
Here we go. Let's go back in time. A little tower control. Urchin underpass, as Nine pointed out. You don't want to hop off the tower here because you're going to have a tough time trying to get back on. Zach, any changes in our loadouts here, my friend?
Well, a weapon that we saw some time ago finally making its return, the 52 gal Deco. So Drift going to have that splatter color screen and maybe a pretty suitable special for a larger map. I think the width of this map actually is pretty sizable to where a splatter color screen is only going to cover about half of it. So you're still going to need to be mindful with the placement. Pepe, mindful with how they're sharking on that wall, not able to find anything yet, but just trying to get some leverage for their team.
And you see that splatter color screen come out early on. Tower is controlled by TZS. They pick up a couple of points. Big Bubbler is available. You see Kraken going back in time to the black and white television. And no luck there as Red Shell able to try and flank on the other side. Has that Ink Storm ready to roll and deploys that. And that's going to provide some nice aid here for Duck Motif as they try to seize back the tower. Nine.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of this kit that maybe will provide even more support as time goes on is those beacons. We talked about it in the Barnacle and Dime game. Hey, if you've got a giant stage, what's the best thing that you can have? How about the ability to super jump to anywhere that you'd like? We see it a ton in the Splat Zones version of this stage, and I imagine it's going to feel even stronger. Duck Motif is going to get to attack from all kinds of angles and keep pressure up as the game goes on.
Right now, both teams sort of in neutral here, Milana, as they're just trying to find a little bit of an advantage. It is Duck Motif getting to the first checkpoint, though.
It is, and they are dancing around that tower, hoping to get that, break that checkpoint. They do take the lead, but still not quite yet being able to break that checkpoint. This is going to be a stalemate just for the moment.
Well defended by TZS. However, Duck Motif able to hop back on. Two members of TZS is down now, Zach, and this is their opportunity for Duck Motif to try and push through that first checkpoint.
Yeah, optimal for Red Shell here to just throw the beacon on the tower. It allows them to get back super quickly, and they can focus right back on Splat. And Kai, though, trying to see if they can locate any remaining members of TZS. Chara doing double duty there, also locating them, this time with the 10 missiles. That's one down for Vapor. And assist there for Chara as they will fall, and it's a 2v2 situation. Kraken Mare hoping that with another Splat there will lend it to the favor of TZS. They will succeed in that endeavor for a second. Drift trying to lock things down, and yet again, back to a stalemate.
And Kraken did a great job there, Nine, of putting on the cape and really saving TZS because Duck Motif was in a position to really start to push that tower.
That was Kraken Mare versus the world for that point there. And look at all the good that was done, but look at where Duck Motif can come back. And again, I'm going to keep going back to those beacons. And what it is you see Red Shell just set another one down there. You have to be able to track where the opponent is attacking you from. Normally you can look at, okay, they're going to super jump here. You can't do that. Well, the beacons are up as two goes down, and almost a third. It's Kraken at one point. Now it's Pepe on the other side, trading off the cape from the superhero side. Looking, finds a beacon, takes that one out, trying to get rid of some of these pesky attackers. But whenever you need miraculous plays just to keep even, that's usually a sign that the opponent's strategy and game plan is outpacing yours.
Vapor picks off Red Shell. Here comes the triple, and now it's an opportunity here for TZS. As you saw that splashdown create a little bit of an opportunity, and now the killer whale. Kraken mixing things up. TZS might have a great opportunity here, Milana.
I think Kraken's positioning is key, that, you know, they're sending them up straight into the enemy base, hoping that they can get a little cheeky pick on Duck Motif as they drop into this pit right here. And Pepe holding onto zone, being able to, unfortunately, getting taken out by Red Shell, and Red Shell kind of holding on and hoping for the best.
And Red Shell has to take the splat. Now it's 4-3 advantage on the stage here. And Zach, now Vapor. This is a wonderful opportunity. TZS trying to get this third checkpoint. That would give them a huge lead with about 1:15 remaining.
Feels like that triple splashdown's been one of the only things that Red Shell has had to respect so far, because even if you take out the user, the remaining two sides of it are still going to come down. Chara trying to make sure that they help to ride the tower back into mid here. It's not an insurmountable lead, but time not on their side. Chara going to have to make use of the great range that the Frozen has. They do have two specials online, and they're going to need to use them at just the right moment.
You see Kraken just being very patient, waiting for a couple of more teammates to come in here, 9, and TZS really trying to regroup because they have to make the defensive stop here.
Yeah, you saw Kraken got spotted out there, but at a certain point, even if you spot it out, it's not a, wait, who, Chara? Somebody saved your life there, and that you will repay them right now. Taking out two, the pressure still comes in. They force out the big bubbler there, one stuck in the corner. Vapor trying to protect them there. What a crazy fight over at this position here. Finally one goes through in the point blank shot by Vapor. Can they get back in time to respect this lead and save it? Kraken goes onto the tower, gets taken out. It's just Vapor at this point. Do they have the triple splashdown? The answer is no. A few more points and that's the lead.
Duck Motif takes the lead with 15 seconds remaining. Just a relentless assault. Inkstorm comes out to help suppress some of the firepower coming out from TZS. 3 seconds remaining. Is Duck Motif going to hang on? However, we're going to head to overtime. And now TZS has a chance, but no, that is squashed. And a remarkable come-from-behind victory by Duck Motif, Milana. They were staring it right in the face. They knew they had one more push remaining, and they're able to overcome it.
Honestly, there was so much chaos happening in that one moment, and somehow Duck Motif just really came out on top. They were able to stand on the tower for as long as they needed to be able to take the lead, and then they were able to just kind of hold on to the tower for as long as they needed to get that dub.
Duck Motif. Big time win right there, because that was one of those games that winner there is going to take a 2-1 lead, and now all of a sudden TZS is flirting with resetting the bracket. Now we head to Rainmaker for Game 4 and a chance for Duck Motif to close this out and win the day.
First of all, shout out to that moment of the end of just looking at the proverbial sitcom camera and saying, well, how did I get here? And then just pausing to go back and get another splat. But Rainmaker, we're going to keep the hecticness up and see exactly how the chaos is going to play out. Will we get a Game 5 out of it? And Rainmaker has been pretty crazy so far. You know, a lot of times it's just these tight little corners within the maps themselves that determine so much of whether a team is going to gain a lead, lose a lead, if they're going to have enough momentum to push forward here. And super jumping with a special or using that tactical in the right spot is going to be so important to allow those pushes to continue.
Yeah, and TZS put up a solid fight in that last game. However, Duck Motif was just too much at the end. And now, Milana, it's one of your favorites. Rainmaker, Humpback Pump Track. They must have been listening in on us.
We got the Horseshoe of Doom, folks. We're ready. We're in it. I honestly am really excited. There is just so much chaos that happens around that corner that it's just prime Splatoon.
And 9 for Duck Motif. You're one game away from closing this out, and you dropped the first one to Turf 4, and you showed that TZS could be a potential threat. What do they need to do to close things out here?
Well, I think the first thing that they needed to do was pick the right stage. Because again, for this system, the winning or the losing team that is making the counter pick picks the mode. But that means that the other team does get to pick the stage. I think this is an excellent choice for them. The one thing you did not want to do was, as Zach noted, pick a stage where teams can move in these small little angles and find these awkward spots to just sneak more. I mean, we saw earlier on Undertow just how good Kraken Mayor is with the Rainmaker. Took that thing from 50 to 0 in a heartbeat. Hey, there's no tricks on this stage. It is one wide way for you to run straight forward. If you think you can outgun them, if you think you can outrange them, we know they can outrange them. Basically, everybody can outrange TZS. But that pair of shooters has been doing such a good job of forcing everybody away. So I think they've made the right choice there. Now, at this point, you just have to not give up lots of points early on. Force yourself in a position where you have to be a little bit overzealous with your attacks. You should be A-OK, execute, and I think they're in a great spot.
And for TZS, it feels like you've got to strike first, establish a lead, try and get that big initial push, put the pressure on Duck Motif, and now you force Duck Motif's hand into trying to just regain turf and get back into this game.
Well, that's the nice thing about this map is it's unique in a lot of ways. It's basically got a moat around it. There's lots of ability to shark, and for a short-range team like TZS, again, kind of their playground.
Could this be the last game? Duck Motif needs to take this one to win our Event 1 preseason week 1, or can TZS remain alive in the bracket and force a game 5? Both teams screwing towards the middle of the stage. 9, any surprises with these loadouts?
I mean, they had one last trick. I thought they did, but TZS has subbed back in their Tri-Slosher TRF. It is the Splattershot Jr. of Smork who is out right now. They have used all 5 of their members in 3 different ways. Hey, listen, it's a Tri-Slosher on this stage. We know it's strong. It's been strong for a lot of time, but I love, even after we've said there's no more cards left to play, they find one more and they find the first checkpoint.
And TZS, we talked about it, an opening start to this game. They've clearly established that here, Milana, and out comes the Tacticooler. They want to go for the quick knockout.
They are, but that killer whale is going to stop that push from happening. But you know, the Rainmaker is still in that corner. Duck Motif is in a good position to be able to move forward. They're going to use their specials. They're going to make sure that when they make it to that first checkpoint, they can continue that push.
And what a response from Duck Motif here, Zach. And just like that, they're at their first checkpoint
Well,
now.
Duck Motif being the Duck Hunter instead of the Hunted in this regard, as they took 3 members there, taking out TZS, coming through one after a time, creating these 1v3 situations, and Kai still holding on to the Rainmaker. They've got a path. They get forward all the way to 27, and they take out Kraken Mare. They wipe them as a result, and they have the opportunity to finish it.
And here it is, just a couple of more steps, almost there, but TZS able to get the splat. Now it's a fight near the goal here. Duck Motif just 10 points away from taking out TZS and claiming the title here for today. TZS, though, still, they have plenty of time. Pepe with that Trizuka just trying to provide a little bit more support and trying to pick up at somebody, but Pepe goes down now. And here's an opportunity for Duck Motif 9 to try and get the victory.
Yeah, you can see that Drift, I think, is just moving in that particular loop again. Now Chara waiting too. The members of TZS are starting to lose where Duck Motif is attacking from. They're just making it too difficult to know where the threat is. Now Red Shell firing up their Vapor should be able to close this out, and does, but again, now we're down to just 3 minutes. A lot of points they'll have to get. They're going to eventually end up losing the Tacticooler war as well, because again, the other side has the Snipe Rider 5H of Kaisa, which is so good at turfing from relative safety. You see now they're simply trying to figure out, firing different ways. Where's the attack coming from? But all this time you're not moving forward. You're making it that much easier for Duck Motif to find where you are. I think that's the 3rd wipeout we've seen.
And it's a wipeout, and Red Shell has the Zipcaster ready to go, so you know it's going to apply a lot of pressure here, Milana, on spawn for TZS. A very dangerous position for TZS.
And you know what? TZS is really deciding what to do. Do we drop? Do we try to stop this Rainmaker from moving any more forward? The Zipcaster is coming out, trying to camp that landing, and unfortunately not able to. Vapor at a loss as to what to do. Kraken Mare going down. This is Duck Motif's game.
And Zach, TZS doing a good job holding strong. They're just knocking on the door is Duck Motif, and they just have to get out of their own spawn as TZS and try and open up this game right now.
I know the MO of the Tri-Slosher is usually trade and be traded, but DRF is doing a good job of being mindful about when they jump down, because they can see when the Rainmaker rounds that corner. Speaking of corner, Pepe backed into one, somehow survived the missiles, is not going to survive the long-range shot of that pencil. Kai there on the Snipe Rider 5H, taking them down, has the Tacticooler online as well. Duck Motif with just over a minute and a half left, maybe some time to advance. They did lose 2, but they're at least going to provide a distraction.
It's a possible opening here for TZS. DRF at the top. Here comes a Trizuka out for Pepe. Picks up 2 here, 9, and this might be the opening that TZS needs.
I mean, this is going to be the best look I think they're going to get here. They need to take out Red Shell quickly, and no, that is a trade, but at this point you're starting to think we're going to need 1 or 2 more chances to get all the way down to 10. The opponent's probably not going to hand you a wipeout, but that is another one down. Can they move forward there? Keep an eye on the top of the screen for the specials. They would love to have one, but none of them are particularly close. Kraken Mare going to now move forward and try to find one. They actually do take out Chara here. There's an opportunity. It's going to need a few more, but I love that they're not giving up yet.
Duck Motif coolered up, and now they're just retreating, all congregating here in Milana. Duck Motif has just got to make sure they take out the Rainmaker. They do, and what a defensive response by them.
You know, Duck Motif, it's Duck Motif's game to lose, which means that they just have to play patiently. They have to just make sure that TZS has no small tricks up their pocket. And you see here, Drift holding on to that Rainmaker for as long as they possibly can, moving it kind of towards that right side and moving it into a place that's very difficult to take out of.
Yeah, under 30 seconds left here, Zach. At this point, you just want to make sure you're not giving any huge opportunities to TZS.
I did wonder when they were going to sort of put that Rainmaker into a position where it'd be very difficult for TZS to get forward, but Krakenmare may be creating an opening. They are going to have to get this Rainmaker shield pop. They have created 2 downs, though. Now 3. It's just going to be the Frozen left, and we have overtime to get through.
And now, just trailing by 34, here's an opportunity for TZS in overtime. Krakenmare got to stay alive. Here comes a little bit more pressure. They're backing up. They're down by them. Los himself, 2-on-1. Can Duck Motif close it out? We're still in overtime. Krakenmare waiting for some more teammates to provide support. You can be as patient as you need to right now. This is going to be your last opportunity. Will it be a game 5, or will Duck Motif close this out? They come from behind and get the splat, and Duck Motif closes out the day as your winners, going 3-1 over TZS.
Oh, there was just a sliver, guys. There was just a sliver of hope for TZS to take that one. The moment that all 3 went down and it was just Krakenmare, you saw the only option was to retreat. You have to retreat in that scenario. You can't swim forward, but when you have to move that far back, that means the opponent can restock and reshuffle on the defensive side. Again, if one of those fights goes a different way, that coin flip lands on your side as opposed to the opponent's side, they were so close to stealing that game. It would have been a steal, make no mistake about it, but tip of the cap and credit to Duck Motif.
Yeah, certainly, Milana. The longer an overtime seems to go on, it seems like the slimmer your chances are of winning that overtime.
And you know, it's not just about overtime. It's about the pressure that you have as the Rainmaker carrier. Your teammates are down. What do I do? Do I try to make the hero play and do I try to push it forward? Or do I move back and wait for my teammates to get back, which, by the way, is the right play. But, but you know, sometimes you're just like, maybe it is what you have to do. You just have to make the play because the clock is ticking and the opponents are coming back, and like, what do I do? It's just so much mental pressure.
Yeah, it really was. But Duck Motif doing a nice job of bouncing back after dropping the first game to TZS. Let's go ahead and check out the final bracket from a fun-filled Event 1, our preseason week 1. Duck Motif, after all that, they only dropped 2 games the entire day in the top 8, which is very impressive. So they get the 3-1 victory over TZS in the grand finals. And as we take a look at our remaining schedule, a whole lot more coming your way. That was just Event 1. Don't forget our North American League show, our next episode, September 26th. You can catch that Fridays at 10 a.m. And then as far as the league, we'll have event number 2 on Saturday, September 27th. And then regular season play begins on October 4th. But then don't forget, tomorrow, we've got a big run going down with our Splatoon 3 North American League Sunday Scrim. That'll be at 12 p.m. Pacific, all setting the stage for our North American League playoffs starting on December 13th and 14th. Well, crew, Zach, let's start with you. Final thoughts. A lot of action took place today, and we're just getting started for what should be a really fun couple of months.
You know, any tournament segment where we have multiple Game 5s, the final set doesn't have a sweep in it, I think we can consider ourselves lucky in that regard. And if this is any indication of what we have to see, with this just being a preseason week, we have one more preseason and then an entire suite of 8 regular season weeks. There's so much more Splatoon that I cannot wait to see more of.
And Nine, how about you?
I hope that those of you watching at home who have enjoyed today's show understand why this is so addicting, because we had teams with their own identities, their own thoughts on how Splatoon goes, and you can see what that looks like, how small changes like one player swapping in can completely change how a set goes. You've essentially got a 3-0 one way and then a 3-0 the other way because of that change. Again, so much to love about this game, and just wait, there are so many more great players who are going to show you even more as this league goes on.
And you know what? I have a lot of adrenaline right now, so I just need a second, right? That last match was off the hook.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see what I did? So I'm just really looking forward to seeing some of our top regular players come back into the league, see what they have to bring to the battlefield, and see how maybe some fresh faces will fare up against them.
Well, that's a wrap for Event 1 for myself, 9, Zach, big money, Czar on the spectator cam. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week. Don't forget, tomorrow, the Sunday Scrim. We've got a big run in Salmon Run, whether you're by yourself or with a team of 4. Come join us, have a lot of fun. We're just getting started on the Splatoon 3 North American League.